Hello everybody, welcome to the Stormkeep. Today we're going to be doing an extensive and thorough review of Battletome Lumineth Realm-lords, the new Battletome that came out, depending on when you're watching this, just a week or two ago. And this book has really captured our imagination on the Stormkeep server. It has ramped up the complexity for Lumineth Realm-lords as an army, but also I think it's upped the standard for what a Battletome should be in Age of Sigmar. It is a shame that it's coming out more than halfway into the 3-year edition cycle. Regardless, it is a very exciting book, and I'm very excited to talk about it. And joining me on the review today, I've got my good friend Eduardo.
Hi all. Greetings to everybody from Mexico, and I am very excited to talk about this book. And as Paul was saying, I hope that this is the path that Games Workshop will be following with the Battletomes. And I feel sorry for the earlier Battletomes.
Yes, well, that seems to always happen, doesn't it? The first few books that come out are kind of interesting at their time, but not really anything exceptional. And then after about a year and a half, they put out the really good stuff, and everybody loses their minds over how cool it is. And it's a shame that that's the case. I wish they would move to a 5-year cycle. I feel like that would give time for them to really develop things and let them land. You know, spend the first 2 years writing all the books, releasing all the books, and then 3 years to make improvements on them. But with a 3-year cycle, you just don't get that. So orcs are probably, like, I think I saw this on Rob's stream when he was reviewing the book. Like, imagine if you had to play orcs. Like, imagine orcs get a book at the end of the next edition, and you just have to play against Lumineth in this form for, like, 3 more years. Like, that's going to be so awful.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we're not here to talk about the other armies and the problems they're having in terms of design. We are here to talk about the Lumineth Battletome, and it is very, very exciting. So the first big thing they did with Lumineth, and this requires a lot of discussion because it's a very long ability. It's one ability, and it takes up a whole page in the book, and it's a lot to digest. Like, looking at this for the first time is going to turn people away from this army right away. Unless you really love the models or you know the level of complexity you're getting into, this page will immediately turn you off from this army.
Yeah, and for all the Lumineth players, I also advise that you explain the rules to your opponent. How does it work? And have like some actual guide, visual guide, some print and stuff, so you can give it to your opponent, so it is better for them to understand and no avoid those gotcha moments, because it seems very complicated when you read it at first.
Now we're gonna do our best here to simplify it and make it as easy to understand as possible. And to do that, we're just going to talk about how the system works. Then we'll talk about each rune, and then as we talk about each rune, we'll mention units that benefit from it. It is a complex system, but let's try to break it down. So the general overview is that at the start of every battle round, and this I believe is after priority is determined, so you know who's going first and going second, so you know if you want to choose an offensive or a defensive setup. At the start of each round, you use this ability, Depict Rune, and it gives your units a buff. And that buff lasts for the whole round. That's the basics of this system, right? It's a lot more nuanced than that, but that's the basic version of it. You get a buff and it lasts for the whole round.
For 2 units.
For usually 2 units, not always.
Yes, first time.
Well, there's also the Zenith rune, which affects all wizards. So, yeah, so the general version, you get a buff for the round, for some part of your army. Sometimes 2 units, sometimes more. And the buff varies depending on which rune you pick. There are 5 different runes that you can pick from. We'll get into which rune does what in a bit, but they are themed after the Lumineth units themselves. There's Strength for the Vanari, there's Mountain for the Alarith, there's Wind for the Hurakan, there's Zenith for the Scinari, and then there's River for the Ydrilan. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing these wrong, so feel free to make fun of me in the comments. When you pick the rune, you get a buff. And depending on which runes you've picked before, you can get an additional buff. So, for example, if you pick the Mountain rune, your units get a 5-up ward. But if you picked the River rune before you pick the Mountain rune, so, for example, if turn 1 you pick River and then turn 2 you pick Mountain, you still get the 5-up ward when you pick Mountain, but those units also get -1 to wound from enemies in melee, which is very useful. So you get more value picking a combination of runes generally than you do from slamming down the same one over and over and over. But you have to be careful about what to pick and when to pick it. So I think that's a good general overview.
In summary, this ability, you will pick the rune that you want to have the buff during that battle round. And you can also look at the previous runes that you have used, and that will enhance the effect. So you have to do 2 things. Pick the rune and get the effect for that battle round, and think what are you going to do in the next battle rounds? Which runes will benefit you? And think ahead.
And that's a lot to think about, especially when, if you're looking at the book, this is the first page of the rules. So you have no context for what the units do. You don't know what the synergies are. You don't know which runes are actually useful. So it's a lot to take in. So my advice is just ignore this system for now, right? It's come back to it at the end when we talked about all this stuff. We're going to break it down rune by rune to talk about what each rune does. But if you're just getting into it, then you can just put it aside for now. You got to take in the whole picture. Don't try to understand the army by starting with this battle trait. This is like the piece it's like the cherry on top, right? It's not the core fundamentals of it.
Exactly. So just get an overview of what are the buffs and debuffs that you can get, and then look at the rest of the book, and then you come back and start thinking of a pathway.
Okay. So let's talk about the Rune of Strength. This is primarily for Vanari units because there's a lot of synergy for units like Bladelords and things like that, but it can be used by every unit. That's an important thing to know about the runes, is that every rune does give you benefit to every unit. It's not locked by temple, so you can use a mountain rune on a wind unit, for example. The Vanari rune the Varanor rune on its own gives you +1 run and +1 charge. And I think this is probably the weakest of all the basic effects. +1 run and charge is not particularly strong in this army because there is a way that you can teleport units, but an 8-inch charge out of a teleport is just not reliable. You don't want to bank on that strategy, especially when redeploy is a thing. Mm-hmm. +1 run and charge is very situational because there's almost no way to get run and charge in this army, so it's not a particularly good thing. But what is good about the Rune of Strength is the enhanced version. The River, so if you pick River first and then you pick the Strength rune in a future turn, or you do some cheating with tech lists, which we'll talk about later, those units that are buffed by this get +1 run, +1 charge, and they get +1 to wound for combat attacks, which is a really important buff in this army.
Yeah, and I wish that there was, we will see it later, but the heroes usually give you like the enhanced effect, like considering that if you already had picked the rune of their temple, and we don't have a hero for River, so it would be nice to get a hero for the River to get this enhanced effect or something.
Yeah, the River rune is also extremely situational. We'll talk about it later, but I find using the River rune turn 1 can really set you up to either offensive or defensive plays, depending on what you need. So I like the first turn River. And there are also ways that you can use a different rune and then change it to a River rune with the Calligrave once per game, so that's another option. But +1 to wound is really big in this army because almost everything wounds on 4s. And especially if you face an army like Nurgle that has a spammable -1 to wound spell, this is brutal. So you need to eventually build for this +1 to wound in order to get any kind of damage done.
It's going to be rough against Nurgle, and this is the only way to overcome that -1 to wound, which is more and more prevalent.
Yeah, +1 to wound for most units in the book is something like a 33% damage boost, an average damage boost, because going from 4s to 3s is an increase of 33%. So that's really significant. That's better than getting +1 hit when you're on 3s already. This is a very important buff.
And it is only for combat attacks.
Only combat, yeah. There's no way to buff shooting in this book.
No.
And if you use the Wind rune before you use the Strength rune, you can get access to Retreat and Shoot or Retreat and Charge. Both of these are very useful abilities. I would normally say they're very useful. Like in most armies, these are really strong effects. But Lumineth have perhaps one of the best spells in the game called Elemental Push, which allows you to just move a unit 5 inches and you can move them out of combat. So that just basically gives you the ability to retreat and shoot or retreat and charge. It might not give you a full move, like if you're using Dawnriders, a 5-inch move isn't the same as getting a 14-inch move, but it's enough that you can charge back in and get your charge bonuses active, which is really what you care about most of the time. So Wind into Strength, not the best combo. Strength on its own, not the best rune. But River into Strength is very, very good.
If you bring in something that goes melee.
Yes. So Bladelords are, now we're going to talk about which units specifically synergize with this, because that's another layer on top of this ability, is that some units get bonuses depending on which runes are activated and what order they're activated in and how many you have activated. And we're going to start off simple, because the only unit that gets a direct benefit from having a Rune of Strength is the Bladelords. They get +1 rend for each time this rune is depicted on your sheet, which means if you go River into Strength, your Bladelords are +1 run, +1 charge, +1 wound, and +1 rend, which is a very, very strong combo.
And if you bring Lyrior, one more.
Yes. So let's talk about this other concept. there are some heroes. There are one hero for the Hurakan, one hero for the Alarith, and one hero for the Vanari. And they basically give those units an extra rune of a specific type. So Lyrior, in this case, gives Vanari units near him an additional strength rune for having just being near him, which the only unit that gets any benefit from it is the Bladelords. So Lyrior is basically a +1 rend aura for Bladelords. So if you bring Lyrior Bladelords and you do this river into wind or river into strength combo, you get +1 run, +1 charge, +1 wound, and +2 rend, which is now they're rend 3, which is very, very good.
Which is insane.
Now they're not the highest. They're not the highest damage unit, but that's very accurate.
Yeah, which is gonna be a recurring theme during this Battletome. You don't have very high damage. You can be very effective with your damage, very accurate, but you don't have very high damage.
Yes. It feels like you have to jump through hoops for the accuracy as well.
Yep.
Because most unit, like you have to do this river into strength combo to get +1 to wound. And there's no way to get +1 hit in this army except for all-out attack. So 1 unit per turn gets to all-out attack, and 2 units per turn, maybe 4, get +1 to wound in combat. So you're really capped on how accurate you can really get. And like the max damage is quite low for most of these units. If you compare it even to Nurgle, they'll have units that are 40, 60, 80 dice, and Lumineth cap out some units at 30 dice.
Yeah, and the accuracy here, it's good, but it's not that good because these guys already have crit mortals. So, and it is also a thing that we are going to see. It's good to have rend 3, but it is not as effective. And there's another way to get to crits on 5s, so it's a little bit redundant.
Yeah, but we'll get more into that as we go. Let's keep talking about the runes. So the next rune is the rune of the mountain, the Alethi, something like that.
Something.
How would you pronounce it?
Alethi.
Okay, we'll go with that. So this is, I think, the simplest rune. If you don't want to engage with the rune system, you can just use this rune over and over and over, because the basic version just gives you a very potent health buff. It gives you a ward 5 up on 2 different units. And the next time you use it, it's 4 units. And the next time, it's 6 units. So eventually, your whole army just has a 5-up ward with no dice required. It's very simple to use. It really helps offset the very low health values of Lumineth armies. They have lower health than Stormcast, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, an easy way to start, it could be like bringing the Calligrave and almost any list that you want. Mostly of the units are useful. And then go like Alethi, the mountain, and then use the Calligrave to get a river. So you get -1 to wound, and you can get very tanky.
Yeah.
So it's like an easy way to play. It might not be the most effective way, but sounds good. Stoneguard, we are going to see, are very good with this rune as well.
So let's talk, getting ahead of ourselves again. It's like the whole army kind of has to be talked about at the same time, right? And we're trying to distill it down to make it easier for you guys to understand. So let's talk about the enhanced version of this rune. So if you pick the rune, you get the 5-up ward. If you picked a strength rune before you pick the mountain rune, those units also get anti-charge +1 rend, which is cool because you're making your units tougher. This leans into that, right? Which is neat. So you could do a combo where you do River turn 1, Strength turn 2, Mountain turn 3. And that way you have anti-charge +1 rend, and you have 5-up ward as well. And if you have the River rune enhanced as well, if you pick the River rune before you did the Mountain rune, enemies in combat with you also have -1 to wound. So a very simple combo is, River into Strength into Mountain. That way on the 3rd turn, when you're fully engaged, you've got anti-charge, you've got -1 wound, and you've got a 5-up ward.
And here also the -1 to wound is for all enemies that are in combat. So even if they have shooting combat, they will be -1 to wound. Where if they are not in combat, you don't benefit for the -1 to wound.
Yes, that's another recurring theme in this book, is there's very few things that actually affect enemy shooting. Enemy shooting seems to just be at full power against Lumineth, and all you have to defend it is your save and your ward. Let's talk unit synergies. Obviously, the Mountain rune will synergize with the Mountain units. So Stoneguard, if you have at least 2 Mountain runes active on your scripture, they get a 3-up save characteristic, which is very strong because we'll talk about it when we get to the Stoneguard. But this book is all about stacking modifiers for effective health. And +1 save characteristic is almost the best modifier that you can get in this whole army. Spirit of the Mountain are a really cool unit with the Mountain runes because they get +1 attack for each Mountain rune you have. And for them, 1 attack equals 5 max damage. It is hitting on 4s, but it is wounding on 2s and with rend 2. So it's a reasonably accurate max 5 damage, and that's for each rune you have. So if you have 3 of these runes, that's +15 max, And that's for each Spirit of the Mountain. It's just a passive effect. It's not anything you need to activate. So the more stone stuff you bring, the stronger it gets, the more efficient it gets to buff it all. And you're giving everything a 5 aboard each time as well, which the stone stuff really likes.
Yeah.
And like Lyrior, sorry, go ahead.
And Avalenor does the same, but he has a different profile, so the damage of the weapon is 4, but it has more attacks, so it's similar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Avalenor scaling worse than the regular mountains seems weird to me. It feels like they should have the same scaling.
Yep, I agree.
But it's not a big difference. 1 max damage doesn't really make a big difference.
You know.
Avalenor does have a really cool ability, like Lyrior does for the Vanari. Units standing near Avalenor are treated as having 1 additional mountain rune. So that means Avalenor himself, he's standing near himself, he always has +1 attack. Any mountain spirits have +1 attack. Each mountain rune you give is an additional +1 on top of that. So it's not uncommon to see Avalenor and a mountain spirit both with +3 attacks on turn 2.
And Stoneguard, if you pick this rune once, and then you are near to Avalenor, they are on a 3-up save.
That's right, yep.
Which is also very good.
Looking at the Rune of the River, okay. Here we go. I'm going to try to pronounce this. Idriliki?
Idriliqui? I don't know.
See, there's no U after the Q, so I don't know if it's qui, but it's key. Idriliki. Yeah, okay. So the basic version of it is your units get a -2 charge aura for enemies within 12 inches. So that really overpowered Ossiarch Bone Reaper command trait that just made me want to pull my hair out every time I played against it, because they'll redeploy and you have -2 charge and it just feels awful. Turns out Lumineth can just do that anytime they want, and it's on 2 units and then 4 units and then 6 units. So it's very strong. The problem with the River Rune is there's basically no synergy for it.
Yep.
And the enhanced version is not very good either. If you have the Mountain Rune active when you use the River Rune, then you ignore modifiers on hit and wound, so -1 hit, -1 wound, which is nice, I guess.
Yeah, in some matches it could be good, no? Like we were talking about Nargle, and if you're ring shooting, you're gonna have to use this when you want to hit.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you just use River into strength, you get +1 to wound, which is like ignoring -1 to wound, right?
On melee, yes.
Yeah.
This would be on the shooting.
Oh, this works on shooting as well. Okay, that's something at least.
Yeah, this is good. This is the way to go around the -1 to wound.
Yeah, okay, I can see that on Sentinels. Then if you have a big block of 20 Sentinels, you go mountain into River. That's so bad for every other unit, but sometimes you need the Sentinels to just connect. Yeah, okay. Also ignores the -1 hit penalty from Lofted. It ignores the -1 hit penalty from Cover. It ignores the -1 hit penalty from Guardian Hero.
Counter shoot.
Counter shooting. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm starting to see it now. Yeah. If you have the Wind Rune when you activate the River Rune, then you can immediately make a 3-inch move, which can end in combat. And this sounds really good. In practice, it has not panned out to be as good as I thought it would be.
There are some cases which this can shift a lot of stuff. If the opponent is trying to charge you with another unit, you are in a combat situation, you can move your unit outside of 3 and then pin other units so they cannot move and go and grab the objectives and do some stuff. But yes, it could be a little bit niche, and the problem is that you have to plan for it, which is very hard. Yeah, it's very hard to do.
If it was any other rune combination, it would be simpler, but going wind into river is really tough. That's like a hard thing to get. So this is like a play you make if you have a Calligrave who can swap your previous rune to a wind rune, and then you can reactively use the river rune, which is fine. There's things you can do with that. You can push yourself out of combat, so you can rally and charge. But again, Lumineth can already do that with Elemental Push. This is like a no-dice version of that play. It can push you into combat, so enemies, like if you know your opponent is going first in the round, you can push a screen into them so they can't move or shoot or charge or anything. That can be useful.
It's useful, but it's hard to manage.
Yeah, really tough to manage this. You have to be exactly the right place at the right time with the right runes active, or have a Calligrave and then burn your once per game on this. It's very situational.
Yeah, it could be very swing. It could swing a game for sure, but you have to be like in the exact conditions for this to be useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this like if you never use this, this might win you a game out of 50, maybe out of 100. But it's a tool you have. Yeah. In terms of unit synergies, Ydriliki is not very useful. The only unit that has any kind of synergy with this rune is the Riverblades, and they have an ability that lets them teleport to a board edge. But if you have this rune active, and I think you also have to pick them with this rune as well, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think they have to be the target of this rune. Then
Yeah,
instead of setting up on a board edge, they can set up anywhere, like a Stormcast portal teleport. They can just go anywhere on the board, which again can be useful. I don't know how useful though. So overall, River Rune not very important.
Yeah. It's more situational. Also, this 3-inch move, if you really need to nail a very big charge with a slow unit, you could stack this with the spell and with the other something stuff, so it could work as well. But yeah, it's more complicated to have.
Yeah, I like what the River Rune builds into later, right? If you're going River into Mountain for defense or River into Strength for offense, I like that the River Rune is very, I mean, it looks like this too. It's got the symbol, right? It diverges to two different paths. And I quite like that. I like that it gives you an offense and a defense path. So this is usually, if I use the River Rune, turn one play, and then that way I'm set up to use offense or defense later.
Yep. Yeah, and the basic effect is very good as well. So it can also mess up a lot of people's plans if you deploy correctly.
Very good against deep strike armies, for sure.
Yep.
Also very useful with wind spirits because they get to covering fire, move d6+2 usually, and then -2 charge. Like they're just not getting charged.
No, they're not going to charge them.
All right, let's talk about Oriali, Rune of the Wind. If there's any elves, please let us know how to pronounce these.
Oreali. In Spanish, it would be like Oreali.
Yeah.
I don't know if it should be pronounced more like in a Hispanic language or.
I don't know. They don't look very Hispanic to me.
No, but they look like Latin or something, so it might be a little bit more like that. But no idea.
Oh, now I want to paint up like a whole Mexican-themed Lumineth army. Replace the bull helmets with sombreros. Okay, so the Rune of the Wind gives 2 units -1 hit from enemies that are in combat with them. It's more specifically, enemies have -1 hit while you're in combat with them. It's a pretty niche application. We'll talk about some ways to use that. But basically, those units are -1 hit from enemies. And that's pretty good, because that can stack with your other defensive abilities like 5 aboard, because the Mountain Rune's not the only way to get a 5 aboard. It can stack with abilities that increase your save characteristics. So let's say you have 2 Mountain Runes, so your Stoneguard are on a 3+ save, then you give them -1 hit, which is pretty decent. And for most armies, giving them -1 hit is probably better. When you don't count for commands, -1 hit's probably better than -1 wound, because most armies are hitting on 4s as opposed to 3s, right? More armies wound on 3s and 2s than there are armies that wound on 4s. So just in terms of pure value, -1 hit is better. But when you consider that all-out attack exists and all-out attack can basically negate this, it's fine. It's okay.
Okay, yeah. I wish that it was against shooting as well. This would be like the only way to mitigate a little bit of that, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The enhanced version of the Rune of the Wind, if you have a Strength Rune active when you use the Wind Rune, the units also get +4 move. And this I really, really, really like. I really like having an on-demand... This used to be a spell called Speed of Hish, and it would sometimes affect 1 unit, sometimes affect 2 units. Now it's guaranteed to affect minimum 2 units, sometimes 4. +4 move on demand is really powerful in this army, especially when you stack it with the +2 move command trait from Scourge of Ghyran. Suddenly, all of your infantry is moving +6 inches. It's really strong.
Yeah, it's very good, and it is also dealing with one of the weaknesses of this army, which was like the infantry units. They were having rough times getting where they wanted to go, and now we see that there's a lot of ways to push those units when you need. And it's very good. It is very good.
The mountain synergy, not so great. +5 control. So if you go mountain into wind, you get +5 control. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Control sucks. There's not really a reason to build into it. I think this might be the only control buff in the whole book too. Like it's really not a playstyle that's encouraged. They phoned this one in, I think.
Yeah. Fortunately.
Yeah. So unit synergies. Quite a few units use the Rune of the Wind, as you would expect. It's an elemental thing, like the Mountain Rune. The Windchargers, they get +6 inch range while you have 2 or more Wind Runes, going from 12 to 18, which fixes one of the main problems that this unit has always had, was being 12-inch range. And now, instead of doing like a weird move after shooting thing that's been put on the Wind Spirits, Windchargers can just be 18-inch range, so they can shoot you from long strike distance, but then they also get to move 14 inches on top of that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's good that they changed this because you could build again that annoying list, which was like you could go win, tech list and something, and then move like 12 inches back after shooting from 18 inches. So now you can do that, but only with the wind spirits, which are not very high damage.
No, wind spirits are definitely a good utility unit, but in terms of damage output, it's Windchargers all the way.
Yep.
Now the wind spirits do get to move d6 inches, which is increased by +2 for each wind. And I think that's really cool because that's like a super redeploy. One of the problems with the redeploy is when it rolls low, right? When you roll like a 4, 5, or 6 on redeploy, you feel great. But when you roll a 1 or 2, it's like, oh, I spent a command point. This doesn't cost a command point, unless you're using covering fire, then it does. But it moves d6 +2, +4. If you consider just a minimum 3-inch move off this, that's already pretty good. But the fact that it usually gives you a 5-inch or 6-inch move, that makes it even better. It's so hard to charge into a wind spirit. My God.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you have Severed, it comes like having 1 additional.
Yeah.
So you could go very easy d6 +4, which is a lot. You could be 10 inches away and they are never going to charge you.
Now, the problem I have with that is that neither Severeth nor Windchargers are particularly good damage output. Windchargers have an issue where Sentinels just do more damage, and Severeth is a lot of points. He's very expensive for max 12 damage. So I don't find myself wanting to do that playstyle very often, even though it would be really interesting to move a wind spirit that far is very tempting. But it's just one spirit, right? It's not a spammable effect, unfortunately.
Yeah, you spend a little bit more, like 300 points more, and you bring Teclis. You give it an extra rune.
The extra rune, that does feel better. And forecast.
And a lot of other stuff that he does.
Yeah, Severeth is... I think he's just overpriced a bit. We'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
The last rune, Thalari, Rune of the Zenith. So this kind of is like the capstone to gameplay. If you are using the rune system, let's say correctly, and big air quotes there, correctly, because there's no wrong way to use the rune system, but let's say this rewards you for using it in a particular way. The basic version gives all of your wizards everywhere +2 casting. This is not a rune that picks 2 units, all of your wizards. So if you bring a list with 5 or 6 wizards, which I'm pretty sure is possible. Is there a lieutenant wizard? If you bring at least 5 wizards.
No.
If you bring 5 wizards, they can all get +2 casting for the turn, which is really, really good. This also works in the enemy turn for magical intervention, and it stacks with everything else. So you can very easily get +4 casting on a wizard in this army. And the enhanced version is quite different. Instead of caring about which one rune you picked before, if you have 4 different runes picked, and that includes the Rune of the Zenith. So if you have like River into Strength, into Mountain, into Zenith, then the enhanced version of this activates, giving all of your units +4 move and critical hits on 5s instead of 6s.
Yeah, and you also have to pick, right? Oh no, there's all the units.
Yeah, all units, everything in your army.
All units.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So everything gets +2 cast, everything gets +4 move, and everything gets 5 up crits.
Yeah, the problem is that it has to be on round 4, maybe 3. So it's rough.
That's definitely the problem. But this is a defensive army. It does want to preserve resources as long as possible. Unfortunately, there's no recursion whatsoever. You can't revive any units that have been slain, except for the Light of Eltharion once per game. And you have to contest objectives. And to contest objectives, you usually have to give up units to do that, right? Because you put a unit on there, your opponent kills it, then you kill them, and it kind of goes back and forth like that.
That's weird, and you don't have chaff to send and play the game for a couple of turns, so you have to bring your army into the fight. So I don't think it's going to be that impactful. We're going to talk later, but Teclis could speed up this into round 3. But if you bring Teclis, I don't know how many units will benefit from the crits on 5s, so it's a little bit weird.
Yeah, I view it as +4 move, which is really good, which is my favorite part of the Wind Rune is +4 move. Mm-hmm. So getting that army wide is really good.
Yeah, I could swing stuff in the end late game, which you have very, very small units. You could go and buff a unit to go move like 25 inches or something.
Mm-hmm. And double the amount of crits you get, right? Dawnriders with double the criticals is really good. Bladelords with double criticals is good. It's not bad. It's a cool power spike that you can build into. I also just view it as if you want to ignore the rune system and you just want +2 casting on all your wizards. Like we do have a list later in this video that is just using this rune every single turn to get +2 cast.
Yeah, I see it. I see it as well. So you could if you really need your spells to go off, you could go into this.
Yeah.
And I don't think you build for this, except from that list. And it's more like, okay, this is round 4, I have picked different runes, and this will get me to that objective to swing the game. And you can swing for this. Or if I manage to kill that stuff with my 3 Dawnriders that are left there, then you go for this.
Yeah, it's situational, but it's there.
Yeah. I don't think it's a strategy that you follow, because you're going to have to... It's not that easy to pick different runes each round.
Yeah, sometimes you want to slam mountain into mountain, sometimes strength into strength. Yeah. And this is another reason to take the Calligrave, is because he can, fix your runes. So if you ever do double up on runes round 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, you can still activate the Zenith rune with the Calligrave.
You could swap one.
And let's talk about the Shrine Luminor. If you played Lumineth before this book, this does basically the same thing. I don't think there's actually any change. You garrison, you put a hero inside. It doesn't have to be a wizard, but it's useful to be a wizard because while this thing is garrisoned, you can reroll 1 casting roll from a nearby wizard. So if you're inside, you're always in range of it, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, but there is also a case to be made to bring the new Lord Regent inside of this.
Oh, yes.
Increase the range of the...
I really like the Lord Regent inside of this in particular.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
So it's a big piece of terrain. It moves around. It prevents the hero from being attacked, but everything else still can target the hero. So, for example, if you're playing against a unit that has charge mortal wounds or a spell that can target you, that can still hit the hero inside. It can specify them. The only thing that this blocks is attacks, so shooting and combat.
Yeah, and the reroll for the spell. Fun thing is that the thing can run as well. It cannot charge, but it can run.
Yeah. It can go surprisingly fast.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the Warscrolls. The Stormkeep uses a different ranking system than maybe what you've seen on other channels, but we like it and we're going to keep using it. So we rank units from S all the way down to F tier, and S tier unit is something that we think is so good that it needs to be in every list. Most lists will start with this unit. There's good reason they start with this unit. The unit is very powerful. It might even be too powerful, where maybe it's causing a problem for internal balance reasons. An example of a unit like this might be Rotigus from Nurgle, or Longstrikes from Stormcast. They might be considered an S tier unit, or Knight Relictor. I think Knight Relictor is the best example. Yeah. Like every Stormcast list needs a Knight Relictor. There's very little debate about that.
Very good. It feels so rough when you are missing 10 points and you have to swap him.
Oh, it's the worst.
Yeah.
A-tier units are strong, versatile, efficient, impactful. The bulk of your army list will probably be made up of A-tier units, or maybe they're like the first units you think about when list building. They are very strong. Some of them could arguably even be S tier, but this is, for us, this is like the top tier before it becomes a problem, right? We don't think any unit in this, and this is necessarily an issue for internal balance reasons.
Yeah, it should be, all books should have only A and B units.
Ideally, yes. Most books should be like a mix of A and B and then some C tier. So B tier units are not as good as A tier units for one reason or another. Maybe they're just not as efficient. Maybe they are just a little bit more situational, but they're still good units, right? They're not a bad unit by any means. C tier units are still viable in competitive games. They're just much more niche. They have a very specific purpose. That purpose could be not very useful, but it could be exactly what you need for your list. It could be an issue of points, like maybe this unit just needs a little bit of a point cut, and then it can be counted as like a B or even an A tier unit. But C tier units...
make them work, or you have to build towards them to make them work.
Yeah, they're more of a build around. That could be the case. There's a bunch of different reasons we could put a unit in C tier, but we do consider C tier units to be viable in competitive matches. D tier is the cutoff, though. Anything in D tier we think is significantly flawed in such a way. Usually points are the issue, but sometimes it's rules, sometimes it's the meta that we're currently in. A D tier unit we think is not viable in competitive games, or at least if something changes with that unit or around that unit, it could move into Absolutely. Yeah, we've seen D tier units climb out of D and shoot all the way up to A or even S because they got a 20 or 30 point bump. Right? Sometimes it's just there's another unit in the army that does something basically the same thing, but they're 10 or 20 points cheaper, and it's like, well, okay, why use this unit? That happens in Stormcast all the time.
Yeah. And
F tier is a sad state. It is just a bad unit. No amount of point changes really will make it playable. It will become playable as a result of point changes if that becomes a spammable unit. If it just like, oh, you have so many of them that it changes the core identity of the unit. It's not the unit anymore. It's just a blank war scroll with stats. That's what an F tier unit is. Just terrible. Bad design, needs a remake.
It just is important to recognize to Games Workshop that we'll see less and less F-tier units with the Battle Scrolls, I think.
Yes, they have been doing a pretty good job of designing less F tier units. Everything, even if it's D tier, will have a niche, even if it's not a good niche or maybe it's an overcosted unit. But they have been really good at reducing the number of F tier units. We had a lot more of these in 3rd edition. Well, we need to talk units, and the first most basic unit, everything we can judge off of, will be the Vanari Wardens. 10 models for 120 points. You can use them as a reinforced hammer. You can use them as a cheap screen that just goes to take objectives. They have crit mortals. They have good volume damage with 21 attacks for a regular unit or 41 reinforced. They are the cheapest screen you can get. I think they might even be the cheapest unit in general. Like, I don't think anything else is 120 or lower. It's a very expensive army. And, sorry, go on.
This is the cheapest alongside with the Ballista.
Yes, that's right. Ballista is also 120. But I forget about the Ballista, and there's a reason.
Yeah.
They do ignore charge +1 damage, which is great. They are great into cavalry type units. They can also deal very significant damage if they're reinforced and using the Lord Regent's Wall of Blades ability. Now, we'll talk about the Lord Regent in a sec, but I find that using it defensively is tougher than using it offensively because of the unique placements on it. But it's a lot of mortal wounds. It's potentially 20 mortal wounds. You roll 20 dice, and on a 5-up, each one's a mortal. That's really good. Another thing that's really cool about the Wardens is that they are health 1, so they never waste any rally points. Have you ever had a time where you roll rally, and then it's like, oh, okay, my units aren't wounded, but I didn't roll enough to actually revive a model? That's never an issue with Wardens. You always get the full value out of your rally. And
this is a very versatile unit because you can build to make them tanky, or you can just bring them up for 120 points to be a screen, and they will bring utility all the time.
And I like that they're Vanari, which gives them some unique utility you don't get with the other screens, like the Riverblades, for example. One of the things you can do with Wardens that you can't do with Riverblades is activate the Wind Rune near Lyrior and give them +4 move on demand. Right, so because Lyrior makes them count as always having a strength rune, we'll talk about Lyrior in a bit, but that's an additional thing I really wanted to mention. Downside, so what stops this unit from being S tier? It has good damage, it has the best keyword, which is Vanari. It's infantry, so it benefits from a lot of buffs. It has good defenses, it has a unique defensive ability that you can stack with other things. So what keeps it from being S tier? I think it's the fact that it just doesn't have any rend unless an enemy charged. So although crit mortals are nice, unless you have 2 or even 3 units reinforced attacking all at the same time, 41 max damage is just not going to do enough crit mortals. That's, I think, like 6 or 7 crit mortals on average, which is not enough. And then everything else just bounces off the enemy.
Yeah, and the other problem with that is that it has a very big footprint. So if the opponent is smart, it won't charge you like straight in the middle. So you can charge on a side, and this will bring a lot of the guys not being able to hit you. So it will reduce the output as well.
Yes, the large footprint is definitely an issue with this unit and a few other units in this army. Taking up the amount of space that it does is rough. And when you bring multiples of these units, you're taking up so much board space. You're always going to give your opponent a good opportunity to attack you where you are weakest. You are creating your own weak points by bringing too many Wardens. Another big issue this unit has, and a lot of units in this army have, is that many armies can just disable weapon abilities outright. So no crit mortals means this unit does no damage. 41 max damage without those crit mortals and no rend, that's a useless unit that is not going to do much. So overall, I think they're very strong. They have a lot of different ways that you can use them, which I really like. But I don't think they're an S tier unit. I think they are just A tier.
Yeah, they're okay. There is a weird unit in which you feel like you shouldn't charge with it. So it's sometimes weird, that choice. If you bring the Lord Regent, I think it's a good way to charge with it.
Yeah, well, let's just talk about him right away. He is the new hero that was added with this book. It's the only new model. And I was very close to putting him in S tier. I really, really like him. I think he's a fantastic new hero. And he's very subtle in how impactful he is. But when you start to consider how much he actually changes the game, it is a big, big deal.
He's the cheapest unit, by the way.
Yes, he is the single cheapest unit in the army. Maybe, I think I would play him even at like 140. Like, he's really, really good.
Yeah,
so what does he do? Well, the main thing he does is he gives you 3 more rally dice whenever you use rally. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, right? Going from 6 to 9 dice, and only half of them on average are gonna do that. Okay, so I'm gonna heal 1.5 extra wounds on rounding down 1 extra wound every time I rally. That doesn't seem worth it. But that's a very important thing in Lumineth, because this army has no recursion, tons of effective health modifiers, and this army also has access to a spell that lets you push out of combat before using rally. So even if you're stuck in combat, if your unit gets, cut down to maybe 2 models remaining, just every turn for the rest of the game, you're rallying on 9 dice and getting more guys back, right? And the rally on 9 dice is reliable enough to bring back Dawnriders, Windchargers, these other 3 health models. Those can come back reliably as well. Normally on a 6 dice, you wouldn't expect it to, right? I think it's only like 67% chance of resurrecting a single model. Now it's like, I didn't actually do the math, but it's a lot more, right? With 9 dice, you're not guaranteed, but you're very likely to get at least one model back.
Yeah, I just wish that we had musicians.
Yes, that I've noticed that through all the Warscrolls. I'm like, oh wait, this unit doesn't have a musician? This, like, not a single unit? So the Vanari just like fight in silence. This whole army just fights super quiet.
Yeah, they should be ninjas.
Yeah, and so why is this rally useful? Well, you can do it while you're in combat, basically, because there's a hero that lets you do it while you're in combat, but there's also a spell that pushes you out of combat. But one of the real problems that Lumineth have is dealing with ranged power. Doing damage when you're not, or taking damage when you're not being able to do damage back, or just taking damage from range in general is really tough for Lumineth, because the only defense you really get is all-out defense, ward 5 up, which is not enough because the health values in this army are quite low. Sentinels, for example, reinforced are only 20 health on a 5-up save. So even if you have all-out defense, even if you have a 5-up board, you're going to lose a lot of them to a long strike volley or anything, really. Even just a catapult might do 12, 14 damage to you. And then...
Oh, yeah. I took you're 19 damage from an Iron God Blaster one time.
Yeah, and or like
just because I had the spell for ignoring one.
Yeah, without this guy, you lose the game against shooting. I think that's the best way I can summarize. It's not that hyperbolic, it's not that extreme, but this guy makes the shooting matchup so much better because he generally won't be shot because he'll either be guarded hero or he'll be inside the garrison. So he's just sitting there the whole time rallying back your army. Now, Lumineth are not so fragile that they'll get wiped out by single attacks. They'll usually get cut down to about 25 to 30% of their starting value. But the thing is, those units no longer do enough damage to actually do anything meaningful, and this is a low damage army to begin with, so losing something like 3/4 of your damage output is a big deal. The faster you rally back, the more meaningful it is. Like, your damage output really depends on rally. And then in terms of defense, as you heal more, you have more health that can benefit from the effective health bonuses that you have. So imagine a unit of wardens. Let's say it's just 10 wardens, right? They get hit by something and they lose 8 models. They're down to 2. Now, the next time your opponent attacks, does it matter if you have a 5-up board? Does it matter if you have -1 hit? Does it matter if you have +1 save? None of these things matter because all it takes is 2 more dice to kill you. But let's say you rally back up to 4 models or 5 models. Okay, well, all of a sudden, this stuff might matter, right? If they did 8 the first time, maybe that was on the higher end of what the unit could do. Probably not. They'll probably die again. But what if you rally from 2 to 8 models, right? Well, all of a sudden, well, you only did 8 the first time. Maybe this time you won't be so lucky. So it's like a tiny little advantage that keeps adding up throughout the game. After you use rally twice, it's like you've used it 3 times with the Lord Regent. And remember, rally is a command you can do in both players' hero phases. I hope I've explained why this guy is so good and why healing is so important.
It synergizes very well with all the units. Because the ones that are 1 wound apiece, as you said, the rally is very effective. The ones that are 3 wounds apiece with plus 3 dice can mean that you can bring reliably 1 or maybe 2. And it rallies very good with the monsters. And it is also, there are a lot of ways to allow you to rally even if you're in combat or if you were in combat. You can get outside of the spell with the spell. You have the other guy that allows you to rally in combat, and you have the other combination that we were talking about that you can move 3 outside of combat. So there are 3 different ways in which you can use this guy, and that makes him very valuable.
Yes. Well, let's add a 4th way. The 4th way is that he also turns wardens into one of the best hammers in the book. Because with his Wall of Blades ability, the wardens, especially on the charge, where it's very easy to position properly, do a buttload of mortal wounds before any dice are rolled. And when you add that to their crit mortal, suddenly you're doing enough to wipe out most units in the game. It's the best offensive buff in the Battletome, and it's only for wardens, and it comes from a guy who you're going to be bringing anyway because you want the defensive power of his rally bonus.
Yeah, it's very good. Charging with the wardens with this guy feels very good.
And if your opponent isn't super careful when they charge into your wardens, sometimes you can just do 5 mortal wounds before combat even starts, which is maybe enough to kill a model or 2.
Or even counter-charging with them.
Yeah, or even counter-charging. Yeah, it opens up a lot of plays, and I'm very surprised this guy is only 110 points. He is Very, very good.
Don't say anything.
I would call him like an A+ tier unit. He's very close to being S. Yeah. We did build a couple lists that don't include him, but every time I build a list, I'm like, man, how am I going to deal with shooting? I just need to put the Regent in here.
Yeah, he's very good.
Let's talk about the Bladelords. So compare them to Wardens. Obviously, Wardens are cheaper. You get the same amount of health per squad, so 20 health reinforced. 150 for Bladelords, 120 for Wardens. Wardens get to ignore charge +1 damage. Bladelords get a 5-up ward if they're near a Scinari unit. So similar defensive ability. The 5-up ward isn't unique. You can get it from other sources, whereas the ignoring charge +1 damage is unique, but not all units have that, so it might not matter. Where Bladelords excel, I think, is the very specific play pattern of going river into strength and then having Lyrior on the battlefield. Because each strength rune that you get increases the rend of all Bladelord units everywhere on the battlefield by 1 for the rest of the game. So if you're going river strength with Lyrior, that's +3 rend. You're a rend 4 unit. And that's also giving you +1 to wound on all of these units. And that kind of scaling doesn't happen with every other unit. Wardens don't get stronger as you activate more strength runes, right? Wardens probably are not going to get all-out attack because you should be doing enough damage with the crit mortals alone and with that. Bladelords scale extremely well with all-out attack. Like, this is one of the main units. This, and I would say Dawnriders, are the units you want to use all-out attack on. They scale very well with +1 hit, +1 wound, better than other units scale because their rend keeps getting higher and higher. And now there is a point where rend stops mattering. If you're rend 4 and you're attacking a 4-up save, it doesn't matter. Getting more rend doesn't help you at all, right? So there is a limit on this. But Bladelords are a unit that continuously gets stronger throughout the game, which I really, really like. Now, the problem is that they have lower max damage. They're only 31 max as opposed to 41 max on the Wardens, and that's significant, right? That's a 33% drop in damage output with the same accuracy, basically.
The rune that ignores negative modifiers, it's only to hit and wound, right? Oh yeah, no, forget it.
All right, I'm still getting over a cold, so I have a bit of a tickle.
That's okay.
Yeah, so the lower max damage really you start to feel it because this is a low damage army to begin with, and bringing a lower damage unit when you don't have to, you really do start to feel it. But they have enough in terms of defensive bonuses that I quite like them. I would say they're on the lower end of A tier, whereas Wardens are probably in the middle of A tier, but they're all basically as good as each other. Like, I don't think a list with Bladelords is any worse than a list with Wardens, and you would mix and match them. You would probably bring Wardens and Bladelords in the same list.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. They will combine very good with Wardens, because these guys will be your 3-up save killers, and the Wardens can be used as a tank unit or a screen. So they synergize pretty decent together. These ones are lower footprint, the other ones are higher footprint if you need to screen.
I also do like the 5-up ward without having to use the Mountain Rune, without having to use the Realm Shield spell. I like having access to the 5-up ward because there's no dice roll required. You just have to stand near a Scinari unit. And spoilers, there's a lot of good Scinari units in this book, so it's very easy to get that buff going.
All of them are good, by the way.
They're all useful.
Yeah.
Good is a stretch, but they're all useful.
Let's leave it at useful.
Bladelords suffer less from armies that can disable weapon abilities. They're only relying on crit mortals. The rend doesn't rely on, like, you can't turn off the rend, right? So even if crit mortals are shut off, this unit is still rend 3, rend 4, and these guys, they're cutting down those high save units easily.
Yeah. Even if they go on 2s and 3s, they will be decent.
Yeah, they go quite hard when they get up to 2s and 3s. +1 to wound goes really, really well on this unit. And then that segues nicely into talking about Lyrior, the wizard. Sorry, I'm going to start that over. And that segues nicely into talking about Lyrior, our surprise hit of the book. This guy has been basically worthless for every edition that he's been in the game. And suddenly he's amazing. I really like what they did with his design. Do you want to break down his Warscroll? I need to get a drink.
Yeah, sure. So he can bring any Lumineth, which is very good, and also a Lumineth Paragon, which will be the new Lord Regent or Eltharion, which is very good. He's very fast. He can move 14 inches, and in melee he has decent damage. It gets crit mortals and +1 damage on the charge, and it has anti-demon in one of the blades, which is more flavorful than impactful. But he's not bad in combat. He's not bad in combat, especially if he charges. If the Vanari units are nearby and you pick them for the rune, they can get the enhanced effect as if you had the strength rune. So this is the guy that allows you, for example, if you pick the mountain, you get the 5 upwards 8, and if they are near of him, they will also get the anti-charge +1 rend. Or if you pick the wind, which gives you -1 to hit, it will also be enhanced by strength for that unit, and it will give them 4 inches to their movement. Also, each Vanari unit that is in range of him will be counted as having +1 strength. So if this guy is close to the Bladelords, they will get extra rend just like that, even if you didn't pick the rune. And if you pick 1 strength rune during the battle, they will go up to rend 3. So that's pretty decent buff. And here it has a spell, which is Focused Fury, which gives him strike first for the turn, only for the turn. And this could be very impactful. We are going to discuss later as a faction. It's the old rule for Lumineth, which was that you can pick 2 units to fight. And we are not sure, but he might be able to pull the unit without strike first if there is no other strike firsts in the battle to fight after him. So it could be. We are still waiting for the fact. But if this is the case, this guy is very good. You put him on a strike first, and you bring another unit with him, and he will fight with 2. And then you pick, if it is your turn, you will pick another 2 to fight. So you will be fighting with 4. If this is the case, a big if there. And it's very good that he can bring any unit, because he can bring exotic things like Stoneguard and Wind Spirits, or even River Sentinels, which are sometimes hard to put inside of the lists. So it's very good that this guy is good now, because it helps you build lists. It was very hard to build lists in Lumineth, and this guy is helping a lot. This guy and Altharion, being able to bring any unit, and now the tech list is better as well, it really releases some weight from making lists. It was very, very rough.
Yeah, I really like him. I like that he's not just buffing the Bladelords, although that is his best feature. I think if you bring him 2 units of Bladelords, that's a good use of 850 points. It doesn't feel like it because it's only 62 max damage, but it is a high impact core of your army that you then build around the rest of that. So then you start adding in like Sentinels and like Scinari for magic support, and that is just a good core. The
consort is a little bit fragile. It's only 7 health on a 3-up save, and he's a little bit too expensive. It feels like you need to bring 2 units of Bladelords to justify the 250 points on him. And he's not infantry, so he cannot use the guarded hero ability to avoid being shot. But he can also go into obscuring pretty easily to avoid this. So overall, I think he's on the upper side of A tier. You're going to see him in many lists.
Yeah, he works with Bladelords, he works with Sentinels, he works with Wardens, he works with Dawnriders, which we're going to talk about soon. Every unit that, like all the best units in the book, synergize with him. And he's also a wizard, which is great because he can do things like cast Realm Shield and then move up with all these units. So you can lay down Twin Stones with another wizard and then power up the Twin Stones, play defensively for a turn, keep your 5-up ward by being near the Scinari. And then in the next turn, when you need to move out and be aggressive, he moves out with them and he keeps the Realm Shield on them.
And also, his fighting profile is not that bad. He can wipe a screen. I have done it with him. So you can charge with him and another unit, and he's going for the strike first. So even if it doesn't work like that, you can fight with him, erase the screen, and then pile in with your unit, your Dawnriders or something, and hit something in the back. So that is also a nice utility that you can get from him.
Yeah, he's just good all around. I think he could come down about 20 points. He really does feel overcosted, but he is high impact. So even though he does feel overcosted, I still really like him. Yeah,
but it's a problem for the whole book. Because when you start building the list, you see the impact that this point cost has on the army. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna bring a lot of stuff, and it's mostly because of the heroes are a little too expensive. Internally, it looks decent for what he does, but when you look externally in the balance, he feels a little bit too expensive, which is a similar case for most of our units.
Yeah, I think he's something like a Bastion type character. Bastion, I think, started this edition at 270, and that was way too much. This guy also feels like he's too much, but he's not. Like, what he does isn't going to change if he's 20 points cheaper, he does the same thing. It just makes the list he's in a little bit smoother. Sorry, one sec. One last thing I want to say about Lyrior is he really, if your opponent doesn't understand just what he does, and you can't explain everything to your opponent, right? Like, there's a limit to how much you can talk.
Yeah.
And one thing he does is he gives you, like, neat little tricks. And my favorite one is activating the Wind Rune to get +4 moves. So a lot of opponents will do things like just be outside the range of your Sentinels, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm activating Wind Rune. I get +4 move on the Sentinels. Now I'm in your range again. And that works on all the units, right? Wardens all of a sudden can be a 10-inch move or 12-inch with the command trait. Even the Lord Regent can get the +4 move and be a sneaky little boy.
Yeah, the movement on this army can scale pretty hard. Opponents must respect the amount of movement that you can get with every unit, with any unit, because there are a lot of ways, and they can combine with each other with the spell and with the rune and all of this stuff, and suddenly your infantry units can be moving 17 or 19 inches.
That's pretty nuts.
Yep.
Well, speaking of moving a lot, let's talk about Vanari Dawnriders. So they are the main cavalry hammer in this army, and they are good. I think even though they are strictly worse, almost strictly worse than they were in the previous book, they lost their 3-up save, they're a 4-up save now, but they gained a lot by being a lot cheaper, because since they no longer have a 3-up save, their damage can now be higher. And because they don't have a 3-up save anymore, they can be a lot cheaper. So if this unit was still 3-up save and 230 points, it would be unplayable. Ironically, making it stronger would make it unplayable. But because it's cheaper and it's at a much more reasonable 180, the fact that you have a fast cavalry hammer, even if it's on a 4-up save like the rest of the army, that doesn't matter, right? Because you can still build defensively for it. You can give it no criticals from the Enlightener. You can give it Beacon of Hish, so it's only hit on 4s. You can give it a 5-up ward. You can give it -1 hit or -1 wound in combat. Like, there's so many ways to still make this a defensive unit that you can leverage as 30 health. But the main reason you're using this unit, of course, is the damage, right? The speed and the damage. It moves 14 inches, which is extremely good in this army, because that can still be buffed up by 4 inches from the Wind Rune, for example, to be 18 inches. And it has, I think, the best or the second best damage in the whole book. Reinforced unit does 42 max without even considering the horses, because they're kind of like a bonus. Just the riders do 42 max with Ren 2 and Crit Mortal, which is immediately better than everything else we've talked about so far.
Yeah, the Ren 2 is very good because they have a very fast unit, and they are usually going to be charging, and you can also go into the rune that we were discussing, so they can retreat and charge. So it's very good. They also have the Crit Mortals, would help them against high armor saves, which was a thing that Lumineth struggled a little bit against. Again, it's still the point cost. It's still good internally. I still feel that it's a little bit high externally, and well, it's also going to be determined how good is the book because of that. And it's good. You can play them reinforced or not reinforced. I think there's cases to be made for both. And as Paul was saying, you can also just pin a guy and buff these guys up to the sky with defensive buffs and pin the opponent. I think that is a decent strategy that you can do. And you can also push them out of combat, rally them, and then charge back in. So it's very good. And they can also be used as a widescreen in a pinch, as we used to do in 3rd edition with them, which was like their only role. Yeah,
they just were countered so because they were so expensive in 3rd edition. You had to dedicate so many points to make them work that when they got countered, it was just like a crippling blow to the whole game. But now if they get stuck in combat, they can push themselves out, which is awesome, and they're cheaper, so it doesn't really matter. Even if you lose this unit, 360 points on a reinforced unit, it's not the end of the game if it dies. Whereas before, it was like a 600-point unit because you had to bring the Lord Regent as well.
So a point that we made here is that if they are stuck in combat and you have no way to get them out, they will do nothing. The damage scales down super badly.
Yeah, like if an enemy charges you, or you're out of range for elemental push or something like that. Yeah, the biggest problem with this unit is enemies that disable weapon abilities, which are becoming more and more common as they release more Battletomes. More armies have this effect. And when they lose both charge +1 damage and crit mortal, they just do basically nothing. Like, this is maybe the worst use of points in the book if you don't get these abilities active. So the power of this unit depends entirely on getting the charge and getting those bonuses. If you can't charge or you can't get those bonuses, completely skip this unit. Like, if all you play against is Nurgle and they're bringing anti-weapon abilities and there's not really a way for you to counter that, you can just not use this unit.
Yep, that's the biggest con of this. But it's going to be a rough for this army.
Yeah, Nurgle seems to be the count. We're going to keep talking about Nurgle because they have the exact profile needed to beat Lumineth. Lots of health. Spoilers, there's nothing in this book that counters wards. There's no ward reduction whatsoever in this army. So unless you pivot into the Profiteers Caradron regiment, there's just nothing you can do to deal with wards. And combine low volume damage with no access to ward hate. Yeah, that's a rough matchup into Nurgle.
Yeah, also, I am thinking more and more how to build a list that can deal with Nurgle by reducing their movement and not allowing to move anywhere.
Yeah, that's how you have to do it. But once you get into the grind, it's rough.
Yeah. Yep. Dawnriders, A minus, I'd say, but they're good.
I would call Dawnriders A plus. They're pretty good. No, just A. Just flat A, right? Like they're not on the edge of S. They've got enough downsides that I think you can build. You could definitely build without them. They're just really good.
They would be A plus if they were like 160, because it would be nice to bring one of this unit to flank.
I'm already so annoyed that this unit is so good at 180 and Stormstrike Paladors are at 190. So yes. I can't fathom any discussion of making this unit cheaper. It's just no way.
They're okay. They're good. And then we have this guy, which is terrible.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so if you guys saw our previous video on the Lumineth Regiments of Renown that you can use in Stormcast, we said there was an F-tier unit. It's this guy. Why is he bad? He doesn't really do anything. There's nothing unique that he offers your army. He's 150 points of not being a wizard, and you could just bring a 130-point wizard, which will give you an amazing buff or cripple your enemy in some crucial way. His regiment is not significantly relevant because there's lots of heroes that can take any Vanari. There's lots of heroes that can take Paragons. There's lots of heroes that can bring any unit. He is fast. He's 150. All he does is give you reroll charges, but you have to be wholly within 6 inches of him to reroll those charges. So like,
good luck.
Which means you're throwing him away whenever you charge. He's just stuck there, and that actually gives your opponent a unit to charge into later, which is helping them. So I think he's actively making your army worse by putting him in here, and not just because he's the opportunity cost, but he's actually strategically not very useful. He's a hindrance, frankly. So
yeah, and if you had an army that moves only 6 or stuff, I say okay, rerolling charges is good. So it would be better, but you have a lot of movement here. You have a lot of movement tricks. You're gonna end up 3 inches away from the opponent. So, and it would be annoying to try to fit units wholly within 6. I don't know who thought of this.
It's so annoying to try to fit units wholly within 6 of Gardas, and Gardas comes into play from reserve anywhere you want. This guy only moves 14 inches plus a run, so it's really tough to make that work. And you can just reroll commands for like reroll charge with command points. There's nothing unique this guy gives you. 1. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, very bad.
I don't know what point value he becomes playable at. Maybe like 90. Like he's really bad.
What for?
Not to just be the cheapest hero if you need to get another regiment, right?
Yeah, that's true. If you have 90 points, which happens a lot, maybe you could bring him.
But at that point, is he even the Vanari Lord Regent on a Lightcourser, or is he just a 90-point hero keyword?
Exactly. A 90-point chaff unit.
Yeah, so that's all the criteria met for F tier. This guy is really bad.
And if you put him into 90 points, you might spam him.
You might, yeah, honestly. Because then consider 180 points for 20 max damage is actually very good.
Yeah, and 3-up save, and you can give it a 5-up ward, and you can spam the board with a lot of these guys, so it becomes a problem. So it's an F tier.
If he gets playable, it's because he got so cheap that people spam him like they do with the Kill a Boss on Nashtooth for Cruel Boys.
Yeah, this is bad. Goodbye.
Vanari Sentinels are the best unit in the book, I think. They're like, we can certainly make an argument for them being S tier. I can think of lists that don't use Light of Eltharion. I can think of lists that don't use Lord Regent. I really can't think of lists that don't use Sentinels. It's so rare. Like these guys are going to be super high inclusion. Even just 1 unit, I think 2 units might even be better, but 1 unit is just so solid. So what makes it what makes it that good? It has the same max damage output as all the other hammers, 41 max, except you're doing it from 24 inches away. Instead of crit mortals, you have crit auto wound, which is worse, right? This is going to do less damage on average, but it's still doing damage, and it's doing a lot, and it's doing it with covering fire, which no other unit in this book really can benefit from in the same way. So really, really good. One of the weaknesses of this unit has always been it got stuck in combat, or it took a hit from another shooting unit and then it can't rally back fast enough. Well, this book has fixed both of those problems, because now you have the rally bonus from Lord Regent and you have elemental push to get out of combat, and you still have the vortex to transport this unit around to get the right shots at the right times. So like there's just no downside to this unit as far as I can tell. I think every list should have them.
The only downside is the footprint. They are hard to manage when you have such an elite army. So they're hard to protect, hard
and
to
you
move.
want 2 units, right? Like you probably want to bring 2x20, and that's such a wide footprint that like it's really hard to protect that. And they do need protecting. They are fragile, they're slow, they have to get bonuses to all of this stuff. They're not really worth defensive stacking on. So yeah, it's rough. It's really rough to bring. You want to bring as many as you can, but you can't. There's just not enough space on the table to realistically do that.
Yeah, to protect them. Yeah, they are a very good unit. They also scale well with the rune that it makes you ignore debuffs. So you can skip the -1 to hit and still shoot at 24 with all the buffs that we talked about for moving. So this is like a very big threat range. You can also teleport them and do the same. So you can stay relatively safe within 18, within 24 of a unit to avoid the redeploy and get the +1 to hit, even if you use the lifted shots. So they gain stuff, not because they changed their Warscroll, but because of the abilities of the book. So they feel very good.
They also got cheaper since the index.
And they got cheaper.
Yeah.
Yes.
Their whole army got better and they got cheaper, which is crazy. 280, very, very reasonable cost for these guys. I would even play them 150 or 160.
Yeah, they were 150, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would pay more for them, but I'm glad they're as cheap as they are.
Yeah, they feel very good. Mm-hmm. I think that you can still build lists without them, especially if you go into the high magic damage.
Yes.
But that is why we don't put them in S. But they are a very good unit. They will be a very good unit.
They're teetering on S for me. They're like A+, like A double plus. They're so close to S tier.
Yeah, and if during the summer the obscuring rules change and it's a little bit less impactful,
S.
I can see them
easy S. If they get rid of, if obscuring just didn't exist, I would bring 2 units of 20 in every list. Yes. No doubt. Let's take a look at the other Vanari shooting unit, the Ballista. We talked about all the good things that the Sentinels do, so we have to compare the Ballista to that. And unfortunately, the Ballista does fall short in many ways. The main way, I think, is just the max damage is really low. For a very similar cost, instead of getting 21 max damage, you get 8 max damage.
Yeah, it's just trash.
Now, it does do some nice things, right? It has crit 2 hits, which is kind of interesting because if you can activate the Zenith rune, crit 2 hits effectively turns all of your 5s and 6s into extra hits, which means out of 8 max, how do I want to phrase this? Out of 6 shots, let's say you have enough ballistas that you can average them out. So out of 6 shots, 2 of them are hits and 2 of them are 2 hits. All right, which means you're effectively getting 6 hits out of 6 shots, which is that's cool, right? They're also anti-monster. They also wound on 3s instead of 4s, like most units in this book. And 24-inch range, which goes up to 30 if you have them near Sentinels, which, like we just talked about, we're going to have Sentinels in every army. This isn't replacing Sentinels by any means. This is like a thing you put near your Sentinels to give them more damage output. And they have this effect that on a 3-up, if an enemy was damaged by this unit, it has -1 for the rest, -1 hit for the rest of the turn. Now that ability sucks. It's really, really lackluster. I don't know why it's a 3-up roll. I don't know why it requires damaging the unit, but it does.
You could leave it like that. The problem is the point cost. Because you could bring it for an 80 points. You are not going to spam them because they don't have high damage. You can fill the lists that we are going down for 80 or 90 points with this, but it's 120. I'm going to bring Wardens every time instead of this. So I could see the use of this if they go back to 90. I could see them in lists. And you will be bringing 1. I don't think that you will be spamming them because the profile is not very good.
If it gets cheap enough, you would spam them for sure, because because they're on 3s. That's already more accurate than most other units, and the crit hits are basically like having +1 hit. It averages out to the same. It's damage 2, 4 shots, damage 2. The problem is that it's a low volume attacker, but it's also low rend. So typically, when you have low volume, you want to be high rend so that you can kill specific like Stormcast profiles. We can call them right, low health but high save, like something like Shield.
And there's also obscuring. If you spam this stuff, you will go into matches with obscuring and you will do nothing. If you go to Cinch, you're not going to shoot anything the whole game.
Yeah.
So I think that the miss here is the point cost.
Yes, I think it can be fixed with points. I would prefer if they were Rend 2 all the time, not just anti-monster. But point cost would also be a good fix. I think 100 points on this unit becomes playable.
Let's see. Could be. 100 points. I don't know. You could move things around, and I will still rather have 10 more Wardens, honestly.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because you're going to bring the Lord Regent anyway. So
Wardens might be undercosted in particular. We'll see about that.
Maybe. For an internal balance standpoint, yes. we'll still have to see how the army performs. I think for what they do, seeing like other armies, 120 points for the Wardens is good, and we will have to see if the abilities are good enough.
But for now, pass. Not a great unit. Vanari Bannerblade. We'll talk about the regular one, and then we'll talk about the Scourge of Ghyran one. And I don't think it'll be a long discussion either way, because it only has one ability. It's not a wizard. It doesn't have any impressive damage or health. The reason you take it is to get access to its ability. So the regular version, its ability is units that are wholly within 12 inches can rally while they're in combat. And that sounds good, right? That really does sound good, because you've got the Lord Regent, who can also make you roll 9 dice for rally, and you can rally in both players' turns. And this is a high health stacking army, like high effective health. It's got lots of ways to reduce enemy damage, but it really starts to fall apart when you remember that you can always just push units out of combat before you rally. Like, that's not... This is not a completely unique effect. There are other ways to still be able to rally if you finish the turn in combat. All of those do generally require dice rolls, like push requires a dice roll. The runes system requires building into that specific combination of wind into river. These are not super reliable. There's high opportunity costs, and this is simple. The problem I have with this guy is 140 points, and that's all he does. And he doesn't even let you do it all the time, because let's say you're just playing against shooting. Like, if you're playing against Stormcast, rallying in combat is not very useful, because they'll usually either kill you or shoot you. And in both cases, you're not going to be stuck in combat. So where I see this guy shining isn't necessarily with a typical list. I see him in like an Alarith monster list, when you have a Avalenor and he wants to get into as big of a combat as possible, stack all your defensive buffs on him, and then you've got a Bannerblade and a Lord Regent nearby, just letting him heal with 9 dice every hero phase.
So it will be like bringing him instead of a wizard that was going to be casting the spell to get you out of combat. That is the way that I look.
Pretty much. Yeah, you still bring wizards, though. It's not like you skip the wizards.
Yeah, but maybe you are bringing only one wizard or something. So maybe you bring him instead, and you bring a lot of monsters. Maybe.
I wish he did anything else. I wish he just had any second ability. I hate heroes that only do one thing, and that thing is really situational.
It could be fixed very easily. Like, if he takes the silver one, he might become a wizard or something.
Yeah, but you can't even do that.
Yeah, you cannot.
Yeah, if there was an arcane tome to make him a wizard, that would be sweet. I'd pay 140 for that. But I think he needs to drop like 40 points. I think he needs to be 100 points.
Yep, me too. Because even then, you want to bring a wizard because of all the extra utility, and he is replacing a wizard only for this single purpose.
Also, consider, like,
seems nice.
When you're charging, you're usually charging away from this guy, and he's not fast enough to keep up with your units, so it's not like Dawnriders are going to usually benefit from this if they're being aggressive. Even your faster infantry, when they get out of range, are not going to be benefiting from this. This is like a defensive play. Like, enemies are charging into you, and then you've survived it, and then you're rallying back. It does also cost command points. Push doesn't cost any command points, right? Like, you can just push units out of combat anytime you want. And this is, it's just really situational. I don't know. Whatever. Let's talk about the Scourge of Ghyran version. Basically, one ability, right? Nothing else matters. 3-up save doesn't matter. Who cares? He gives Vanari infantry units +1 save if they're contesting the same objective that he's contesting. Now, this is a lot easier to get value out of than a rally buff like that, because it works against shooting, which almost nothing else in this book works against shooting, and it works on all units. There's no, like, as long as he's touching an objective and that unit's touching the objective, there's no other range requirement. So he can be just touching an objective, and you can have your unit strung back, one model touching it, and you still keep the +1 save bonus. And +1 save is very good. It stacks very well with a lot of other things. So Bladelords, Wardens, both of these units really want to get this buff. So I think he is playable. But he's also niche, because you only get it while you're contesting objectives. So if you're fighting in the mid-board because you're sometimes forced to fight in unfavorable positions, he does literally nothing. He has no other ability. So if you can't... And if you can't leverage that +1 save, because he is slow, right? So if you can't leverage it somehow, it's totally worthless. So again, niche, not really worth taking in most lists.
Yeah, and the way that battle plans are developed in this current GHB, it's weird that you want to leave a unit in an objective. They are either very, very, very deep into your territory, or they are laterally. So it is weird that you're not fighting especially with this army, that you're not fighting in the middle. It's weird. It's weird to use him. I've tried it, and it's weird to get him into the position. And if you go forward to the objectives in the middle, he usually doesn't get into the objectives.
Yeah.
So It's weird.
It's almost like you need to give him +4 move from Lyrior.
Yeah, and you have to move the screen before him, so they have also to get the buffers to move. So it's weird.
Yeah, it is really. It's a strong effect though. If you get this on a unit of Bladelords, you're going to feel really good.
Yep. Or in a Wardens with a 3+1.
Yeah. Let's talk about Ydrilan Riverblades. So they are strictly worse than they were before, right? Because they lost an attack on their melee, and that's actually a big deal. Going from 31 max damage to 21 max damage on this unit is a significant change, because before they had the pressure, and they had anti-hero as well, so they could like get into the back line, teleport into terrain, use that to charge, and then use their 2d6 move in order to get somewhere useful. None of that seems worth it anymore.
No, I think they were very good for the point cost. They were not broken, I think, because the teleport was restricted to the edges, so there was a lot of counterplay for them. But they were a very good unit for their points. They were still squishy, they were 160, so you have to invest with them. But they had a clear role, so they were threatening the opponent into getting into their small heroes, and they could kill them. Now I wouldn't trust them with this task. And if they go into the backline and go there, they're gonna die very quickly and very easily without doing much.
Yeah. So I always viewed them as a screen that could teleport to edges before, kind of like Vanguard Hunters in 3rd edition. That's basically what I viewed them. And they had that additional utility of sometimes threatening a unit, right? They could kill terrain, they could kill small heroes. That part is gone, but there's still a cheap screen that can teleport, which is useful. A no dice teleport to a board edge on most battle plans threatens multiple objectives. So your opponent has to constantly dedicate resources to holding those objectives. They're also, and this is an extremely niche thing, the fact that there is 7-inch move is a big deal. It's a bigger deal than being 6-inch move, all right? And the reason for that is because there is a heroic trait in this army that lets you do a move in the deployment phase. And it has to be infantry units, so it can't be Dawnriders or Windchargers, so only your infantry. And these guys are 7-inch move, which is exactly enough to get onto a midfield objective if you deploy 11 inches up the one side of the board. So what you can do is you can deploy these guys in the deployment phase, move them onto objectives, and then if you're given the first turn, or if you take the first turn, you just move back, or you just teleport away. And what have you? And in that scenario, you've committed nothing. You've max scored because you've scored 2 objectives in the middle, which is usually enough to get you max score on VP. Probably scored a battle tactic along the way, and you've lost absolutely nothing, and you've committed nothing, which is about as perfect a play as you can get with Lumineth, because they can't revive units. And so this kind of play is like reviving these units. So the fact that it's a 7-inch move is a big deal, right? Because it lets you do that maneuver. So if you have 2 Riverblades and that command trait, and we'll talk about this later when we talk about a list that features this tactic, this is the only unit in the book that can do this on every battle plan. Some battle plans, you're 13 inches up the board and there's a midfield objective, and 6-inch move is enough. But there's a lot of battle plans that have midfield objectives, and a 7-inch move is required for that to work.
Yeah, that's the best use for this unit with that heroic trait, honestly. I wish that they would go in 120, because there are other units similar in different books that do the same thing, just teleport. But yeah, the models are amazing. I love them.
Yeah, they're sick. I agree. 120 is a much more reasonable value, because all these guys are a teleporting screen. They have no other utility besides that. Like the 2d6 combat move doesn't matter because you don't do any damage and you don't have any health, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they synergize very well. They used to synergize very well with Sentinels, because you were threatening like a big monster or stuff. So you send them, they shot some shots, so they didn't want to spend their redeploy going back. So they were threatening in the back, and if they got the charge, they could threaten to finish off a monster or a hero. But
as it stands, they're not worth buffing offensively or defensively. Only things that are like incidental buffs, like a realm shield, just they happen to be standing in a realm shield. Probably won't survive long enough to get rallied because they're 5-up save. They're just
they don't want to be in the castle. So
no. So they're situational. They are the best screen in the book, but it's a very specific kind of way that they're the best screen. So can't give them any more than a C tier. Moving into, I think, the last infantry. The Crazy Hat Men. Yeah, the Alarith Stoneguard. These guys are 130 for 5 models, and they are an anvil and a hammer. So very similar unit to the Wardens and to the Bladelords and to the Dawnriders. All of these units are meant to do damage, and the Stoneguard are not that different in terms of damage output. They're still doing 42 max damage when reinforced, but there's some differences in their accuracy because they wound on 3s as opposed to everything else in this book wounding on 4s. These guys wound on 3s. So they can go to 2s if you use River into Strength runes. They can also get +1 rend from a Stonemage. So they can be on 2+2+ rend 2, which is the only unit in the book that can be doing that.
Without modifications, ignoring modifiers.
Yeah, so really cool. The other mode that this unit has is an Anvil, because while you have 2 or more mountain runes, you have a 3+ save characteristic, which means you can buff that to a 2+ save, and then potentially stand in cover for -1 hit, and then get -1 to wound from mountain. And there's lots of ways to scale. So the effective health is really, really important. Having 3+ save is really good. But I kind of just like this as an offensive unit because it doesn't rely on weapon abilities. We talked about every other unit so far relying on weapon abilities to do crit mortals or anti-charge rend or charge +1 damage. This unit needs none of that. So you face Nurgle and they're shutting off weapon abilities. You're like, cool, I'm on 2s, rend 2. Like, I'm still doing it.
Yeah, they are not that bad. And the most important thing about these guys is that they went up from 4 inches into 5 inches. Honestly, 1 inch at that speed, it's very significant.
It is.
And with all the buffs in the army that we have to increase the movement, they also feel better. They also feel better. There might be a case that they could be A, depending on the meta. If we start seeing a lot of Nurgle or turn off weapon abilities, I think that we can skew into them. And then they scale. The cons is the rune stuff.
The runes, and you need dedicated push for them.
Yes.
Because unlike most other units, the 5 inches is so low, and they're not Vanari, so they can't use Lyrior with the Wind Rune to get +4 move. So they rely on elemental push more than any other unit. And so with +2 move from the heroic trait and elemental push, they are going 12 inches a turn before charging, which is very good for an infantry unit. But that's a lot of resources being dedicated. And if you're dedicating elemental push, like that's a 130 point wizard spell that's casting it, probably the Stonemage, right? Who's also giving them rend 2, but only 1 unit a turn can get elemental push unless you take the unlimited Scinari Council battle formation, which I don't know if that's good enough, right? So you might just be limited to 1 unit getting pushed per turn, which is a huge downside because push is the best spell in this book and every unit wants it.
And it's very difficult to get them to +1 wound or the 4+ move.
Yeah, so... well, let's talk about the rune thing. So this unit wants to have 2 mountain rune active, right? And if you're doing 2 mountain runes, that means you can't do +4 move from strength into wind. That means you can't do +1 wound from river into strength. Like both of these are just not good options when you have the Stoneguard. There's other units in your army that probably want that thing. But if you have the Stoneguard, you need to get the 2+ mountain runes as quick as possible. Because if you don't have 2 mountain runes, I don't think this unit's worth using. Like, you need the 3+ save active. You have to leverage their health. Their damage output is good, but if you're not getting the 3+ save, you're not benefiting from that other half of them. Just use Wardens instead, right? Wardens ignore charge +1 damage. They're a 4+ save. Like, if you're not using them for the mountain runes, you shouldn't be using them. There's nothing inherently wrong with the unit in a vacuum, but when you start going into list building and you start thinking about how your turns are actually going to proceed, and you think about how this unit has synergy with other units in your army, or more appropriately, how it has anti-synergy with the rest of your units, right? Because if you're bringing Wardens, you're bringing Sentinels, you're bringing these other units to round out your forces, Stoneguard really start to conflict with your decision-making.
Yeah, it seems like the book wants you to bring 1 Alarith, 1 Vanari, 1 River, but when you try to build towards them, it doesn't work. And these are the guys that doesn't synergize well with other units. And the other problem that we are going to discuss later is Avalenor, because he's the one that could let them shine more, but he's so expensive and he's not a wizard, so it feels so weird.
Well, yeah, I think once we talk about the rest of the Alarith units, people will understand why we're potentially underrating Stoneguard. I think they're an excellent unit. I think if the rest of the book, like, we didn't read the rest of the book, we just saw the Stoneguard and we saw their abilities and just the allegiance, like, they'd be A tier. But when you consider how the whole army plays and how it all wants to come together, it's really tough. There's a lot of opportunity costs being given up here so you can have the Stoneguard.
Yeah, they feel like they need the list to be focused on them, and that is the problem.
Yeah, the other units we've talked about don't. You can splash Sentinels into any list. You can splash Wardens and Bladelords into just about any list. Dawnriders, any list. Stoneguard really need a lot more thinking put into them. And the payoff is minor. Like, they're better than other units, but not that much better.
And the other units benefit from, like, all the runes, and this guy feels like you need the mountain. You need the mountain. There's the one that are forcing you to pick the mountain. And in the other lists, you could see a value of picking different ones. They are not bad. They are not bad at all. But yes, they are a little bit less useful or less versatile than the other units.
Well, the Stone Mage is the support hero for the Stoneguard. He gives them +1 rend, but then they can't make piling moves. And that's pretty much all he does. He'll do that, and then he'll cast Elemental Push. He has his own spell. It's okay, right? It deals d6 damage to enemies that start a move on an objective within 18 inches, which is fine, right?
I think it's very good, because in some matches against Nurgle, for example, I think this is very good, because they want to be standing in the objectives.
It can. But
if you put this into the objective, it's like, okay, well, you move. What abilities have the move keyword? Piling?
Redeploy. Piling is not. That's a fight ability. Move, run, charge, redeploy. Think.
Yeah, I think it's a good spell. It's a good spell.
It's fine. Sure. It's not the reason you bring the unit. It's a bonus. The reason you bring the unit is because it's a wizard. So that means you can cast Elemental Push, which Stoneguard really want Elemental Push. It's so good on Stoneguard.
Yep.
And Dawnriders and Sentinels and everything. Everything wants Elemental Push. And you also give them +1 rend. Because and if you don't have the +1 rend, I'm not sure Stoneguard are worth using offensively, because again, just use Wardens instead. Right?
Yep.
So the rend 2 is almost, it feels required to justify bringing them.
And the drawback from they cannot make piling moves, it's also
it can be significant. Yeah. It's a problem. But you don't have to get the +1 rend. If you would do more damage from piling in, then don't use the +1 rend. It's that simple.
Yeah, but if you think about it, it's a drawback.
It is, for sure. It is an unfortunate drawback. It's done for flavor purposes, but I wish it wasn't. I just wish it was easier to use.
Yeah.
I would rather have 4-inch move on the Stoneguard again than have no pylons.
Yes, I agree.
So I think Stone Mage is a package unit with the Stoneguard. You bring these two units together almost every time. So whatever ranking the Stoneguard are, the Stone Mage is the same rank. So B tier.
Yep.
Spirit of the Mountain. So we talked about these guys a little bit when we looked at the rune system, and we said that these guys get +5 max damage for each mountain rune that you use, which is cool. That means as the game goes on, you do more and more and more damage, which is pretty sick. And each mountain rune also gives you a 5 up ward. So if you're spamming mountain runes, right? Like if you have Stoneguard, you have a Spirit of the Mountain, you have a Stone Mage, if this is your whole play style, cool. This is not that bad, right? The problem is you need a lot of runes. You need a lot of runes to make these guys good.
Yeah, I think that this part of the book was designed like only thinking about them. They all synergize together and they don't benefit that much from the rest of the book. So there is definitely a case to be made that you can build a list with only Alarith units and it's not going to be bad, but you are missing a whole stuff from the book. You are missing the versatility of the book.
I think that list, you splash in 20 Sentinels, maybe a Wind Spirit. It's not a bad list at all. Not by any means, but it's just not the best that you can do.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so
it's the same reason for the Stoneguards. They want more and more mountain runes.
Yes. Well, they want 2. That's it. Anything more than that doesn't matter for Stoneguard, but spirits want as many as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they really have anti-synergy with everything else, because you want to do River into Strength for most melee units, and you want to do Wind into or Strength into Wind for the +4 move, and Spirit of the Mountain is sitting there. No, I want mountain runes. We're having mountain runes for dinner. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I actually do like the Spirit of the Mountain, despite all of those issues. 340 points for 14 health is not great, but it's a 3-up save, which means you give this thing a 5-up ward, and you're starting to look pretty good in terms of defenses. And when you have River Rune into the Mountain Rune, that means you're also -1 wound. So a monster that's -1 wound, 5-up ward, 3-up save all the time, basically, your opponent can't do anything about it. It's pretty good. It's got like a weak cannon shot in its mouth, right? Like a D6 shot on... It is Rend 2 and it wounds on 2, so I like that. The melee, let's just assume this, like, it starts at 20, but it doesn't really start at 20. It starts at 25 because you have a Avalenor. And then it usually starts at 30 because you have a Mountain Rune. So 30 max damage on 4's 2's Rend 2. Pretty reasonable. That's the damage output of Bladelords, effectively. They have crit mortals, but they wound on 4, so it's basically it's a wash. So they do decent damage, and their damage goes up as you play the game. The longer they live, the more damage output they do. They don't rely on weapon abilities, like the Stoneguard, so it doesn't matter if your opponent is shutting off your weapon abilities, which is good. As a monster, we haven't really talked about this yet. This is the first monster we're talking about. There's a battle formation that you can use that just in the hero phase, it just reduces the first point of damage you take by 1 in each phase, which is surprisingly good. When you have this much effective health stacking, each point that you can reduce goes further, and it makes rally even better. And monsters are the only units that can activate it, and this guy's a monster, so cool. And the best feature is definitely the Rampage, because in the combat phase, you do the bad 2-up D3 mortals, but if the target charged you, it's guaranteed to do 3 to 5 mortal wounds, because you add 2 to the roll. So, your opponent charged you, 5 mortal wounds before combat starts. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Let's say you hide this guy, you phalanx him behind some Bladelords, or not Bladelords, some Wardens who also have a Lord Regent wholly within 12 of them. You can do the Wall of Blades, and then this. So you might be able to just kill stuff by having it charge you.
Yep.
Super niche, but it's good. 5 mortal wounds if you get charged is really good.
Yeah, I can also see a list like trying to be extra defensive with the spell lore that we are going to discuss later to make the Stoneguard only be hit on 4s or more without ignoring 1 wound, with a 5-up ward save, saving on a 3+, potentially with -1 to wound. So I could see it. I could see it being tried.
Yeah,
it will have to be like the very simplistic unit in the way that you want to be bringing different units, but I could see it being competitive.
Yeah, as opposed to just bringing more Stoneguard, who would be cheaper, but as Stoneguard take damage, their damage falls off very quickly, whereas Spirit of the Mountain keeps most of its damage intact. Actually, does it have the battle damaged ability? I should check this. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it does, but it's not that impactful because as you add 1 and 1 attack.
Yeah. So okay, and you can rally very easily as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So why is it only C tier? I've said a lot of good things about it, but it's C tier partly because it's just an inefficient unit. The damage and health for its cost is really low. There's a high opportunity cost in terms of playstyle. You have to build your list to support them. You probably need to bring 2 of them and a Avalenor to really make it worth your points, because if you're spending that many mountain runes, you got to justify it. Like, it has to be a really good value. And this is a big problem. They hit on 4s. And there's no way to give this unit +1 hit except for all-out attack.
Yeah, -1 to hit will kill this list.
Yeah. So I said, 30 max damage, cut that in half right away. It's 15 max damage because half your attacks just miss. And if you get hit by a -1 hit effect, it's the worst day.
Yeah, you don't
Terrible.
do nothing.
And there's a super high opportunity cost. Spamming Mountain Runes is a playstyle that only this unit wants. This unit and Avalenor, which is basically another one of this unit. Nothing else in the army wants that. So it's really hard to put this guy into a list as a general purpose unit. It has to be a build around, and those lists don't feel like the best use of your time.
Yep. Yeah, that's the problem. It seems fun.
Sick model, though. I've always liked this model.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I like the mountains on the back.
Yeah. Then, naturally, we have to talk about Avalenor, the big Alarith payoff unit. So he's 420 points as a hero. He can bring any Vanari, so that means he can bring Sentinels, which is pretty cool, because we talked about if you're bringing a mountain focus list, you want Sentinels in there as well. He is some kind of mix of anvil, hammer, buffer. He tweaks your runes as well. His damage output is about as good as a Mountain Spirit. He starts off higher, right, being at 28 instead of 25 like the Mountain Spirits, but he actually scales slower. So he ends up roughly the same with a Mountain Spirit on round 2 or 3. So that's okay. That's fine. He also doesn't rely on weapon abilities. He can also activate the battle formation. Cool. He's basically a Mountain Spirit with a bonus. And one of his bonuses is that Alarith have +1 mountain for Warscroll abilities. So that means Mountain Spirits and him have +1 attack. And your Stoneguard, it means nothing for them unless you actually depict another mountain, right? So, but on its own, it doesn't do anything for Stoneguard, which is unfortunate. But as soon as you depict another mountain, so you do like River into Mountain, and then Stoneguard now have the 3-up save. Cool. And there's 2 more things this guy does. First one is he has this Rampage, which activates on a 3+. It forces an enemy in combat to attack him and only him, which I think it's pretty good, because this army has tons of defensive buffs that it can put on 1 or 2 units at a time. So if you stack all your defensive buffs on Avalenor, you're guaranteed to get value out of them. Well, not guaranteed, it's on a 3+, but you're more likely to get value out of them, because one of the issues defensive buffs have in this game is your opponents don't have to attack you, or they can create scenarios where they can ignore you. Right, they'll charge into multiple units, then they'll be in range to just hit something else. And Avalenor is like, no, I'm getting value out of my defensive buffs. I have a 5-up ward. I have -1 to wound. You only hit me on 4s. I have all this stuff. I want to use it. We're doing this my way. And then that means you can
with two.
Yeah, and you can focus your healing on him with the Lord Regent or with a Life Swarm potentially as well. Like the value of defensive buffs on this guy is huge, and he can also leverage them, and then he becomes a really good target for healing as well. So I actually really like this Rampage.
You can buff him to make him super tanky, and then fish for this Rampage, and surround him by a different by a wall of Warden, Stoneguard, or something, and then make the opponent, if they charge you, they might have to go after him. And if it's surrounded, and you can deploy in some ways which you can reduce the amount of attacks that go into him. It sounds interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
But the last thing he does, similar to Lyrior, if you were to depict Rune and you pick an Alarith unit nearby, it gets the enhanced effect as if you had Mountain. Yeah. So, for example, if you pick the River Rune, which gives you a -2 charge aura, that immediately gets enhanced by Mountain. Even if you don't have any Mountain, even if this is round 1, so you can do River into Mountain and still get the enhanced River, which is to ignore modifiers on hit and wound, which is okay. Like, we talked about how bad it is for -1 hit effects on Mountain Spirits. Like, that's decent, I guess. It's okay. It's not great. And then if you have the Wind Rune activated, enhanced by Mountain, that gives you +5 control, which, okay, that sucks. That just sucks. That's bad. So,
yeah, that's the bad thing.
This ability is not very good.
Yeah, that's the problem. The combination for this is the worst combination.
Yeah, really bad,
guys. I think that's the thing that puts them a little bit lower than the rest of the army.
Yeah,
and it encourages you more to go mountain.
He was originally going to be in C tier when we ranked him, but we built some lists, and he feels better than C tier because Mountain Spirits feel like a C tier. You need a list dedicated to them. This guy kind of makes the Stoneguard splash work, because if you bring him 2 units of Stoneguard, a Stonemage, and the rest of the list has enough room to still be a pretty well-rounded list, you don't have to go fully Mountain Spirit. So for that reason, I'm going to give him a B tier. I don't think he's necessary to bring the Stoneguard, but it starts to feel like a package deal. Like, if you're bringing Stoneguard, Avalenor seems a lot more reasonable to include.
Yeah, I agree.
Would you ever use him without Stoneguard, like as a standalone piece? Because you can just buff him up to crazy values and then protect like Dawnriders or Bladelords or Wardens or something?
You could surround him by Wardens and have the mortal wound stuff and make them fight him, and then in your turn you just pile in with the Wardens and deal all the mortal wounds. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, that feels like a C- unit, just that, right? Pairing him with Stoneguard is like a C+. So I think if you add these 2 different modes together, it's like a B- kind of unit.
Yeah, and if the meta goes again into a lot of ignoring weapon abilities, I could see you bringing him to
for sure
have the opportunity to deal some damage.
Oh, imagine if they give us a spell in the next season that lets you ignore weapon abilities on a unit.
It would be rough.
Yeah. This is a pivot, right? It's a good pivot. It's a good meta pick.
Yeah, that's we'll discuss that at the end of the book, but I think that's one of the most important things about this book, that you can skew into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we're kind of trying to rank stuff in the current frame, but there is a big meta shift coming this summer with the new General's Handbook.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Hurakan units. So instead of Mountain, we're talking Wind, and the first one is the Windchargers. They are 160 points for 5 models. They are very improved over the Index. However, well, hold on. We'll talk about the downsides later.
Yeah.
What are they good at? Well, they're fast. They do pretty good damage, and they do it from usually 18 inches away. So 14-inch move. You can get run, shoot, and charge once per game with the Windmage, so they can go 20 inches and still shoot, which is awesome. They are a high health unit, 15 health or 30 when reinforced, which is awesome. Still 4-up save, like most units in the book. And then they shoot. Now, their shooting is kind of like Bladelords in Melee. It's lower volume, but it is still pretty good accuracy because it has anti-cavalry and crit auto wound. The problems I have is that Sentinels exist, and Sentinels do 41 max damage when reinforced. This unit only does 31, and this unit requires 2 Wind Runes to shoot from 18-inch range, while Sentinels are doing it from 24, which is super safe. Like, there's not much in the game that can engage on you when you're 24 inches away. And the Windchargers don't really, like, their speed doesn't really matter, because their melee sucks. And
they're going to get killed in return.
Yeah, like, what do you accomplish by being that fast? Yeah. I guess you can get onto objectives. So maybe instead of using these guys as like a reinforced hammer, you could consider using them as like a fast chariot type unit that goes on a flank, does objectives, and still does a little bit of shooting. But even then, that's kind of like Vigilors, right? Vigilors basically do that. They sit on a flank and they still contribute some damage into the middle. These guys need the Wind Runes to do that.
Yeah. because the
So-
range at 12, they're not going to do that much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
12's
it's a
also
weird
just
niche.
bad.
Yeah, and the damage is not very good.
It's fine. I like the anti-cav. I like that they have crit auto wounds so that if you get the Zenith rune, they're critting on 5s now. It's just low. It's just 31 max instead of 41 like Sentinels.
It doesn't feel like they are gaining much from the book. So they feel like flanking unit that you can have, but for 160, it's hard to fit them into that role. So I was a little bit disappointed by them. The +6 inches in the shooting feels nice, but all the things that you have to sacrifice to get to that doesn't feel that good.
Yeah.
It is not such a big damage that you spend all the resources to do that.
It's such a cool idea.
Yeah.
I wish it was stronger, but it just is not.
Maybe with less points, but it won't fit the role that they wanted to do. They will be flanking units, taking objectives, shooting some chaff. Yeah, it's weird.
The role I see for them,
higher in damage or something, and maybe a little bit more expensive. It could be nice.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I think they could be 150. I think that would be a good start. Drop them by 10 points. But the role I see for these guys is, you know how I talked about bringing 2 units of 20 Sentinels? Well, what's the main problems with that is that's slow and it's a big footprint, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what if instead of a second unit of Sentinels, we brought Windchargers?
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of the role I see them in, is that they're like supplementary shooting. They're not as efficient as Sentinels, but if they're not the only shooting unit, then their efficiency matters less because you're adding them to the Sentinel's damage output. So that's kind of the role I see them in. I don't know if C tier is even high enough for that. Like, they might be a D tier unit, but I'm holding on to hope here that they could still see some play.
Yeah, and we'll still see what happens with Obscuring. I think that it's going to be toned down a little bit, and this might push this type of units a little bit higher. Because if the Obscuring is not that relevant, you can use them like flankers, screens, and do some interesting stuff. With the Obscuring as it is, there's a lot of battle plans in which they are not going to be able to shoot anything.
Yeah,
even if they're fast.
Their melee damage is so poor too. Like, it's not worth charging.
Non-existent.
Yeah, it's a lot of dice to do basically nothing.
Yeah.
All right. The Windmage. So I have him listed here as a Hurakan support hero wizard. I don't use him like that at all, right? Like, he's there to teleport Sentinels. That's really what he's there for. He gives you the transporting vortex, which he's the only unit that can bring it. And that's such a good spell. And especially now in this book, it's so much easier to cast it than it was in previous books. Being able to teleport Sentinels or Windchargers or Techless in the hero phase into the right position, and then you can just start doing a ton of damage. That's fantastic. That's such a good spell. And he's only 140 points. Feels really, really good.
Yeah, the change in this guy, it's that now it's the one that gives run and shoot, but it's only once per battle. I think that it's weird. Especially with the Hurakan, as we were saying. They are going to run and shoot, and then they are going to die, because you cannot protect them.
Yeah, and do Wind Spirits need more movement? They already move 18, they shoot 15. Exactly. Do they need to run and shoot and charge?
And there are other ways to give them +1, plus more movement. So it feels weird. I would rather that he gives them retreat and charge, retreat and shoot or something.
That would have been great. Yeah, free elemental push.
Yeah, free elemental push, it would be nice. But the thing that he brings into the lists is the teleport. The teleport that it also existed, it wasn't that good because you cannot teleport outside of combat. But now we have 2 ways to get away from combat. So you can get away from combat and then teleport. So it feels, even when he hasn't changed that much, his utility went up.
Yes.
And there is also, we are going to be discussing Techless later, but he can copy the spells from other wizards. So Techless guaranteeing a teleport is also very good.
Yeah. So he gives your list the teleport.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all he does, really. Yeah. None of his other stuff is really good enough to talk about. You can stick him in the shrine because he's an infantry hero. So there's that. Yeah, teleport's good. Teleport is at least B tier.
Yeah. I like it. There's a lot of things that you can try with him. Try to power through away Veltarion and then teleport it away, and then in the next turn put it away, put it deep into enemy lines. So it brings a lot of utility. And it's not by he receiving something new, it's because of the book itself.
The context has changed. Wind Spirit. So 270 points for a monster with only 8 health. So that's That's weird. Only has 15-inch shooting range. Everything else in the book is much higher, usually 24 inches for Sentinels. He's only 8 max damage. If he's shooting a monster, he can do 12 max damage. For 270 points, this is not sounding very good, right? I'm not making a good case for him. But why did we give him B tier? Well, he's very, very, very fast. 18-inch flying move is incredible. You are always in range of contesting objectives against this guy. It's crazy how much pressure he puts on the board in terms of objective play. His damage is not high volume, right? It's like a Ballista, 8 max, but it's a lot more reliable than a Ballista because it hits on 2s and it has Rend 2 all the time. And it can go up to Rend 3 against a monster. So this guy can, and against a monster, 12 max damage is pretty significant. You're usually chunking off 6 to 8 wounds when you do that.
Yeah, you shoot him, and then you shoot with the Sentinels, and you should be able to kill many monsters.
Exactly. His melee is whatever, it doesn't matter. It says crit mortal, and people will be like, "Ooh, it's crit mortal." It's 6 damage, guys. It's 6 max. It doesn't matter.
You're gonna do 1 mortal wound, and that's all that you're gonna do.
It doesn't matter. Oh, but it hits on 2s. It doesn't matter. It's 6 max. Who cares?
He wounds on 4s.
Yeah. Monsters can activate the battle formation, so that if you just splash this guy into a list, he can be the guy who activates that. And if people are killing him, you know what? I'm okay with that. That means my other units aren't getting shot. That's not the end of the world. Right? He's not super expensive. 270 is pricey, but it's not like the end of the world.
We should go lower a little bit.
Yeah. Well, what I like about him is he doesn't care about the runes, basically, right? Like his damage output doesn't matter. His health doesn't matter. He's here for utility. That's his main goal, because after he shoots, and uses any shoot ability, so this includes covering fire, on a 3-up, if he damaged that unit, it gets strike last. So that means offensively, you're charging into your opponent. Before you charge into them, this guy shoots. Potentially, you'll see if you have strike last before you charge, which is nice. You don't have to commit that charge movement into that. And you'll know if it has strike last or not. And if an opponent's walking up to you, you can covering fire and usually give that enemy strike last as well. It's about as likely as the Annihilator Brace for Impact ability, but it does cost you a command point because you do have to use covering fire. So, I mean, Stormcast are using this tactic right now to give enemy strike last. This is basically the same thing.
This is good against melee armies, because you can be threatening them all the time with strike last. And if they want to go and chase him, redeploy, the free redeploy with a +2 move, it's pretty decent. So he might be able to flank and cover a flank of the board by himself. I still think that he is 270 might be too much, because shooting armies are just gonna kill it.
Yeah,
with a breeze.
He should be like 240.
Yeah, and he doesn't do damage. I wish that they increase the damage. I don't think that it shouldn't be that low.
I think it's fine for a unit to do less damage but have a lot of utility, and that's what this unit is. It is a lot of utility baked into this package. The cost seems high, right?
Yeah,
240 would be a lot more reasonable. But
still on a 3+.
Yeah, it's fine. Honestly, I like this guy a lot. He doesn't always make the cut, but there's a lot of lists that are like, well, I need a little bit more power against melee armies, so I'm going to splash him in to give strike last. The threat of this guy giving strike last will change the way your opponent plays.
Yeah, there could be a very devastating turn if you get this guy and the Rune and the strike first with Lyrior and the fight with 2. You could make a mess. Yes, you could.
Oh yeah.
But it's not reliable. None of the strike.
No, he's like
are reliable.
He's like a B- unit. He's better than C, but he's not quite like a real B. He's like a B-.
Yeah, it's okay.
And Sevireth is basically the same thing, but with less utility in exchange for slightly more damage. Because he's a lot more points, though. 340 is a lot for this guy. His regiment options are not anything special, right? Unlocking Hurakan and Vanari is okay. It's fine, I guess. So consider the Wind Spirit, and consider that it always shoots at its max profile like against monsters. So it'll be Rend 3 and 12 damage, and that's what Sevireth is against everything. So this guy does do more damage, which is significant because you're not always shooting at monsters, but this guy shoots at everything pretty well. And when you combine it with Sentinel shooting, it's pretty good. His melee damage is still lackluster. He doesn't have the strike last utility that the Wind Spirit has, and only one Wind Spirit gets to do the D6 move, which is increased by wind runes. So you're not even incentivized to bring more than one fox.
Exactly.
And if you have to choose one fox, and only one fox, I don't think it's going to be Sevireth. Yeah, so he gives Hurakan units +1 wind, which, again, that's +2 move for the Wind Spirit, and that's almost plus 6-inch range for the Windchargers. You still have to activate a wind rune to get the Windchargers going.
Yeah.
And if a Hurakan unit is picked by Depict rune, they get the enhanced effect as if you had wind. So for example, if you pick the Strength rune enhanced by wind, that gives you retreat and shoot and charge, which, as we talked about, is not terribly useful because you could still just push out of combat. That's always an option.
The problem with that is that if they charge into the wind units, they are either gonna kill them, or they are gonna mostly wipe them. So if then you want to retreat and shoot, you're not gonna do much by retreating and shooting.
Well, the Windchargers are tanky, 30 health, right? So they're just as tough as the toughest unit, the Dawnriders. So it's not good, but I'm just saying it's you will survive that and you will get out of combat. The thing is, you still want to push out of combat so you can rally.
Exactly. You want to do the spell in the hero phase to rally.
And this doesn't stop you from taking the damage from retreat. So you're still taking D3 on the way out. Push is better in every way.
Yeah.
He's still fragile. He's still only 10 health, right? He's not hiding anywhere. He's still just going to die immediately as soon as any shooting army catches him. And it's very easy to catch him. Wind runes are probably the most questionable value rune. Their main use is getting the +4 move. And that's usually just with Lyrior. So, like, list-wise, Sevireth doesn't really fit into any plans. His damage and health for 340 is very low, and he doesn't really have any utility. He's just a hammer that moves away after shooting.
At what point will you take him?
I don't know, because if he gets cheaper, the Wind Spirit should also get cheaper. And the Wind Spirit just feels better to me. Yeah, I think he could drop 40 points, easy. I think Sevireth could easily drop 40.
And I don't know if you bring them anyway. Because what does he actually give you?
12 max damage on a very fast, hard to pin down platform that's very accurate. 2s, 3s, rend 3 all the time against everything.
Maybe you will pivot into.
If he gets cheap enough, I think he's playable. For 340, I don't want to play this guy. I don't want to put him in any lists. I think he is D tier.
And on the regiment stuff, why is he the only one named that cannot bring any Lumineth?
Avalenor can't either. He can only do Alarith and Vanari.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yep. Oh, you're right.
It is unfortunate. Maybe I'm wrong about this guy. If you guys think we're underrating Sevireth, let us know. I want to know what we are missing. He just seems really inefficient for his cost.
He's beautiful.
Let's talk about Scinari Wizards. So we'll start with the Calligrave, because we mentioned him a few times already. We gave him C tier because all he does is one thing, and the only thing he does is once per game. Otherwise, he's just casting one spell. But the thing he does is really cool. Is it good? I don't know. I don't know how good it is, but it's cool. Let's talk about it. I call him the Rune Fixer. Once per game, when you declare the ability to depict runes, before you depict a rune, you get to swap a previous rune on your battle scripture. So round 1, this does nothing, like literally nothing. But round 2 onwards, you can start swapping your runes out. You can only swap only once per battle, and you can only swap for a strength, wind, river, or mountain. You can't swap for a zenith, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that actually do in terms of practical terms? Well, let's say you did a mountain turn 1, but next turn you want to pivot into +4 move. Okay, well, I'll swap that mountain out for a wind, and then I'll activate strength, and then I'll get my +4 move. Or let's say I want to be super defensive this turn, but I didn't use river in a previous turn. Okay, well, I'll swap my previous rune for a river, and now I'll activate mountain. Now my units will have 5 upward and -1 wound. So it's like an on-demand, you get the best rune effect, the enhanced effect possible. And that is good. Is it good enough? I don't know.
The problem is that he's competing with the other wizards, and they are expensive. We need them to cast stuff. They bring other stuff to the army. This is a very cool ability. I really like the idea of the ability, and I think that if he goes down in points, you can put it into lists for sure. It gives you a lot of versatility, which I think is very useful against high competitive tournaments and stuff. I think he could be very significant in later turns where you need. It usually happens that you are in a close game, and at the last rounds, you really need to get to an objective. You really need to kill something, and this guy gives you the versatility to go exactly in the buffs or debuffs that you need. But the problem is that he's competing with the other wizards, and that is his problem actually. So I think if he goes down in points, we will see him. I also don't like, or maybe it's not going to happen, but if the ability would be like every round, it would be much better.
I would like if it cost a command point and it was usable every round. Yeah. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I think it's a good scroll. It is only a matter of the internal balance that he is not seeing a lot of play. when I read it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna grab this guy in every list. But then you start looking at the other synergies and stuff, and he doesn't make the cut. So as we are going to see, you're actually not bringing that many wizards, and you want the other wizards.
There's one wizard that's kind of hogging up all the wizard space in a list because she's so good. But one last thing I want to talk about with the Calligrave is the Zenith rune. Right, the Zenith rune requires, if you want to activate it on round 4, it requires 4 different runes. So if you ever double up runes, you're no longer activating Zenith on 4, and activating on 5 usually doesn't matter, right? So what this guy lets you do is double up on runes, and then before you Zenith on round 4, you can swap it, and then combo off, and then still get the +2 cast, and +4 move, and crit 5s. So that is a nice little piece of utility.
Or you bring him on a tech list. I think he goes very well with tech lists.
Yes, with tech lists, you can do things like a mountain on turn 1 with tech list, get everything a 5-up ward, or like wind with tech list and give everything a -1 hit, or like wind strength. But effectively, since tech list lets you get any rune anytime you want, you can do really, really, like the web of possibilities is insane. And then when you add the Calligrave, which lets you swap one of the runes out, all the double rune suddenly become in play, right? Like tech list still can't triple rune into Zenith, but you can do any 2 runes in your first 2 turns and then still get Zenith on round 3 with Techless. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but this guy does play into that. So for very specific lists, this guy can fit a very specific purpose, but he is competing against some good heroes.
Yep.
For example, the Scinari Enlightener, which is maybe the best wizard in the book. She's 180 points.
It's the only wizard too, and here the thing is that she's one of the only ones that can bring the artifacts and the heroic traits, which is a problem in this book. She is a Scinari, so she gives the Bladelords a 5-up ward. She has a okay shooting, and she's the best user of the silver one because being wizard level 2 with +1 to cast makes them very useful. She's 180, so she's cheaper than bringing 2 wizards. And she has still got that ability that it can let her cast the spell again. It's on a 4+ with the same casting roll, and it doesn't count for her casting. So she's actually casting 3 spells.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, yes.
If you roll a 4.
Let's say she's casting 3 spells, the third one with a debuff. The enemies can attempt to unban both times. This was a fact or answered before, but it would be nice to get it clarified.
It's different
again.
Now, because the way the ability has changed, it specifically says you cast it again with the same casting roll. So that the implication seems to be that the ability is being used again, which would give your opponent another chance to unbind and do all that stuff. I'm not sure about that. I just want to. I think that's how it works.
It used to be that way, so they clarified it. So I am guessing that it will be working the same. Yeah, but it would be nice to get a fact about that.
She can copy any unlimited spell. So if you go Scinari Council and you make all the lore spells unlimited, she can copy Overwhelming Heat. She can copy Elemental Push. She can copy Piercing Refraction. And we've been talking about how good Push is. If she alone is casting 2 pushes a turn, that's pretty good.
Amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
And also the beacon, the prismatic resonance, they are all unlimited, so you can also be casting into 2 different units the mortal wound, and it will be counted as having 1 more cast. We're going to discuss that a little bit later with a list. So she is almost S. I can see her almost in any list. She's one of the top using guys.
We didn't even talk about the last thing she does. She has her own spell. And it's really good.
Yeah. I was getting there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hair spell, which is Clarity of Thought, it buffs the infantry units to prevent critical hits, which is also very important against certain armies. I can see her, this being very significant against a lot of stuff, Raptors, Varangard, a lot of stuff that requires the criticals, the crit hits, the OBR, now that it will be getting the crits on 5s very easily. And it is also an endless unlimited spell, so she can copy this spell again. So it can also lean into a very defensive unit.
Yeah, it's just another buff you can stick on a Avalenor or any other Anvil unit. Like she's the only one who can do this, and she's also the best Silver Wand user. Like so much utility is packed into this 180 points. S tier is definitely in. She's like A+. She's definitely in contention for S tier.
Yeah, she's close to the Lord Regent.
Yeah, the only time I wouldn't use her really is if I'm using Techless, because I don't really need a 2-cast wizard for 180 points if I have a 4-cast wizard already.
Exactly. Yeah, you can bring the Calligrave and it will be +2 to the casts. So she's very good. You can bring multiple of her as well if you need to cast more and bring small wizards. And you can do very nice stuff with her.
Yeah, the only downside really is that she doesn't protect cavalry. Like, she can't cast her spell on Dawnriders to prevent criticals, which is really unfortunate because Dawnriders would love that spell. Or Windchargers for that matter.
Yep. Too bad for cavalry.
Cathallar, 130 points. Basically, the Calligrave just casts a spell and has one thing that she does. And her thing is, in the hero phase, on a 3+, an enemy unit within 18 inches cannot use commands. Now, that's really strong. Stormcast pay a lot of points and commit a lot of resources to denying commands. And being able to deny rally, because it's in the hero phase, it's before your opponent has a chance to rally. You can deny magical intervention. So, your Knight Relictor is about to translocate. No, he's not. On a 3+, he's just not translocating. It denies redeploy, which makes your charges more reliable. It denies all-out defense, because people will use all-out defense against Sentinel shooting, and then Sentinels, your melee units in combat. Shutting off all-out defense is really good. This is a fantastic buff, but you have to roll a 3+. And if you don't roll the 3+, she does nothing else. She just casts a spell.
Well, she's a wizard one, yes.
Yeah. So, would you rather risk
Scinari.
it? She is Scinari.
Scinari. It's a matter of points as well. Again, it's a very good ability which the opponent has to take into account because you're going to be trying to roll this every round. So it is a good ability. I just think it's a matter of, again, it's competing with the other wizards. So usually you tend to remove her from the list and bring in the Enlightener to get an extra cast because it brings a little bit more utility. But if it goes down, I can see a place for her. No question about it.
Yep. Yeah, it really is just an opportunity cost thing. Like if she was 120, so even then still,
10.
Yeah. I don't know how much cheaper she can get though, because that is a strong ability to shut off commands like that.
Yeah, it's once per turn army, right? You cannot spam her.
That's right.
So I don't think that's a problem.
All right, Loreseeker. So he's gone through a bunch of different iterations, and in this book, he does a few things. The first thing he does is he teleports anywhere on the board in the deployment phase, so you can jump onto any objective and immediately gain control of it. And then if you're taking turn 1, you just walk away casually. Just see ya. Bye. I'm out.
Bye.
Right? Combine that with the Flawless Commander thing that I talked about when we talked about the Riverblades. You can have a lot of board control in the deployment phase, which is really good against stymieing aggression, controlling objectives. It's useful. It's not super useful, but it's useful. And then
go
ahead.
Well, in this army, it's nice to do that. We are going to be seeing that in a list because you want the game to last. So going into turn 1 and taking the objective allows you to don't push yourself forward into the dangerous position. And there are a couple of ways to do that. And then you can start building up your runes to become stronger in later game. So that is like his best ability. It also has an ability in the movement phase that you can pick a terrain feature, and it will give +1 to cast to every wizard within 3 for the rest of the battle, which you cannot pick by faction terrain. And the only downside is that it's in the movement phase, so he cannot benefit from that in the first turn. And it combos very well with the silver one for the +2 to the casting.
Yeah, so you can stick an Enlightener in the garrison and then have her float next to this terrain that's buffed by the Loreseeker, and now she's +2 cast, because she'll have the silver wand, obviously. He's interesting. It's really important for Lumineth to start the game properly, because if you have to start the game contesting objectives with 2 units of Wardens, let's say, like the cheapest way you can contest objectives, that's 240 points down, because your opponent gets a free charge onto them and he gets to kill them. So why start the game like that? Why not just, like, your opponent has to control objectives anyway. Why not use the objectives as the screens? Why use screens? So that's where units like the Loreseeker and Riverblades come into play with that trait. Being able to just move forward, take objectives, and then move back means you commit nothing. You have a flawless round 1. And the longer the game goes on, the better it gets for Lumineth, because your defensive bonuses get more powerful as you take pieces away from your enemy. Your healing keeps you healthy. And as your opponent does less damage to you, that health matters more. And if you get to rank level or round 4 and you get the Zenith rune, you can really start to pop off. So long games is where Lumineth shine. And this guy ensures that you can spend 1 round not committing any resources at all.
Yeah, just building yourself up for a bigger casting, for bigger buffs and stuff.
Yeah. Now it'd be
Yeah, and
totally
you also
different
force.
if this army had like a Heaven Sent equivalent where you could get a unit back to life once per game. This guy's ranking would be a lot weaker, right? It's specifically because this army does not have any recursion at all.
Yeah, and by doing the strategy, you also force the opponent to go forward and take the objective, so they can get into a bad position.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Alania and Elithor, Eclipsean War Sages. So we've talked about a lot of Scinari wizards. These guys are also a Scinari wizard, but instead of being a one-cast wizard, they're like the Enlightener. They can be a two-cast wizard. And then they have the option of swapping into a damage-dealing mode, which is kind of interesting. So if you consider an Enlightener that can't take Silver Wand, but can turn into an okay hammer in later rounds, like starting round 3, 4, 5, doing max 25 with the sword is decent. It doesn't have crit mortals, and it's only rend 1, so it's like, I don't know how good that is going to end up actually being. Even if it does 30 max damage, you could just have an Enlightener and then have 5 Bladelords, right? Like, that's kind of the problem with this unit is the cost, right? Like this, it does cool things, but for 290 points, you can already get a 2-cast wizard that gets the Silver Wand, and then you can have Bladelords that have a 5-up board and 10 health. Like, it feels like they crammed 2 units into one model, and it's not cost effective enough. And to make up for it, it has Total Eclipse, which is interesting. It basically makes one enemy unit spend 1 more CP to use a command.
Do you remember when this spell was board wide?
Yes, I remember those days. Those were not good days. But it's a lot weaker than that now. Shutting off maybe 1 command or just draining 1 CP from your opponent, it's hard to quantify how good that is. Right? And if your opponent knows it's an option, they can play into it. They can just save a CP. They can not all-out defense against one thing. They can not redeploy.
They can spend it on a redeploy that doesn't matter or something.
Yeah, it's not crucial. It is a unique spell. Only this unit can cast it, but it's not an essential spell for your game plan.
Because the wording, if I understood it correctly, it's that you have to spend the extra CP or you won't get the effect. So you can just say, okay, all-out attack. Okay, you have to spend an extra. Okay, I won't. You lose 1 CP and doesn't matter.
Yeah, and then the effect is gone. Yeah,
the effect is gone. So, and then when you really want to have the good CP, you can spend it later. So it's not a bad ability, but you can play around it. You can bring a different unit then within the range, and then doesn't have to spend an extra CP.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
No, it's not bad. It's not good either. Like, that's the issue.
Yeah,
it is on 2s, 3s. It is Vanari, so maybe some kind of gimmick list with Lyrior to give these guys River into Strength for +1 wound. You don't want to pick them with a Rune. They're not good enough.
They are a good unit to have at the end of the game because they can slap and usually there's not much in the board. I have once wiped 20 witch elves with them, which was very fun, and it gave me the game actually. But it's like a niche. It's a very flavorful Warscroll. I really like it. It's very flavorful. But yes, it's a point cost again, because you can bring an Enlightener and you have 110 extra points. So
yeah, it's a point issue. I don't know what point value is correct for this, but a little bit cheaper would be better.
Yeah, they could get cheaper. They don't seem that strong, honestly, because they cannot get the +1 to cast, which is a problem in this army.
Hey, Light of Eltharion. People are going to hate us because we're not giving him S tier.
Yes,
that's the first thing I'm going to say. Let's talk about why he's good, and then we'll talk about why he's not S. So he has a decent shooting attack, 3d3, so it's an average of 6. Right? It's okay. It's fine. It's not excellent. It's fine. Melee, he does 15 on his main weapon with crit hits, and then 6 on his off weapon, which is only rend 1, but it does go up to rend 3 against hero monsters. So this guy is low volume but high accuracy, very built for killing hero monsters in particular, right? Like they're very scared of him. He ignores all hit and wound debuffs, which is excellent because there's a lot of those in the game. And he just, casually has this ability where he just teleports into any combat that he wants. No dice roll.
It's insane. It's so fun.
He just teleports from one side of the board into combat with another unit that's in combat. It is so freaking strong. I'm surprised this ability is as strong as it is. Usually an effect like this would be like, you have to spend a command point, or it's on like a 3-up. It has to happen. There are so many abilities in this game that are so much worse than this and require rolling 3-ups. And this guy's like, nah, I got this. Yeah. So like, you charged a screen. You charged a screen of wardens. Okay, you're fighting Eltharion now too. Surprise. You can also just slingshot him in aggressively. Like, let's say you have Dawnriders or Wind Spirits. They move forward, they charge in, and then, oops, Eltharion's right next to them. And
or
they both
Riverblades.
or Riverblades, yeah, they get to deployment phase.
Riverblades are good for this.
Yeah, you do a deployment phase move, then they move 7 inches, then they charge, and then oops, Altharion's there. Yeah. So you can also use him just to spread -1 hit and wound effects, because the runes specify while you're in combat with this unit, you have -1 hit or -1 wound. So if you give him the wind rune, for example, or the enhanced mountain rune for -1 to wound, you can teleport him into combat to protect other units, and he becomes like a defensive piece, which is really good.
Yeah, you can pin the opponent as well. You can do a lot of stuff. This is a very, very, very great ability, very versatile ability. You can do a lot of stuff, and that is why it makes it almost S tier. We didn't put him on S because we think that there are lists that can be very good without him.
Yes.
Especially the tech list lists. I think that him and tech list together are too expensive.
His main competition is 10 more Bladelords, and in a lot of lists that's going to have a 5-up ward, because you're going to be near the Enlightener, because she's in almost every list, right? So that's 20 health with a 5-up ward, which is better than 7 health on a 4-up ward. Their max damage output's going to be significantly better, max 31 as opposed to this guy. Now, they don't have the teleport into combat ability, obviously. That's where this guy shines, right? So it's a matter of how well can you utilize that ability. And I think there's going to be a lot of scenarios where Light of Altharion will teleport into a combat, and then he'll be stuck there, right? Because he can't teleport out. And if your opponent ever gets the chance to just collapse on him, he will die. He is not durable by any means. He seems durable because he has a 4-up ward, and everybody has an experience of 4-up ward spiking. But on average, he's only 14 health on a 3-up save. And there is a lot of ward hate in the game. There's Knight Relictor, there's the KO Profiteers, there's lots of ways to reduce or negate wards entirely. And then this guy just crumbles like a paper bag. So...
And honestly, the biggest downside for this guy is that it's very swingy, because there are very low attacks. So it happens a lot that you send him in and he does nothing, literally nothing, because you can roll 4 ones in a row, and then roll a 2, and then you wound, and then they save 1, and you do nothing.
Everything he does is swingy. His damage is swingy. His defenses are swingy because he's relying on 3-up saves and 4-up wards, and sometimes you fail like a couple dice rolls, and that's it. That's it. He's over. So
he's a scalpel.
Yeah, he's a really cool scalpel. Really, really interesting. But I don't think he needs to be in every Lumineth list. I think he will be in many, like probably over 50%. But I don't know if he's necessarily the best way to play the army, because he's so expensive, and all he does is this one specific thing. He has no utility. Yeah, and he's just a positioning threat piece, really. Yes. And once you play against him, he's not as scary as he seems. There are opportunities to kill him.
Yes, you can play against it for sure, but he's a very good piece as well. You have to be very smart when playing with him and against him.
But once you've seen the play pattern and you understand it and you know how to counter it, he's a lot less menacing than he seems.
Yeah, and the other problem with him is that the mechanism for bringing him into combat, it is not cheap. It's gonna be hard that you charge with some wardens and make him go in wherever you want to. So you have to bring Dawnriders or Riverblades and play them like they are easier to avoid. I don't know if I am making myself clear with this, but it is not that easy to get him in where you want him to be.
Well, if you're using him offensively, wouldn't 20 Sentinels just be better? Because instead of having to commit this guy to melee combat for 280 points, you could have 20 Sentinels shooting at whatever the Dawnriders were going to fight. Right?
Yeah, I like him defensively more, I think.
Yeah, defensively is where he shines. But the problem with playing him... Sorry, go on.
If they manage to tag your Sentinels, now you're fighting Altharion.
Well, in that case, they're not going to fight the Sentinels. They're just going to ignore the Sentinels and kill Altharion.
Yeah, but you can place him in a way in which they cannot attack him with all the weapons.
Yeah, you have to game stuff like that. I like him defensively a lot, but the problem I have with him defensively is the power is in your opponent's hands, whether or not they can deal with him. So if you are familiar and you know that, if you just assume that in every combat, how you finish your charge, you're going to have Altharion there in the worst possible position for you. If you just assume that as the case, if I charge here, he's there. If I charge here, he's there. Once you've got that in your mind, you can play around it. And once you play around it, you pretty much negate what this guy does.
And if you send infantry with a lot of wounds unit, he's not that threatening.
Yeah, he's max 21. Sometimes he crits and he goes higher than that, but he's only max 21.
He's very accurate, but not that high damage.
Yeah, he's most threatening to monsters for sure. Like a hero monster profile with 14 health, 15 health, something like that. That's like his bread and butter.
Yeah. So just to summarize a little bit, he is very good. He's a very great ability, but we don't see it in every list. So that is why we are not giving him the S tier.
Yes, he's like an A+ for sure. He's up there with Sentinels and Enlightener as one of the top 3 units.
Yeah, and the Lord Regent.
And let's talk about his Scourge Ghyran version, which will be legal for a few more months. So it's basically the same, except -1 health. And instead of teleporting into combat, he can be revived once per game, which I actually really like. I really like that ability because, we've said this multiple times now, there's no recursion in this army. Everything that dies is dead forever. But here you have a hammer unit that can be revived once per game, and it's a hero, so it can take Guarded Hero and Obscuring, and he can just walk onto an objective, and if he dies, that's okay, because he comes back to life once per game. And he can come back. He can come back with Magical Intervention, which is really cool.
That's very good. I think that he's almost the same utility as... Well, it is not exactly the same role, but he is almost as good as the other Eltharion. He's a B+ for me.
I agree,
this
B+.
ability to bring him back, it's very good, because sometimes you just send him in, and if he dies, he dies. And you can buff him, and he's not as survivable as before, because he lost the Ethereal spell, which was insane on him.
Yeah.
3 up Ethereal with a 4 up ward save, with ignoring one damage per phase. He was so hard to kill. So people would just ignore him. So that is like the drawback. But in the other way, if you start thinking about it, he usually didn't die. In my games, he didn't die because people stopped trying to kill him. So now you are going to bring him back, because I don't know, in my 20 games that I played with, or 30 games with that list, he died like 3 times. So now you can be like a little bit more aggressive, and he might die, but you can bring him back.
Yeah,
I really like him.
Personally, the way I play, I would actually rather have this guy. But that's just me. Yes. I know this is not how most players are going to play the game. The flashiness of teleporting into combat is really cool. It's hard to deny that that's a really cool ability and really strong. But the way I approach the game, I think of it as in terms of resources. And in terms of resources, this guy is 2 packed into 1, which I really, really like.
Yeah, the other one makes the opponent make the decisions, as you said. Either if you're going to charge them or if they are going to charge you. And in here, you have the decision. How do you move him? Where do you put him? So I like this play a little bit better. The other one's more fun, and it has the advantage that you are leaving the hard choices to your opponent. So you are forcing them or enticing them to make mistakes. And in here, it's you the one that has to play him very well.
Yeah, and what if your opponent doesn't make mistakes?
Exactly. In high-end tournaments or stuff, the opponents make way less mistakes. So I think that this guy might be still competitive. I also think that just as the book is coming out and we will start seeing tournaments with this book in 2 or 3 weeks, people might just let go for the Scourge of Ghyran, because we all know that it's going to go. I don't know for the other armies, but for this army, I am pretty sure that they are all going to go.
Yeah.
Because the command trait it has even the same name. So...
Yeah, that's an obvious cue.
Yeah, that's an obvious thing that it's going to go away. So I think that we might not see him that much, because people will start skewing away from the Scourge of Ghyran, particularly in Lumineth.
It's a shame, because I think if this version sticks around, given enough time, I think the competitive scene would come around to using the Scourge version.
Yes, I agree as well. We could put him in A.
He's a B+. He's a B+. Okay, let's talk about Teclis. So I have been playing against Teclis for many, many years now, since he came out. And
but not for the past season.
Not the past season. He has not been around, because he was an auto-include in Lumineth for a very long time. And he is no longer an auto-include as a 4th edition. And in the index, unfortunately, I think he was too weak. He just wasn't really worth playing. Yeah, he was at his peak when manifestations were, like, before they got nerfed into the ground. He was just summoning 4 of them. There was no banish bonus. They were 4-up saves for the most part. Like, he was just creating bodies every turn. And
yeah, but even then, he was weird.
Yeah.
I never liked him.
Even at his peak, he was just okay. In this book, he is quite different. And I really like him because I understand the way Lumineth have been playing historically, and I think this guy can bring them back into that playstyle. And when he's doing that, I think he's better than he was previously. So like the 2nd edition and early 3rd edition playstyles of Teclis, where you create a castle and you blast people with mortal wounds and you just take very good trades, you bait people into that. I think that playstyle works, and I think Teclis is very good in that playstyle. So let's talk about what he does, right? He's got a shooting attack. It's 2s, Ren 2, because why not?
Yeah, finally.
Yeah, and it's like minimum 4 damage, sometimes 6. Like, it's okay. It's fine. It can snipe a small hero. It can add some ping damage. Consider always when you're looking at the shooting on these heroes, like the Enlightener has like a staff shot. All that stuff just adds up because we have Sentinels that are doing damage constantly. This isn't damage that's being done in a vacuum. It's damage that's being added to the Sentinels that are in your list.
Exactly.
Yeah, his melee
will not all-out defense this attack, so they usually do some chip damage to increase the maximum damage of Sentinels or other stuff, even in melee.
Exactly.
You do this shoot, and you charge with the Wardens, you do the mortal wounds, then you fight, and then you end up doing more damage than what you would expect.
So his melee damage is just bad. We don't really care about his melee damage. That's not what we're here to talk about, right?
Oh, it's better.
It's fine. It's fine.
I really like that it does damage now.
Yeah, it's a monster that doesn't hit on 4s, and that's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it's not bad. It can be impactful.
It
wasn't before.
It's not why you bring it, right? Not at
all.
No,
it is not. Okay. No, not for sure not.
Defensively.
He can put himself out of some situations with a few models left, and he can kill them and get outside.
Yeah, he's not going to get tied down. That's the point.
Yeah.
Defensively, he's looking pretty good, right? The 4-up save is back. He's got 16 health and a 5-up ward. So he's not dying to a single volley from long strikes, which is a very important breakpoint. Once you're a big monster that doesn't die to long strikes in one shot, that means the Stormcast player has to commit more resources, or more importantly, they have to commit melee, which you're not committing melee against Teclis in a castle. That's just not happening.
No.
So, and
then you're rallying him back.
And exactly, once you survive, you're rallying constantly, right? So this guy in Lord
and only the idea that you know that he's gonna rally back with 9 dice, probably for 2 turns before you shoot him again.
Yes,
makes you think twice if you're gonna shoot him or you are gonna shoot something else.
Exactly.
So it's more defensive than it looks.
Yes, but here's the thing. If you don't kill Teclis and you're within 18 inches, he's going to start blasting you with his laser beam every turn. He's going to spend a command point on magical intervention every turn, and he's going to blast your whole army for D3 mortal wounds. Everything that's within 18 inches of the spell portal gets blasted for D3 mortals. So he's a high threat piece, even though his combat stats and whatever aren't very good. He does actually do a significant amount of damage. He will just rot your entire enemy down every single turn.
And it all adds up. So before he was like insignificant, his melee damage, and now you can add up the shooting is better, the mortal wounds are better, and the melee is better. So if you add all of that up, you can think of a position of charging Teclis into something and wipe it.
Yeah, he's got that utility now. He didn't have that before.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the rune thing, I want to finish talking about his wizard aspect. So he's a wizard 4, which means you probably don't need to bring any other wizards in your list. You know, maybe a Calligrave, maybe a Loreseeker, but you don't bring more than one additional wizard, right? He does have a +1 cast aura, which is cool, but since you're using Zenith at some point with him, for like rounds 3, 4, 5, you want to use Zenith with him. So he's going to be +3 cast. All your wizards are going to be +3 cast, and he's 4 casts. You don't need that many more wizards, right? So I would bring maybe a Windmage, or maybe a Loreseeker, or maybe a Calligrave, but usually just one more wizard.
Mm-hmm.
He's casting one spell with a 12, which can't be modified, guaranteed, on your turn. So that could be Transporting Vortex. That could be his Light of Truth. That could be Elemental Push. That could be Realm Shield, right? Like he's guaranteeing.
You really need that turn.
Yeah, the thing you need most that turn. And if you don't, just default to Light of Truth and deal mortal wounds, right?
Yeah, this is very good.
Yeah,
particularly because if you remember the runes, one of the most important ones are the 5-up ward save. And as we're going to see, there's one spell. We still have the spell for 5-up ward save. So you can pick a different rune and guarantee that you are going to get the 5-up ward save, wholly within 12 of it.
Yeah, you could do like River into Strength, into Teclis ability, into Zenith on turn 3. That's a perfectly valid path. You don't even need to bring a Calligrave, and that's a good path, I think. Because this guy guarantees the Realm Shield, because he knows both lores. And he also knows the spells of all the other wizards. So if you bring a Windmage, Teclis can cast the Vortex guarantee. There's no dice roll required. Yeah. Instead of doing the autocast 12, he can pick a wizard or priest within 18 inches and just sap their power level by 1. Most wizards and priests in the game are power level 1, so that means they basically can't use wizard or priest anymore, right? And that means you also can't use magical intervention within 18 inches of tech list for the most part. If you're trying to recycle a unit, like if you're trying to recycle prosecutors, you're not going to. Unless you have to be obscured to make that work, because tech list will just reduce your power by 1, and you can't recycle anymore.
Yeah, this is gonna be a bad thing for Stormcast for sure, because you can do stuff. So you have to be very careful, and if you bring the Knight Relictor close to him, to 12 to shoot him, and you don't kill him, you are leaving your long strikes there.
yeah. You have to make sure you get into obscuring, and who knows what's going to happen with obscuring in the next season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting for sure.
Okay, and then his spell. It just pick any number of visible enemy units within 18 and deal D3 mortals to them. Not the bad D3. It's not pick 3 units within 18. It's just pick every unit. So, yeah. And he can cast this through the spell portal, and he can cast it with magical intervention through the spell portal. So you have it's crazy.
And I think that you can get to 4 D3 mortal wounds into a single unit, which is insane. With different spells.
Yeah, you can do this and a heat and piercing refraction. Like he can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
So I really like him. And then he's a monster. He can activate the battle formation that we talked about, the Ancient Spirits. That's really good, actually, because that effectively makes him minimum 17 health. Usually 18 health, because you'll get shot and then you'll get fought, right? And then the whole time you have a ward 5 up on that, and that scales. And that scales with your healing. So like him activating the battle formation is really good.
Yeah, he's good. He's honestly good.
Okay.
He's not that weak against shooting anymore.
No.
Obviously, a list that it's built only in shooting will kill him. 12 Raptors will kill him.
Who's playing that list? Yeah, that's not a list.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. That is what I was going to say. It's not an amazing list.
Like, tech list probably won't do well in teams, because counter list to tech list will be made, and then he won't see play.
Exactly.
But in singles format, which is what we care about here on this channel, he's going to be really good. Now, let's talk about the rune thing.
Yeah.
So, once per game, tech list can depict a rune on the scripture. You don't get the effect of depict rune, the ability, but it's like you draw an extra one on. You accelerate a turn. So it's like, it's turn 1. Okay, I'm going to draw a wind, and then I'm going to use depict rune, and I'm going to draw a strength.
You cannot do it in round 1.
Oh, yeah. Not in round 1. Sorry, not in round 1. But you know what I mean? Like round 2. Yeah. Specific editor's note to change that.
Same as the Calligrave, I think. You cannot do it in round 1.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to look into this now, because if it's like the Calligrave, there's a reason it doesn't work on the Calligrave. I don't know if that's the same reason for
you wouldn't do it in the Calligrave anyway.
Hold on. Once for battle start or battle round, cannot. Yeah. Okay. So the reason is specifically it says you can't use it in the first round. So yeah, editor's note change that.
Because you could add a rune and get the bubble buff at round 1.
Yeah, or you could pick 4 units. For example, you could depict a mountain and then depict another mountain. Yeah. But yeah, round 2. You can depict an extra rune, or round 3, you can hold off and then depict an extra rune and then zenith right away.
And here it's important that you guys think that before you pick your rune, use tech list, because if you do it the other way around, you wouldn't get the buff.
Yes, you won't get the enhanced effect. Yeah,
it also says it in the Warscroll. So use tech list first, tech list ability first, and then you pick your rune, so you get the enhanced effects.
Yeah, I would never catch it. I would never give a gotcha on people, because if they because I can't interact with them when they're doing this. So I'm okay if they do it in whatever order. It's weird that it even specifies the order, but whatever.
Yeah, don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a dick. So tech list does a lot. I think he's worth his cost. The thing is, when you build a tech list, you're building a tech list. The whole list has to keep in mind the strengths and weaknesses of this unit and play into them effectively. I think you can make a list that doesn't accelerate to zenith, but it's just so easy to accelerate to a round 3 zenith, especially if you play slow round 1. You're really just one round of the game you're missing out on the zenith buff. And then rounds 3, 4, 5, you're crushing with +4 move, +2 cast, and crit 5s on everything. So
the thing is,
it's so tempting to build a zenith list.
You will be bringing, if you bring tech list, I think that you are going to be bringing Sentinels.
Not every time. I think Windchargers could work here, because the thing with tech list is he plays a castle style. And the thing a castle needs more than anything else is speed to get out of that formation later. And Sentinels are a big footprint, and they're hard to defend. So I could actually see a case where you bring Techless and no Sentinels. I think you will generally have Techless and Sentinels together, but not always.
Yeah, it could be. The thing about Techless, and I am not sure about this, it's that I still think that it is quite expensive. You are going to be having an elite army that you are going to struggle a lot with scoring.
Yeah, you'll need to dip into MSU Dawnriders for speed and screening. So I think like a list with like 3 or 4 MSU Dawnriders, because you'd go probably War Host of Duality, so it's like you're fighting like you're reinforced. So I don't think it's that bad. But yeah, it's the whole list has to consider his strengths and weaknesses, for sure.
So it might go a little bit down, maybe.
I think he's going to be strong enough for internal balance reasons. I'd like him to be cheaper. But for external, I think it's going to be strong enough that he won't justify any buffs on himself. Other units in the army might go down, but techless lists, I think, are going to be good enough that you don't need to cut their cost on him at all.
Yeah, I have my doubts there. Yeah. Because I have been playing the army with a similar playstyle, very tanky and like cagey. And I think this one's a little bit worse than that. It's a little bit squishier because you don't get all the buffs at the same time that you used to. So we'll see. We'll see. And the meta is, although this guy works better against Nurgle because it's gonna be just mortal wound spam, which ignores all the debuffs and stuff.
Well, he's just gonna kill all the Nurgle heroes. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. Well, unless they are unobscuring.
Yeah, that's something he's definitely gonna struggle with obscuring.
Yeah.
So I think he's like a low A tier.
Yep, me too.
He's not. He feels better than a B tier unit. But he's very specific. Like he only goes in techless lists. He's not something you splash into anything else. Yep. All right, here is the chart. This is what we use to kind of sort our thinking out in terms of we compare units like this because it's very easy to see a lot of similarities. For example, there's a lot of units that move 6 inches. There's a lot of units that deal 41 max damage. There's a lot of units that deal 31 max damage. So breaking it down this way just helps us think. And a lot of the revelations from this is that, man, Wardens are very good for their costs, right? You can just see 240 for a similar profile to a lot of other units. They definitely do have some downsides, like not having any innate rend, only 20 health. But there's a lot of upsides. Another benefit of doing it this way is you can start to see something like Light of Eltharion is he looks really scary and he will be very impactful in your games. But when you start looking at it in terms of point cost, max damage, like he is more accurate than most units, but his max damage is not very good. So while he is very good against monster heroes, so when you play him into like a Feck Monster Mash, he's going to have a great time. Into a lot of other armies, he is not going to feel very good at all. Yeah.
Yeah, this might be the good moment to mention that the max damage of the army, it's actually pretty low.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to be the hardest matches for Lumineth. Things like Nurgle or even Gargants, maybe. Gargants
Soulblight like, could be an issue. Skaven, Skaven definitely an issue.
Yeah, a lot of clan rats and stuff. They're going to stop you from scoring and you're going to have a hard time dealing with them. So I think that's the biggest flaw of the army. And for that reason, I don't think that it's going to be like broken as many people is thinking. You'll still get to see. But yeah, this table highlights that thing.
It really makes the Ballista and Wind Spirit look pretty bad. Single-digit numbers are not good to see. So summarizing our thoughts in this review for these units, we've placed them here onto this easily readable tier list so people can spread this around the internet and other people can click negative reaction emojis on Discord and be like, oh, I can't believe these guys are so stupid. I can't believe they... Yeah. Oh, please do keep in mind the tier list, the ranking system that we use. S tier is like too good, arguably. A tier is where like we think... Our A tier is what other people consider S tier. Right, I just wanted to make sure that there was a differentiation between units that are good and then units that are like so good they might be too good. Right?
Yes, I think this is pretty balanced, honestly.
Yeah, I do consider the top 3 units in this army to be Lord Regent, the Enlightener, and the Light of Eltharion. I think those are the 3 best units.
Lyrior very close by behind.
Yeah, Lyrior kind of just needs the list, but that's the best. Like all the other units that are A tier fit in the Lyrior list, right? Bladelords, Sentinels, Dawnriders, Wardens. These are the 4 best non-hero units, and all of them fit together with Lyrior. So that list almost makes itself.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very balanced. The only F tier is this guy, which is terrible. And the Lord Regent on horse. The horse took all of his fun abilities from him.
The horse costs an extra 50 points.
Yeah. Other than that, the book is very balanced, and I think that it is a very fun book. Even if something starts, maybe someone will find the biggest and most strongest list and will do well with it. And if that list gets nerfed, I think that we can skew into something else.
Well, what I like about this book is that there's so many different play styles that are created by
Yes.
the runes and the different temples and how they interact with each other, that even if you're not playing the best list, you're still playing a good list and you're being incentivized to play that list. Like the Alarith stuff is probably not the best thing you can do, but it's fun and it's thematic and it gives you a reason to build into more mountain runes, which is good. Like it's good to have options.
Yeah, and if points start moving, because I don't know how long are we going to have this book, but it might look like it's going to be some years. As points are moving around, you are going to be able to make different lists, take different units, make different combinations pretty neatly. So that is the thing that I like the most about this book.
Okay, section 2, allegiance abilities. We're going to use the same ranking system we use here because there are opportunity costs present. So S tier, things that are arguably too powerful, scaling all the way down to F tier, where things are too niche and never worth using. First up, let's look at battle formations. There are 4 for Lumineth.
Wow.
First up is the Warhost of Duality, which lets you fight with 2 units at the same time. Now, I think this is excellent because one of the things Lumineth have to do, because they're a low volume unit, because they're a low volume damage army, they have to combine their units together to finish things off. So they need to combine shooting and melee, usually. And you typically don't want to combine melee and melee because your opponent will have a chance to hit you before your second unit gets to attack. So this is where the Warhost of Duality comes into play. It lets you put another melee unit into combat so you can do, for example, 2 units of Bladelords are fighting at the same time instead of just 1, and then you could still add shooting into that. So this is how Lumineth, I think, need to approach battle, and this just fits into that playstyle perfectly.
Yeah, this is the way. I think that this is going to be the way to go into a meta with a lot of high wound density, because you will have to do mortal wounds in the hero phase, then shooting damage, then with charging and doing something with the wardens, for example, to do some mortal wounds, and then fighting with 2 units. So that will be a way to cheat that low high damage. And it's a great ability. It's one of the strongest abilities in the game, honestly. Even defensively, it's very good as well, because they have to consider that they are going to fight Eltharion or the other unit that they charged, and then you are going to fight with whatever is left from that unit and with the other unit. Mm-hmm. So it will be the most used battle formation for sure. We gave it A tier because I think that you can build lists without it. We both think that the other ones are good as well. And that is something very good about the new books, that they are doing better, bringing stuff that can be useful. But yes, it's a very, very good ability. We used to have it just like a battle trait, but now you have to pick it. And
it's a good choice.
It doesn't cost points.
Yeah, I'm surprised that this next one does cost points. 20 points on Pilgrims of Hyshia? Hi. Okay.
Whatever.
It lets you power through even if you didn't charge.
It's a palindrome.
It is, yeah. How about that?
Nice.
Crafty elves and their symmetry.
Yeah.
So this is really good. Trick of the Light lets you power through without having to charge, which means in the enemy turn, you can just power through, which is great. Now, this seems great because when you think of power through, you think of all the ways you've used power through successfully. But what you don't think about is all the opportunities you couldn't use power through, such as you're stuck in combat with something that has more or equal health to you, or you're stuck in a situation where you're fully surrounded and you don't have fly, or you're stuck in a situation where you don't have very high move and then you don't get a very good power through. Where power through excels is with flying units, with high movement units, and with high health units. And basically none of those are in this army, right? Yes. Most of the units we're going to be using, if you look at our A tier selection there, Dawnriders, Wardens, Sentinels, Bladelords, you still have to have more health than the target. So it actually ends up being pretty bad for all those units because Wardens just never get to use it. Bladelords only get to use it against the weakest chaff in the game. And Dawnriders can't use it against anything that really matters, like other cavalry and things like that. So the actual amount of time you get to use this is pretty limited. But where this shines, there's also other limitations, right? Power through can only be used once per turn. You still need to use... It costs a command point. You have to do that. And this army really wants to use command points for other things like rally and magical intervention. There's a lot of issues, right? And if you're playing monsters, which is where this would land because monsters have more health, the other sub-faction we're going to talk about soon, I think it's just better if you have a monster. Like, it's really good. Yeah. You can also just get out of combat with elemental push. So, like, best case scenario with this is you're using the Light of Eltharion and you're just pushing him out of combat so that he can teleport to a different combat in the following turn, right? That's the best case scenario.
Yeah, I think that is the best use for this that we can think of. It was like charging with Eltharion. Well, not charging with a different unit, putting Eltharion into the combat, finish the combat, then power throwing with Eltharion away, and then trying to teleport him, and then use the spell to bring the other unit away or something.
Yeah,
like
so to do that, though, you have to power through, which costs a CP.
Yeah.
You have to be in range of a wizard who's going to transporting vortex, and that costs a CP. And then it's not guaranteed by any means. So, like, the best case scenario isn't because if any of that fails, Eltharion's dead, right? He's going to get charged, and he's just going to die. So
yeah, and it costs 20 points. I don't know why.
Yeah.
This is the worst one.
Yeah. The other ones I really like, the other uses that I can think of, pushing Mountain Spirits out of combat, because Mountain Spirits, like I said, if you get charged, you deal 3 to 5 mortal wounds, guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And pushing Mountain Spirits out of combat so you can rally, heal them up, and then use this rampage when they get charged again. That feels pretty good, actually. And
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, and Wind Spirits, they can get out of combat. That way they can do covering fire, and then after the covering fire, they can move D6 plus whatever in order to get away. So, as only one unit can use this per turn, it still costs command points. B tier might be generous. This might be a C tier.
Yeah, the point cost is not that big of a deal because, as we are going to see, most of our lists end up being like 1940, 1920. So it's not that big of a deal, but it shouldn't cost points, honestly.
Yeah. If this was in Stormcast, I would cream myself. It would be so good. Oh, God. It would
be great.
Just imagine Stormdrake Guard never getting stuck in combat.
Yeah, Stormdrake Guard charges, then power through, and you charge with a different unit, and at the end of the other turn, you also power through with them. Nice.
Well, you can still only power through one unit per turn, but yeah.
Yeah, so one turn one and one turn the other one, you can do a lot of stuff with that.
It would be so good in any other army except this one. Okay, Elementor Guardians. I really like this one. I'm surprised at how much I like this one. I like this one so much that I try to twist my list to include a monster, sometimes Techless, sometimes the Wind Spirit, because reducing a point of damage in Lumineth is really good. We're talking about 1 point of damage in every phase. So let's say best case scenario, they're doing damage in the hero phase, in the shooting phase, in the charge or movement phase, and then in the combat phase, and then sometimes end of turn, right? But let's say it adds about 4 health to a unit every single turn. Well, that stacks really well with 5-up boards. It stacks well with -1 hit effects, which are reducing the amount of damage you take. Every defensive bonus you get just gets better and better than the previous one. So stacking this as like the cherry on top is really nice because it's guaranteed. It's not a spell. It doesn't cost command points. It's a pretty generous aura because the monsters have pretty big bases. And it works for everything. Yeah.
Will this combine with the spell from the Prismatic Resonance?
No, because this says the first damage point that would be allocated, and the other ability also says the first damage point that would be allocated. And you can only have the first once. Once the second point is allocated, it's no longer the first point.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
It would be crazy. This works very well with Eltharion as well.
Yes, with his 4-up ward. Yeah, every point, giving him +1 health, like, is like giving him +2 health because he has a 4-up ward. He ignores half the damage he takes.
And it's even better because you roll the ward saves first.
Yes.
So if you ignore it with the ward saves and they want to shoot you with something else, they will think it twice because you got no damage.
And rallying Eltharion, value. Yeah. Really good.
Yeah, it's a very good ability. I think that it might go up a bit when the other spell lore is gone.
10 points is fine. Because you have to pay for a monster.
No, in a tier. Not in points. In a tier. Because when you're bringing Techless, he knows all the spell lore, so you're usually picking the Prismatic Resonance, and you have that spell. So it is not useful to bring this. You will just cast it and have it in a big bubble. He's a very big base. So when that is gone, this might be better in Techless lists.
Yeah, I really like this. It's like a B+ for me personally, maybe an A even. I'm torn between this and the Warhost.
Yeah, the problem is that some lists you will not be bringing monsters, so...
Yeah, well, you don't bring this in
only
that case.
One monster.
Warhost is the default.
Yeah, it's very good.
Well, let's say you're bringing a list that brings like a few reinforced hammers, and you're not going to be fighting with multiple units at once. You know, like if you're bringing 2 shooting blocks and reinforced Dawnriders, you don't need to fight with 2 units at once.
Yeah, if you're dealing the damage and magic and shooting, this one's better.
Exactly.
For sure.
Okay, Scinari Council. It makes 4 spells unlimited, and those spells are Overwhelming Heat, which is kind of cool, being able to do that multiple times. You have to pick different units, different enemies, but having the movement of multiple enemy units is pretty decent. Piercing Refraction lets you deal splat horde mortals to 2 different units. That's honestly not very good. It's okay. It's fine. Elemental push multiple times. That's money. That's what this is. This whole battle formation is just elemental push multiple times. I love this. You can
combined with the prismatic resonance, you can deal several units half movement and then no run abilities, which could be so messed up.
Yeah.
If you manage yourself to go, if Nurgle lets you go first and you have this stuff, they are not gonna move.
Well, I'm gonna tell you the prismatic resonance spells are all unlimited anyway. This has no effect on them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but you can combine this with the prismatic resonance. Different units will be half move and no run abilities.
No, because this you can't have both lores. Like I guess if you have Techless, I guess if you have Techless,
with Techless for sure.
But if you have Techless, you're not. I guess that's like a weird list with Techless and another wizard, and they're both casting heat. It's possible. Yeah,
it's a weird list, but if you bring in Techless and you have the prismatic resonance, it's a very good strategy against dwarves and things that move like nothing.
Yeah. Annihilate is moving 2 inches. Can't even retreat.
Yeah. And no run.
Yeah.
And if you bring the shackles.
Sorry. Yeah, shackles on top of that. Why not? All right, let's look at heroic traits. First up is Masterful Tactician. I'm glad this one made a comeback from the index because this was my favorite one. A guaranteed minimum 4-inch redeploy. That's great because that makes your best case, your opponent's best case charge scenario is a 7-inch charge, right? And if you stick a river rune on that, their best case charge scenario is now a 9-inch charge. A 3-inch charge is now turned into a 9. And anything besides a 3-inch charge is basically impossible. So this is really strong.
And if you combine this with counter shoot with wind stuff, that you can move D6 plus 2 plus.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing is, he can't redeploy and covering fire, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Damn.
This is great. Lumineth play a defensive style. Canceling charges is really good. This is great. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it just gets you out of shooting range. Your opponent has to factor in that every single unit in your army can move 4 inches before you shoot. And that can get you out of really bad spots. Like your opponent has to get closer to you, which is what you want as Lumineth. You want them to be at arm's length, right? And this is playing into that. Acolyte of the Runes. You seem to really like this one. You put this in a lot of your lists. Being able to pick a friendly hero and make it a third unit basically for your runes. I'm not that sold on it. It's usually Eltharion, right? Like that's the hero you want to pick generally. Yeah.
Because usually you're bringing Eltharion, which is going to be if you're going to play him aggressively. So
when
do
you need to pick? When does he need to be picked by as the third unit? Like he I guess to get +1 wound. If you go river into strength, and then 3 units have +1 wound.
Yeah, if you charge with 2 units of Dawnriders and him or something, you can be picking all 3. And
the problem I have with that is that specific number 3, right? Warhost lets you fight with 2. The third one is kind of like a third wheel. He gets hit usually.
It's okay. All of these are okay. Yeah. They're good, but they are not like insane. I could play either of these.
Yeah, I'm not too big on Acolyte, honestly. It's not bad. It's just not my favorite. Flawless Commander
or something.
Yeah. So Flawless Commander lets you do the Bastion move with 3 infantry units. Now they have to be wholly within 18 of the hero, which makes it worse than the Bastion move because the Bastion move just lets you do it anywhere. But you can do some really cool stuff with this. We've talked a lot about controlling objectives in the deployment phase and then moving back and then taking like really soft turns as Lumineth. I think that's a very important strategy that you need to consider that Lumineth can do, because when you have a really good turn 1, that sets you up for a good turn 2, and that sets you up for a good turn 3, and then that sets you up for a Zenith on round 4. So I think this is a really important ability. I really like this. I want to rank it higher, frankly, but I can't justify it while the SOG stuff is still in the game, because we'll talk about the Scourge Ghyran stuff. But if the Scourge Ghyran stuff didn't exist, this would be A tier.
Yeah, and also I will say when we go into the SOGgy stuff, they're okay. This is the weakest part of the book, in my opinion.
Heroic traits and artifacts, yeah, they're not very strong. Let's talk Scourge Ghyran then. There's Flawless Commander again.
That's an 8.
Yeah, I think this is the best heroic trait. +2 move on infantry is extremely good. This will definitely be removed. Like there's no way it's going to stick around. But the fact that you can get your Stoneguard up to a 7-inch move and then push them 5 inches for a 12-inch and then charge, that's awesome. This works even if you're retreating. It works on heroes. It just works all the time. It's fantastic. This is so good. The best units in this army are usually infantry, and this gives them a very significant speed boost.
Yeah, with the extra speed that we have, it becomes quite good. Because it used to be the spell, it was the Speed of Hish, which was 4 inches, and they moved 4, the Stoneguard, so it was 8 plus this, it was 10. Now they move 5, plus 4, plus 2, it's 7, plus the 5, it's now 12, which is much more significant.
Yeah,
and you can give them plus 1 to charge, which is also significant, plus 1 to run and charge, which is very easy to get if you really need it. So yeah, it's an improvement to the movement of the army. It seems small, but it is significant.
Yep. I also like giving it on a Lord Regent who's going to get inside the shrine, and then that way units that are in range get the rally bonus, and then the units in range get the movement bonus.
Exactly, because usually you had it in the Enlightener, and she wasn't going into the shrine because you wanted her to be wholly within 3 of the Bladelords, and now you can bring that guy with this stuff, and then you have a bigger bubble for this plus 2 to the move.
Exactly. There's no downside to putting him in there.
Yep.
Keeps them safe too, nice and cozy. Aether Quartz Requisitioner, once per game as a reaction to a spell. So this is after you roll the dice to cast the spell. You can add 3 to the roll. And this is not only in your turn. This is in any, so you can do this with Magical Intervention. And I almost wrote this one off until I started thinking a little bit more about it, because I started thinking, well, which spells do we really want to cast? We want to cast Transporting Vortex, and we want to cast Sanctum of Amontok. So yeah, this effect works in both players' turns. So if you're using Magical Intervention, it does activate as well. It's a reactive +3. So there's going to be a lot of time. Transporting Vortex only requires a 7. So there's going to be a lot of times where you'll roll like a 3 or 4. And then let's say you have Silver Wand, or you have Twin Stones active, and you have this. Like you'll get to a point where unless you miscast, you're casting that spell once per game, which is sometimes all you need. Because if you compare this to something like the Beacon of Azir for Stormcast, once per game, we're guaranteeing a prayer to translocate, and that's the best artifact in the game. This is comparable if you bring the right units in the right times and the right heroes. This lets Lumineth recycle, like Stormcast. Now, I'm pretty sure this will be removed in a few months, so I don't know how much play this is going to see. Being able to guarantee, not guarantee, obviously you can miscast, but being able to nearly guarantee cast Transporting Vortex is a very, very useful artifact. Not as useful as it is in Stormcast, because the units that you'd be recycling are not as good. You still do have to be wholly within 12 of the Transporting Vortex user. There's a lot of restrictions, but it's good. I'm telling you guys, it's worth playing. All right, what's the verdict? Can we fit 10 Stoneguard in a Sanctum?
No.
Oh,
didn't make it.
That's brutal. That sucks. That would be such a big deal if we could.
Yep. No, we couldn't.
I guess we can still cast Sanctum to protect light. That's pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, you can also do that because he can also be in combat.
So yeah, I think Aether Quartz Requisitioner is pretty good. What do you think? Is recycling worthwhile in this army?
Oh yes, and there are many spells that you can guaranteeing the spells is very good.
Well, and it's guarantee in quotes, right?
Well, yeah, it's after rolling with a reroll. If you really want to get the spell off, it's the chances of you failing it's gonna be bad. With +3 and reroll and +1, usually if you're gonna use this, you're surely gonna go with a Silver Wand. So what is it? I haven't done the math, but it should be like 90%.
Really, really likely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's good.
There's going to be a person in the comments that says, "Oh, I tried Requisitioner and I rolled a miscast and re-rolled into a miscast.
Yeah, into a
Stormkeep sucks. I hate these guys. You ruined my game."
And then that got me into a 7, and he unbounded and I lost the game.
Last one is Martial Perfectionist, and it's really a shame this one's not sticking around. But on a 3+, you get +1 to wound rolls against an enemy unit with your infantry. And that's insanely good. We talked about how important it is to go river into strength. And this just says, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just here you go. +1 to wound.
On a 3+.
On a 3+. Yeah, on a 3+, you get +1 wound.
Same guy on a different comment. It didn't go off.
Yeah. But like, considering the effort required for river into strength, and if you can just skip all that and you could just do mountain while still having +1 to wound, yeah. Or like wardens don't have to care about the strength rune anymore because they'd much rather have wind or mountain active. I think this is really good.
Yeah, the problem is that they have to be damaged.
Yeah, but that's easy. We have sentinels and spells. It's a very easy condition to meet.
Yeah, it's not bad. Flawless Commander is the best one. I think that
easily
you're going to see that.
Very easy to benefit from that because you don't have to commit your hero to a forward position to use it. Whereas this does require being within 12 of the enemy. Artifacts. Phoenix Stone, it's legendary tenacity. Once per game on a 3-up, you don't die. That's whatever, right? Like
whatever, yes.
Yeah.
If they get into your hero and they're gonna kill you, and it's on a 3+. Meh.
Yeah, and they can just power through to finish it off too. Usually, Waystone. I want to talk about that before we get to Silver Wand. Waystone is interesting. A no dice teleport that lets you get to anywhere in your territory. That's pretty cool. But the problem is that happens after the hero phase, which is
Territory.
usually when you want your heroes teleporting.
Exactly.
And it's wholly within friendly territory, which means there's a lot of battle
Which is
plans
gonna be-
right now that you just
which is
don't
gonna
get
be
anywhere. Yeah.
Useless. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe next season if the battle plans change, the deployments change. But right now, this is not very useful.
I think that we can safely say that every battle scroll we get half of the battle plans, like I don't know, like a
This
like a
time
third of the
around,
battle
this time
plans.
around, it's quite a few of them have a big middle zone with no big neutral zone.
Yeah, I don't think it's very good, honestly.
It's okay.
I think you're gonna go with the silver one, honestly.
If like battle tactics come back, you know, we have to teleport every
maybe.
turn to score them. This would be really sick.
Yeah, bring a hero into somewhere, maybe.
Yeah, it's fine. This
I
okay.
think-
Silver Wand is S. It's like you use it in every list.
But honestly, if those battle tactics come back, well, it's a guaranteed teleport. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, Silver Wand is S. Easily the best artifact. It's so good that you feel like you have to bring the Enlightener in your list because the Enlightener is so efficient, and this is so good on the Enlightener. Putting it on a Windmage is fine too if you just want the +1 cast. Putting it on anything is fine. You'll always have a wizard in your list that can take it. You're going to use it. It's amazing. All right, let's look at the 3 spell lores that this army has. Sorry?
No, the 3 spell lords, yes.
Yeah, let's look at the 3 spell lores this army has. First up, Lore of Hysh. Everybody lost their minds when they saw this first ability, the Beacon of Hysh, which makes enemies hit only on 4s. It does work on shooting, which is nice.
Yeah, that's the most.
That's the best thing about it, right?
Exactly. Yep.
But so does a 5-up ward, and the other spell lore is just anyway. So this spell lore is okay, right? Beacon of Hysh is good. It stacks with 5-up wards. It stacks with -1 hit. It stacks with -1 to wounds. It stacks with no crits. It stacks with ignoring the first point of damage. Like you can make the absolute tankiest unit possible with this ability.
Yep.
So it's a good ability, and it's unlimited. So you can put it on 2 or 3 units. Overwhelming Heat, halving enemy movement is good. This is a control-based army. You want to control your opponent's movement, so it's pretty decent. Piercing Refraction helps you deal with hordes. Like, this is a good thing that nukes down the Nurgle hordes. The problem is without an ability to reduce wards, how much is this really going to do? It just feels worse, right?
Yeah, I wish that was a different spell, honestly. And they could have compete amongst themselves pretty neatly.
So,
but that is the one that pushes it back from the other spell lord that we are going to see.
Yeah, so how much defense do we really need, right? Like, I keep saying more defense is good, but if people just ignore the unit, like, unless you're using a Avalenor and you can force people to attack you, it's fine, right? Like, more defense is good, but to a point, because it doesn't actually win the game. Like, being defensive doesn't win the game. You have to attack stuff, you have to control space. It's difficult to leverage.
And the other part is that you can give -1 to hit, which is very similar debuff. The things that already hit on 4s will be hitting you on 5s, and and usually they are hitting on 3s, so they will be hitting on 4s. So it loses a little bit of the power because we have the access to -1 to hit.
Yeah, if you're playing against destruction type armies, let's say the 4+ hit units.
Yeah, this is useless.
This actually does nothing because you know they're just not going to all out attack. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right. So and if you could still have -1 hit. There are -1 hit effects in this book. So even against destruction, you can still have them on 4+ hit, and they have to spend command points. Where this really shines is like accurate shooting, like 2+, 3+ hit shooting. That's where the spell really shines. Yeah, against Stormcast.
Yeah, this is the thing that pushes it better. If the meta goes into a lot of shooting, I think we might have to skew into this spell lore.
Caradron absolutely hate this.
Yeah, they will. And the thing that I really like about this is Overwhelming Heat. I always think that this has been a very good control spell. And now that we are going to be seeing Techless back, I think that this is a good spell.
Yeah,
it's halving the opponents. It's very crippling into some armies that poof a little bit because they cannot place their screens on front because as they don't fly, they will not be able to move. So they will be moving 2 inches. So it's rough. It can be rough against many armies. So I see a point of us picking this spell lord depending on the meta. Also, if you go into a lot of horde, usually horde doesn't move that much. So crippling their movement and dealing mortal wounds like this could be very important.
But in general, I think the lore of Awakened Realms is better because it has Elemental Push, and Elemental Push is the best spell in this army.
Yeah.
You can push units out of combat, and then you can shoot and charge normally. You can push units in or out of obscuring terrain. You can push wizards in or out of unbinding range. You can just push units 5 inches forward as like a move to attack. You can push 5 inches back to redeploy. You can push into rally bonus range. Like let's say sometimes you charge and you pile in a little too far, and you can push the unit back into Lord Regent's bonus range.
Exactly, or the 5 of ward save.
It's such a good spell that it makes the Scinari Council battle formation playable because sometimes you just want to spam Elemental Push.
Yep.
And then the unlimited spell in this is still a very good defensive buff. Subtracting 1 from the rend characteristic of the enemy's weapons is very great. And this works on shooting as well. So like Beacon of Hysh is a strong effect, but Focused Erosion is also very strong.
Yeah, it's very good.
So
if you go against high rend armies, this is like giving you +1 to your save.
Yeah.
And you don't have to pick your unit to give +1 to save. You can cripple the enemy unit.
It's a very good spell. Like it's straight up just a good spell. I really like it. And then Realm Shield. So you don't have to use Mountain Runes. You can still have a 5-up ward. You can use Wind to be -1 hit and have a ward 5-up. And let's say you're using Bladelords. Well, you can use Wind and have the 5-up ward and use Focused Erosion or the Enlightener spell or some other defensive bonus. So you can start stacking all these things together. You could skip Mountain Runes or, you know, in some cases you want to keep the Realm Shield up as an option. It's good to have. Honestly, it's not the reason I would pick this lore. The reason is Elemental Push, but having Realm Shield Healer is a nice bonus.
Yeah, in general, the 3 spells are better than the other ones.
Yeah. Focused Erosion is comparable to Beacon of Hysh. Obviously, Beacon is a defensive buff, so you can cast it before aggression, but Focused Erosion is very good as well. Push is just better than everything in the other spell lore.
Yeah, I agree. This one's better, no question.
Well, let's take a look at the weird cousin that will probably get removed from the game soon. But I quite like the spell lore now with this new book.
I hope I hope that they don't remove this spell lore.
I hope so. I hope it stays because it's super fun.
It's super fun, and it gives Teclis a little bit more use as well.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 unlimited spells. One of them is the Beacons of Protection, which gives you a, ignore the first damage aura, and that just gets bigger each time a wizard casts it, which is like, whatever, it's fine. There's Unseen Force, which the target can't use Run, and if this is the second time you've cast it, they also have -1 hit. Okay, so a -1 hit effect, and it's unlimited. So like if you have 3 wizards, and you cast it 3 times, 2 of the times you cast it, you're giving an enemy -1 hit as well. Which is good.
And no run abilities, so they cannot redeploy either.
Correct. No redeploy, which is nice. It's like shutting off commands. But the star of the show is obviously the Beam of Hysh, right? Dealing D3 plus 1 mortal damage equal for each time it's been cast. It basically turns into a D6 mortal spell after you've cast it twice. And
because the first one, it doesn't get the bonus. So it's D3, and then the second one is D3 plus 1, and then the third one is D3 plus 2, to D3 plus 3 with the 4th cast.
Correct.
You usually don't get that far.
I'm pretty sure the Enlightener, the copied beam, counts as a cast. This might have to get answered in an FAQ, but I'm pretty sure the beam, if the Enlightener copies the beam, that gets the bonus as well, so it ramps up. So that's pretty cool. But the fact that you can just do a D6 blast with your wizards is pretty sick. You do have to pick different targets each time, but it's still just damage, right? And the problem with Lumineth is that the heroes are very expensive and the heroes don't do any damage. But this fixes that problem. So you get all the benefit of having those support wizards, and those wizards, whenever you want them to, just suddenly turn into a cannon blast in the hero phase.
Yeah, so I think that you are not going to pick either of them. You're going to pick the Lord of the Awakened Realms every time that you don't bring Teclis.
Almost every time.
With Teclis, you're going to pick this one, right?
Well, not always, because it does cost 10 points, and sometimes that's the difference between a 2,000 point list and a 2,010 point list.
I haven't made a list that I am missing 10 points, honestly. I am always 1920, 1940, it's horrible. So I don't know. Yeah, I hope that they leave this spell lore. I don't think it's going to be as relevant as it was. I don't think that you are going to build in lists with this unless you are bringing Teclis. It's going to be weird to skew into this only, because you're not going to be bringing all those small heroes that you used to. I think that this time we are going to be bringing, 3 or 4 cast stops, unless we bring Teclis.
I wanted to turn on my camera to show you the smile that I have on my face right now, because I did exactly that. I brought a list that has like multiple small heroes that are just going to beam things to death. So we'll talk about it.
But that is the way that we were, and I'm going to tell you why isn't that good, because we don't have that many buffs to cast. So and as if you keep casting this, it costs one more. The value goes up by one. So it usually what happens, because I play this list a lot, you cast it and then you deal 3 mortals and then you pick a different target which is in range, and then you failed and then you didn't get the spell off, and you have to decide whether you use the reroll on that one or you wait until you get the D3+3 to reroll that one. So it starts getting like complicated. It's very hard for you to get to the D3+3 into the right target, because
yes, it gets easier with the Twin Stones though.
Yeah, it does. But the Twin Tones used to give you +1, and you have also the Scinari. So all your wizards were at a +2 with a reroll. So I think that you can try it, but it is not like the most.
Well, you can get +2 cast with Zenith Rune.
Yeah. If it is the right turn,
we'll see. I have a list. I think you'll like it. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the manifestations first. The best one here is the Twin Stones, right? The Twin Stones are so strong, making your spells more reliable and blocking people from setting up gives it a ton of utility. You can cast, even if you have like Enlightener, Lyrior, if that's your list, you can cast the Twin Stones with the Enlightener, and then Lyrior can cast a spell, and then Enlightener casts a spell, and then on your next turn, it's at like +2, +3, +4 already. And like you get a big realm shield off, or like a key. You get like a clutch transporting vortex with magical intervention. It's just really, really strong.
Oh yeah, when I saw these, I was like, "Oh yes, it moves. Yes."
Awesome. Fixes the core problem.
Do you know how many games I lost because I set up this stuff at the beginning of the game, and it just stayed there forever, and then suddenly somebody teleported with a chaff unit, and then just charged this stupid thing.
Yeah,
and took my objective, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But that I failed myself to banish this stuff.
Yeah. The Rune of Petrification's okay. You know, it sets up wholly within 12. It affects units wholly within 6, or just within 6. So it's like an 18-inch blast. It does the bad mortal wounds, the bad D3. But if it rolls a 5 up, it gives Strike Last, which is really cool. But that also, it has to deal 3 mortal wounds, which I'm pretty sure that means wards can ignore that effect. So
it doesn't. Because it's only inflicting. As long as you inflict the 3 mortal wounds, you get the Strike Last, even if they ward them.
Interesting. Okay, so it doesn't say allocated. Interesting.
No, it's inflict. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's still unreliable. It's a 1 in 3 chance of that happening. So you never rely on that. So it's hard to make plays around it. I view it as a bonus, right? It's like you're taking this for the Twin Stones. The Rune is a bonus.
Yes, the Rune is good because it adds up with the spells that you are going to be casting. So it adds up with Teclis spell. It adds up with the Prismatic Resonance Beam of Hish spell. So you can add up the mortal wounds in the hero phase. So it's cheap damage, and it's very important. And honestly, sometimes I just countercast the Rune and make my opponent strike last and make him not charge me.
It happens. Yeah. I mean, if you combine this with like covering fire from a Wind Spirit, like you're starting to add up multiple sources of strike last. Even if none of them are 100%, it's still adding up, and it's going to be reliable enough.
And when you are in the middle fighting with the opponent and you cast this stuff, it's a mess. And you manage to get 3 or 4 units into strike last, they cry.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. So it's a good spell.
It's a good spell, yes.
And the Sanctum,
and you add up with the Twin Stones and the Sanctum, which is better now.
Yeah, Sanctum's much better, but what does Lumineth want to put inside it? Maybe a Wind Spirit? Because the Wind Spirit doesn't... I'm pretty sure it has like a 60 mil base or 80 mil, so it'll fit inside.
Honestly, I will just put it to block space.
I guess. It doesn't really block space that well, though. Because you can walk inside of it. Enemy units can walk inside. If it's like a big footprint unit, I guess it could be a problem for them.
You can put something inside to make them block and then redeploy back. So only some models can charge you and block some space. It's not the best, but yes, it's weird. You can put Eltharion as well inside, but the new Eltharion doesn't want to be up front. There are some niche cases for this. In Lumineth in particular, I think it's better in other armies.
Yeah, I think Wind Spirit's like the best case scenario for this. Yep. Protects it from getting shot, which is really important. Yeah.
Or Severed.
But it's a bonus. Like, you're taking this rune for other reasons, and it's a good manifestation lore. We're not going to rank every single manifestation lore for Lumineth, but this one is a good one.
If your unit is in combat and these things comes on top of it, they cannot fight it, right?
Your unit can't be attacked. Yeah. First of all, you're not visible, so the enemy is actually not in combat with you, because to be in combat, you have to be within 3 inches of a visible enemy unit.
So they are not in combat with you.
Yeah, and then even if they attack you, anything that targets the unit inside has to target the manifestation instead.
So maybe there's a play. If Eltharion doesn't leave combat, you put this thing around him.
Yeah.
Even if, the opponent has to be aware that it has to tag you very closely, so you cannot fit this stuff between you and the attacking model. But maybe you can make the opponent cry about this. If I cast this on a unit that is in combat, can I rally afterwards?
So the enemy unit is not in combat with you, but you are in combat with the enemy. Because you can see the enemy and you're within 3 inches.
Oh, you can hit them and they cannot hit you.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting.
Good. It's a very strong spell. We talked about it on a recent episode, but it's really hard to use. So that's why it would be such a big deal if you could fit 10 Stoneguard inside or 10 Bladelords. That would have been a big deal.
Couldn't do it.
No. Okay, so let's start putting all the pieces together and talk about lists. So the first list we put together I called the Vanari Warhost because I just wanted a simple list that used none of the exotic units, just maybe mostly for people who have like the big starter box from the original edition of the Lumineth. Maybe you just want to put a bunch of infantry together, a bunch of Dawnriders and stuff, and just make it work. So this is that. It's a low complexity list. It's using 2 units of Reinforced Wardens, a Reinforced Sentinel, Reinforced Dawnriders, and a Lord Regent leading them. The Lord Regent here is giving you rally bonuses, which is great. He's also going to be the Flawless Commander from Scourge of Ghyran, so all the infantry in this list is getting +2 move. You're going to pop the Regent into the Shrine, and then he's going to be giving +2 move and rally bonus, while being very tough to kill. It's got an Enlightener with a silver wand, so you have some good magic support. It's got keep opening heavy doors. I can hear it. It's coming. It's being picked up on the mic. Yeah, but the mic is picking it up, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I think they're done. It's got an Enlightener with the silver wand, so you have some good magic support here. Who's also bringing in 10 Bladelords, and it's a single reinforced unit. Bannerblade is the Scourge of Ghyran version, so that's going to give you +1 save to all of your Wardens, Sentinels, and Bladelords if they're contesting the same objective. So that makes these units extra tanky. And it's got a Cathallar here because this list cares a lot about all-out defense because it's a lot of Rend 1 attackers with the Wardens being Rend 0, Bladelords being Rend 1 unless you start pumping strength runes into them. So Cathallar shutting off commands here seems like a good idea. So it's a very straightforward list. Warhost of Duality lets you fight with 2 units at a time. Lord Regent with 20 Wardens does a lot of mortal wounds if you catch your opponent off guard. Yeah, I went with the Lore of Hysh, even though we just talked a lot of trash about it. But I feel like putting Beacon of Hysh onto both units of Wardens seems like a good idea in this list in particular.
Yeah, they will be very tanky. And you can pick them for the 5-up ward save, as we will see here on the selection.
Yeah, so if you want to go defensive, so you can see we've got some rune notes here, some common plays that you can do. So for example, River first turn and then Mountain second turn lets you pick 2 units and give them both a 5-up ward and -1 wound. So if you take a low commitment turn 1 and then you move back, you kind of set up for turn 2. On turn 2, both your Warden blocks could be 5-up ward and be -1 to wound. And then if you stack the Beacon of Hysh onto that, they're now also only getting hit on 4s and they're ignoring charge +1 damage. And if you get them out of combat, you can start rallying them. Really good.
Yeah, and you have the Enlightener to stop them from using crits.
Exactly. Yeah, and that spell sometimes gets twinned, and those Wardens get extra tanky. You can, instead of going Mountain Rune, though, if you go River first, you can go River into Strength, and then you can go Aggressive, so that your Bladelords get +1 Rend, your Dawnriders and your Bladelords get +1 to Wound. Like, you can take this more aggressive turn. So that's why I like the River turn 1, because it leads into either offense or defense. Now, if you wanted to be a different path you could take, if you wanted to go more speed oriented, you could go Strength on the first turn, and that will give your Bladelords a permanent +1 Rend for the rest of the game. And then you can pivot into Wind, which will give you -1 hit on your Wardens. So let's say you're playing against Destruction. This can be a really useful thing to do, because like we said, Beacon doesn't really get value against 4-up hits. Beacon is for 2 and 3-up hits. So if you need the -1 hit, you go Strength into Wind, and then that way you have -1 hit and +4 move.
And you can charge and keep them all with -1 to hit everything that you tag in combat.
Yeah, so a typical path I would see for this list, like if you need like a default, like it's too much, it's too complicated, give me something, go River first, and then either go Mountain or Strength, depending on whether you want to be defensive or aggressive, and then go Mountain or Strength if you want to be defensive or aggressive. But the fact that you have that River turn 1 means you can do either one, and then round 4 you can go Zenith, unless you doubled up. Like if you want Mountain, then you can't go Zenith. But yeah, just try to play. This list wants to go Zenith round 4, I think.
Yep, and on the River Rune on the first turn can also disencourage Alpha Strike armies.
Yes, -2 charge is brutal.
And you can deploy them, the 2 blocks of Wardens, very, very spread, so you can make them redeploy back. So yeah, it could mess them up.
So yeah, a nice simple list. Put down your Twin Stones, start banking points. Not the most competitive list. It's about the upper limit of what you can expect for health and model count in this army. And 130 health at the high end,
it's not that bad.
It's not that bad. It's not that good either. That's like the upper limit of Stormcast too, and Stormcast are a much different army. It's very surprising. It's very, very similar health values. Let's talk about your list. Eltharion in the kitchen.
So the idea for this is to bring Eltharion into the back line of the army. I picked the Light of Eltharion with some Sentinels for backup support to start shooting, a screen of Wardens, a unit of Bladelords, and 10 Dawnriders, with the Windmage, with the Etherguard's Requisitioner and the Silver One for the +1 to cast. The idea here is to send Eltharion into an awkward position for the opponent and to hit whatever you want to hit, and then power through with him back, and then almost guarantee the teleport to bring him out of combat. You bring the Lord Regent for extra rally and stuff, and the Stonemage to attack the objective of the opponent and disencourage them from leaving the opponent, the objective. The Enlightener for extra casts, and the Shrine Luminor. And the idea here is to start with the wind and go into strength to get the -1 to hit and the Regent charge, or start with the wind and then go to the river to move 3 and pile something and catch them off and reduce the charge from the opponent. Or you could go strength and then river and then into the mountain in round 3 to get the anti-charge +1 rend when they want to charge and the -1 to wound. So you can become tanky after the first hit. And the idea is to threaten with Eltharion some key piece and try to shoot it and kill it, and then back off with it. And similar concept to the recycle that we do in Stormcast, while you keep advancing with your castle and start dealing with mortal wounds. And yeah, that's like a pathway that you can go wind and then strength and river, and then either strength or mountain, and at the end, round 4 the Zenith. So your Dawnriders and your Bladelords get crazy.
We haven't really talked battle tactics yet. You've got Master and Restless. That's the typical Stormcast combo, and I could definitely see that working here, because Master, you want to make sure you have the ability to kill a hero, which Eltharion definitely does, right? And then you also want the ability to spread around the board, which with a Windmage, I think you're doing that more reliably than if you didn't have a Windmage. Yep. Restless Energy, this army wants to play VPs, like it plays objectives. So I think Restless is pretty close to a default in Lumineth.
Yeah, that is a simple concept that I was trying to explode here with Eltharion. There are many ways to try this. Maybe you could put Lyrior in here to make it and reduce a little bit of the mages here, and that could also help.
Yeah, like Stonemage isn't doing anything for you here. Like he's not buffing Stoneguard. He's just casting his spell. So that could be replaced with a Cathallar. Or you have 10 points, it could be a Loreseeker. It could even be another Enlightener, right? You've got 50 points.
It could be another Enlightener, and you can go harder into the casting. With -1 to rend, you could move forward the Tharion, move the Wizards, and then pin them with the Dawnriders or something, and then start reducing their rend so they get stuck in there for a while you get with your Bladelords.
107 health. That's looking more like the rest of the list we have. That 130 was definitely an outlier.
Yeah, 930 points, which is insane.
Yeah, well, here's my attempt at making a techless list work. This was my very first concept, and I'll tell you right now, I'm already past this concept, but I wanted to talk about it and why I've moved past it. So the concept with the techless list is to have a castle and have a lot of ranged power that you can project from the castle. So techless lists need to play as a castle, and castles need a few things. They need a defensive core, so either screens or anvil, like wall-type anvils. So you need either really tough units or disposable units. You also need significant shooting power or some kind of ranged power that can force the enemy to come to you. And you need the ability to break out of that formation in order to still contest objectives, because the idea with the castle is you're giving up victory points round 1 and sometimes 2 in order to get a good position and then come back harder rounds 3, 4, 5, and then preferably kill your opponent. And I think that's how techless plays. Now, I don't know if my version of it is going to be the best way to do it. Like I said, I've already moved past this list, so I don't think this is the best way. But looking at that checklist, we've got techless here as ranged power, the Windchargers as ranged power. So we've got that checked. Disposable screens and defensive units, well, the Dawnriders are expensive, but they are a very wide screen, so you don't need many of them to cover a lot of area. So 1 or 2 of these guys should be enough screening along with the Wardens in order to get the job done. Speed. In order to break out of this formation, we want fast units, we want teleports. So we want things like the Windmage, we want the Windchargers, we want the Dawnriders. And the Lord Regent is here to protect against enemy shooting, because that's another issue with castles, is that when the enemy just gets to shoot at you for free, you get to shoot back at them later, but only if you actually survive the shooting. right? So with the Lord Regent, you're more reliably healing back up the damage that Teclis takes, the damage that the Windchargers take. If they don't fully wipe out one of your Dawnrider screens, it's coming back, right? In a turn or two, it'll be back at full health with the Lord Regent.
Yep.
Teclis is threatening really long-range power with the Twilight Sorceries, giving him a spell portal into his blast. And it doesn't really matter if your opponent charges it at that point because you're playing so far back. It's okay. Like, it's okay to create a bridge in that case.
Yep.
I did pick the Lore of Awakened Realms because I feel like there's going to be times where the Windmage will be up front with the units and he'll want to be able to elemental push them out of combat. So I wanted to make sure that that was an option because you cannot Transporting Vortex out of combat.
Yeah, that's right.
And I went Warhost of Duality because you want the option to fight with 2 Dawnriders at the same time. Because we're splitting them up for the sake of having more coverage, more objective control, you want to be able to fight with 2 Dawnriders at the same time. The alternative could be Elemental Guardians.
Yeah,
but this list doesn't have 10 points for that, unfortunately.
Yep.
So why don't I like this list? Well, Windchargers are a big commitment in runes, and even though Teclis can just slam down another Wind rune, and then the Calligrave can fix it later, the fact is you're still dedicating those resources to that. Whereas you could just bring Sentinels, and the Sentinels don't require the runes, and the Sentinels actually do more damage. They're cheaper, right? And if you have Dawnriders, you don't need the speed of the Windchargers because you have the teleport from the Windmage and you have the Dawnriders as well. So you don't need more speed.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, that is what happens whenever we want to bring the Windchargers. We always think like, okay, Sentinels are cheaper. They bring even more range power and they are safer to play.
Yeah. In terms of runes, this list in particular, like I said, I don't even like this list anymore, but you can double wind on turn 2 right away. So you can do anything on turn 1 and then wind with Teclis on turn 2. And then turn 3, change one of the wind runes for whatever you want with the Calligrave and then Zenith. This, I really wanted to explore pushing into Zenith with this list. So that's why I picked units that have crit effects. That's why I don't have any Stoneguard in here. I feel like Teclis Stoneguard really misses out on the power of Zenith in rounds 3, 4, 5. I think that's like a really big damage spike. And like Dawnriders with Zenith active are really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, with Teclis and Calligrave, you can almost pick any path that you want.
Yeah. The system completely opens up and it feels really good to use. It's a lot of complexity. It's hard to understand the rune system to the point where you can start to like picture plays with Teclis Calligrave together. And that was kind of the reason I even made this list, was just to explore that idea. And now that I feel pretty confident I understand the rune system, I wish it was more complex. I wish there was more hooks like Lyrior and Avalenor and Sevireth. I wish there was heroic traits and artifacts that interacted with it. Like, I wish they went even further. It's really good, but I wish they went further. Yeah.
Yep.
Really hard to play. Teclis lists are not easy. You have to have a full understanding of your army and the enemy's army. You have to really plan out your turns ahead of time. You have to know what to give away and when. It is about as complex as Age of Sigmar gets. This next list is called the Geometric Shuffle. So why is it called the Shuffle? Well, it's because I based this off a similar concept that I had with the Bastion Shuffle list, which is moving infantry units around in the deployment phase in order to control objectives and then move back to take soft turns. And I think that's a concept that actually works better in Lumineth than it does in Stormcast, because Stormcast, we can revive a unit once per turn. So if we ever need to, throw away something, we can. We also have fast chaff. Like, we can just teleport chaff up the board, whereas Lumineth don't, right? They have to commit resources in order to teleport around. So the Lord Regent here has taken the default Flawless Commander, so he's going to be moving these 2 units of Riverblades up. And I picked Riverblades in particular because some battle plans require a 7-inch move to get onto the middle objectives. So with the Lord Regent and the Riverblades here, he will move them up 7 inches. They're going to contest objectives, and then I'm usually going to be forced to go first because people do not want to take double turns from Lumineth because they're quite scary. So they'll usually make you go first, and then you just move back and you're safe. You've contested enough objectives. You've scored your max VP. You've possibly even scored Scouting Force, right? Because it's very easy to finish outside your territory on a lot of battle plans. And that's a nice, simple turn. You've scored your max, and then you say, okay, go ahead. I'm protected. I'm very far away from you. All my units are not in your threat ranges, so even if you get a double turn, the most you're going to kill is the 2 units of Riverblades that are still screening for me.
Easy peasy. And then I'm going to send Eltharion.
Yeah, exactly. So the other part of this list is Lyrior, buffing 2 units of Bladelords. This list definitely wants to lean into River first and then going strength as much as possible, because the Bladelords already have a 5-up ward from being near the Enlightener or from Realm Shield, so you don't need to go into Mountain Runes for that. You can get, if you need defense, you can go into -1 hit, or you can pivot from River into Mountain to get -1 wound as well. But this list really wants to pump as many runes into the Bladelords as possible. So it's got Lyrior here giving them permanent +1, so they're already Rend 2. And if you go River into Strength, then now they're Rend 3. And if on turn 3 you go Strength again, well, now they're Rend 4. Or you can start going for Zenith, right? I think Rend 3 is usually enough. Like Rend 4 feels like overkill a lot of times.
Yeah.
But Bladelords with +1 hit, +1 wound, and +2 Rend or +3 Rend do really nasty damage. Even though their max damage is only 31, they become so accurate. And that Rend just cuts through things like butter.
Yeah, it's going to be all the wounds that you hit, it's going to go through.
And this list only needs one unit of Bladelords to charge at a time. The other unit, like Light of Aetherion, can just teleport in at any time. And with Warhost of Duality, both units get to fight at the same time. So you don't have to buff both Bladelords. You can buff one at a time. I think Light of Aetherion can also get +1 to wound, right? He can be modified positively, not negatively. So yeah. So it's got a little shooting core. Sorry?
It will be less swingy. With some with crit.
Yeah. So
double hits.
I've seen this list already on the table, and it performed well. This is a refined version of it, so I'm starting to hone in on the final version of this concept. But I do think Flawless Commander is really good. I think anybody that's writing it off should really give it a second chance because it's not flashy. It's not like it doesn't make your unit stronger. What it does is it makes your army play better. You can take a better turn 1, which sets you up for a better turn 2, which sets you up for a better turn 3.
Yeah, it's a good. You can play it defensively as well with the Riverblades screening and threatening the opponent to bring Eltharion into the fight and counter shooting with the Sentinels.
Yeah, if they don't commit a heavy hammer, Light of Eltharion teleports in and he wipes them out. So it's a defensive list for sure. Okay, let's look at the if list. So why is it called the if list? We should talk about that first, right?
So right now we are not sure that this works this way. We have seen some discussions with a lot of people. The Strike First spell from Lyrior could be benefiting from the Warhost of Duality, and if it works and it allows you to pick one unit after him to fight, something like the Quicksilver Draft, that would mean that in your turn you can fight with 4 units. And in the enemy turn you will fight with 2 before they fight. So it is a big if, because we are not sure. We are waiting for a fact. But if it works, I made this list, which is just bringing on the Dawnriders with Lyrior and Eltharion. And you can fight with Lyrior, 2 units of Dawnriders, and Eltharion before your opponent gets a chance to fight. So
yeah, well, let me break down the exact rules discussion that we're having here. So Warhost of Duality lets you pick 2 units instead of 1 when you go to fight. Right, and Strike First specifically says that this unit must be picked, and no other units can be picked until this unit is picked. So when you're using the Quicksilver Draft combo, how that works in particular is you pick the hero to fight because it has Strike First. It has to be picked, and then as a reaction to picking the unit, you then get to pick another unit. Now, when you pick that second unit, that can only happen after you've picked the first unit. So there's a specific timing window that has passed, right? So the Strike First condition has been satisfied. You can now pick a unit that doesn't have Strike First. But with the Warhost of Duality ability, you're picking the units at the exact same time. So
you're picking 2.
So you're picking 2 units, which seems to imply that you can't pick a unit that has Strike First and a unit that doesn't have Strike First, right? But if you can, if they, I don't know, maybe they errata it, maybe we're just misunderstanding it, but if you can, then that's where this list comes in, because this list wants to fight with so many units at the same time.
Exactly. That is the idea of the list. So even if the spell is not worked like that, you can even hit with Lyrior, and then if there are no other fight first units in the opponent's army, you can fight with pick 2 after him. So it would be 3 units. So it is not bad anyway.
Well, in that scenario, all you're doing is adding Lyrior's damage to the equation, which is not...
Exactly.
It's okay. Like, it's not great.
It's not bad. So it's a little bit more. I would reinforce a unit of Dawnriders in that case to make it more heaty, more killy. But I don't think it's it's not a bad list. As Paul was saying, you can also use the Dawnriders to screen, and you have the elemental push with the Lord of the Awakened Realms to rally with the Lord Regent, and you also have the Bladelords. It's only 1 unit, but you could also swap some Wardens and Dawnriders for a second unit. You can skew the points there to do it as well. So It explores this concept. It can work either defensively or offensively. I like it. It has a lot of movement. You have the Enlightener for the extra spellcast and the +1 to wand, with the Acolyte of the Runes to pick Lyrior if you are going to send him into combat, or Eltharion. So you can, in this case, you are going to send multiple units into combat. So in this case, it is important for you to bring an extra unit with the buffs or debuffs that you are picking them. And you have the Wardens because you had some extra points there, but you can you have 30 points extra, so you could either turn them into something else. So you can move stuff here, but the concept, I think it's pretty clear that you want to strike with 3 units. The damage is not the max damage, but it is not bad either. It has crit mortals and it can do some stuff. And the Dawnriders also benefit from the charge.
I think if you want to play a lot of cavalry and you don't want to deal with shooting or a lot of complexity, I think this is pretty good.
So you would be picking wind into strength to gain first the -1 to hit. So when you charge, you will that round you will going to be -1 to hit, potentially getting the 5 up ward save as well with the spell, and getting close enough for you to into the Shrine Luminor and run in or something. You can deploy the Shrine Luminor on ahead of the Enlightener and then pop up into the hero phase and then run with the Shrine to get close to give the bubble for the 5 up ward save and get the units -1 to hit, which will make them pretty tanky. And then if you go to the strength, you can retreat and then charge and repeat the process.
Yeah, I like how many different decisions get made when you just bring MSU Dawnriders. This isn't something I really considered, because like typically we wouldn't value the retreat and charge from the runes that highly because we have elemental push. But when you don't bring a lot of wizards and you do bring a lot of cavalry that wants to retreat and charge, all of a sudden that ability gets a lot more interesting.
Exactly. And you bring the elemental push to bring back 1 unit, rally it, and then the other ones can retreat and then charge. So you are bringing back some horses to bring back into the fight, and you can reposition Eltharion if you manage to power through away or something. You get to reposition him if he's not in combat. So there's a lot of tricks that you can do like that. So that is the idea, for you to get the Enlightener in range and try to elemental push and do all that stuff and have the 5 up ward save and pin the opponent in their deployment. And then you walk on with the Bladelords back, and then eventually you get them into combat as well. So I like the concept of this list. I still have to try it. I haven't had the chance to play many games with this. And the other way that you could go, it will be into the wind for the -1 to wind, -1 to hit again, and then move into the river. So you can freely move 3 inches and either get them out of combat to rally them, or even pin a different unit to stop them from charging with something different.
Well, I like the wind play because with Lyrior, it's also +4 move. So all your the 2 Dawnriders you pick are now 18-inch move and -1 hit, which is really nice. And then the 3-inch move in river gets you out of combat. Yeah, there's lots of ways to get all your cavalry out of combat now. It feels really good.
Yeah, this is the idea of this list, that you are always going to be charging with the Dawnriders to get the +1 rend and the +1 damage. There's many ways to get them out of combat. And you can also play it a little bit more defensively with strength and river, and then mountain to get the anti-charge +1 rend and -1 to wound with a 5 up ward save potentially. With the -1 with the 5 up ward, and the anti-charge +1 rend and +1 to wound to threaten the opponents if they charge you, with Eltharion again popping there.
Yeah, he could be rend 4. Oh man,
rend 4 and -1 to wound against him.
Yeah,
it gets nasty. Yeah. So I really like this concept because, and you don't have the problem of, you can spread this list. It doesn't need to be all packed together into a big castle, and then you can pack with all this movement. Okay, so that's the if list.
Right on. So here is my attempt at making Stoneguard work. So I can kind of talk through my thought process for why I ended up where I did. I tried a lot of different things to make Stoneguard work. They don't fit cleanly in with the rest of the A-tier units, right? Like Sentinels require a specific hero to bring them, which means you might be bringing Light of Etherion, you might be bringing the Twins, you might be bringing a Avalenor or a Teclis. But generally, Stoneguard, I want them with a Stonemage so that they can actually be Rend 2. And I want them with +2 move from Flawless Commander. So that's going on the Stonemage right there. And I want Elemental Push because 5-inch move sucks. Even with +2, 7-inch is not enough. I want that to be a 12-inch move in my turn. And I want the option to push them out of combat, rally them, and then get back to fighting stuff. So once I have the Stoneguard in there, it's a question of, okay, well, what else do I bring? I want Sentinels, right? Because whenever you play a slow list, you want to make sure you have some range threat power that you can put out there. So Sentinels go in there. And now my list is starting to look really slow. right? Like, even though I do have the +7 move or whatever, you still want a unit like Dawnriders that can go contest objectives on the flanks. You want to be able to still score stuff away from your Stoneguard units. Then I added in some Riverblades as a screen. I want the Enlightener here so that I can sometimes twin the push and get both units up there. One of the things I was really torn on was whether I want to go for Scinari Council, just so I'm guaranteed to have 2 Elemental push a turn, or if I want to go for Elemental Guardians with with some kind of monster unit so that I can have the extra defense that stacks with all the other defense on top of that. Because Stoneguard really want mountain runes. So I'm going to be probably going river into mountain pretty much every turn. I'm not going to be going into the other runes with this list. I'm going to be going river into mountain. And since I'm doing that, I feel like you also want a Avalenor. That way you can have the 3-up save on round 2, and so you're not rushing the mountain runes. Like, you don't have that weird downtime but when you go river into mountain. Like, having them activate the 3-up save on round 3 is just too long to wait. So I ended up picking a Avalenor so that I can get that 3-up save earlier. And he works because the Sentinels go into his regiment, Dawnriders go into his regiment. And yeah, that's how the list came together. I went through a lot of iteration on this, right? I thought, oh, maybe I'll put in a bunch of Dawnriders, maybe I'll put in Windchargers to offset the speed. Nothing really felt right until I put a Avalenor in here. And although I was pretty harsh on him in our initial review, he feels really good here, right? Because this is a list that wants to keep slamming mountain runes down for at least 2 turns in a row. And Avalenor getting +4, +8, +12 attacks in that way makes him start to feel like a proper hammer unit. And he's also really good for stacking defensive buffs on. So the Enlightener can turn off crits for him. You can also start reducing the rend of enemy units with erosion. You can give him a 5-up ward. You can give him -1 wound from the runes. There's a lot of buffs you can stack on him. And then you can push him out of combat, rally, and charge him back in. So a lot of this starts to feel pretty good once you have a Avalenor in here.
And you can also use the thing to move him free into combat, so he doesn't charge.
Yeah, I don't see myself going Wind very often with this list. Wind Rune just giving me -1 hit and nothing else just feels like a waste, because I want the River Rune into Mountain as fast as possible. Like that's what this list wants to do. It doesn't have that kind of flexibility to use all the runes. It's very focused. That's one of the issues I have with the Stoneguard is, you know, once you're committing yourself to using runes in a particular way, you really lock yourself out of a lot of different units. Like, I can't really bring Wardens or Dawnriders because I can't give them +1 to wound reliably. So it's kind of an issue.
Yeah, if you bring Stoneguard on the mountain, you bring more.
Yeah, it just feels like once a little bit of mountain's in there, you get a lot of mountain, and a lot of mountain doesn't seem like the right choice.
Yeah, sounds fun.
And the last list, I wanted to make a beam list. I wanted to just see what it could do. So my concept is very simple. I want 5 wizards, right? Every unit in this army, every hero has to be a wizard. I can't afford to not have a wizard in one of these slots. And then what do we bring with the wizards? Well, the only units that are really good in this scenario are going to be Wardens, Sentinels, and Bladelords and Dawnriders, like the Vanari stuff. I'm not going to have room for any Windchargers or any Stoneguard. It's just not going to work out. So if I'm bringing Vanari, well, why not make one of my wizards Lyrior? So again, I've got this package here, the 2x10 Bladelords and Lyrior, and every strength rune I use gives them +1 rend for the rest of the game, which is pretty sick. In order to play a defensive style like this, because I'm missing out on push and all these kinds of things, I opted to bring the Hurakan Windspirit in here so that it can sit inside a Sanctum of Amantok and shoot people and give them strike last and not be able to take any damage while it's doing that. And if enemies do come close, it can, D6 plus whatever away. In general, though, once the enemy's in range, I want to slam Zenith runes down. I want all my wizards to have +2 cast, +3 if they're near the thing that the Loreseeker buffs, Scinari Enlightener on +4. I want all of that because I want to cast the beam. I want the first cast, the only way it fails is a miscast. Second cast, pretty much only if I miscast. Third cast is now on a 4 on the dice. Next cast is on a 5, and I still have a reroll from the shrine available for all this. So Zenith Rune all the way as soon as the enemy's in range of getting beamed. And then at that point, for the rest of the game, I'm just blasting people with D6 mortal wound shots every time.
Yeah, this is very similar to the list that I took to Worlds.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, almost exactly the same. Just instead of the Wind Spirit, I had some Riverblades. Units were more expensive, but it was mostly this. The Calligrave. Well, I have the 2 Enlighteners and no Calligrave, but the 2 Cathallars, 2 Enlighteners, and 1 other wizard. I don't know which one was it. 2 reinforced unit of Bladelords and the Sentinels. Very similar. Nice. It plays a little bit differently because the Bladelords used to be able to, and I had a Tharion. The Bladelords used to be ethereal, so now you can make them ethereal.
Yeah, so I brought the Calligrave in here because this list needs some rune fixing. If you're slamming Zenith every turn, you can't really use it every turn. Like, it doesn't enhance any runes. So if you want the option to go like River into Strength to be aggressive one turn, but you slammed a Zenith the previous turn, you don't really have that option, but the Calligrave lets you do that still. So I think he's useful. The Cathallar, I think, is a bit of a weak point in this list. I think the Cathallar could be a Stonemage instead, just for more. That Mortal Wound spell is actually decent, right? Like, it's a good option to have. If you're not doing that, you can beam people again. Just more beams for days. Seems more useful than the Cathallar shutting off commands in this list. I do like shutting off commands, though, because it does turn off all-out defense. Like, one of the things people will do against the Wind Spirit to reduce the odds of you getting the Strike Last off is they'll defense, because you have to actually deal damage with the Wind Spirit to get the Strike Last off. So people could use all-out defense against that, and I might as well try to stop it.
And the Sentinels, they will allow defense that.
Yeah, people always defense Sentinels. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Actually thinking it might be better to bring 20 and then 10 and 10. That way, people can only defense the 20 and then they don't get any value against the other two. Now that I think about it, is there a reason to not reinforce them? Or what's the value in reinforcing them? All out attack and covering fire? So yeah, you have one unit that does that, and then you bring 2 units of 10.
The covering fire.
Yeah.
Could be, with no modifiers to hit and wounds.
Yeah, that's not bad. So yeah, that's the beam list. It's just trying to blast people while I can before they remove the spell lore in a few months. I hope they don't. I hope they keep it around. It's a fun spell lore. It's not overly busted or anything.
It's a good spell lore. Yes.
Yeah, it's fine. That's it. Let's talk. Let's summary. Okay, so that's been our review of Battletome Lumineth. We're just going to talk about army strengths and weaknesses, because when this book came out, everybody was so convinced it was like ridiculously strong. But I have to tell you, there's a lot of weaknesses in this army, and it is not the powerhouse that people think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a bad army by any means, but I think it has a lot of weaknesses that armies can exploit. Some armies exploit the weaknesses just by existing. Like, Nurgle is a really bad matchup for this army. And I think that Stormcaster are a pretty bad matchup, because they do the basically the same thing, but better. They play the threat range game better.
Yep.
But there's a lot of strengths. Let's talk about those first. So first strength, biggest strength of this army is they have excellent defensive abilities. And that is paired with high volume shooting. They've got 3 up saves, -1 wound. They've got only get hit on 4s, -2 charge. They have so many defensive tools.
Yeah, I see. If we go into a meta or to a GHB with a lot of middle objectives, I see that this could be the mountain stuff could be very good.
Yeah. So like, their health is low, right? This is a lower health army. It's about as much health as Stormcast armies, but their defenses are very high. So they can pump up their effective health really high. Depict Rune is a very difficult ability to learn, a difficult ability to master, but when you get the grips on it, it offers a lot of strategic flexibility. You do have to plan ahead with this army. You're going to be punished, basically, if you don't plan ahead. And also, your opponent can take advantage of, you declared this rune, that means these options are locked out for you, right? So a canny opponent that understands it can be a problem as well.
I think that for some matches, this is true, but some others, you just go with the flow, and it's not that big of a deal, because as you can pick the same rune, even if you mess up, for say, you can pick the same rune. So I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, but like, if my opponent picks Mountain first turn, I know they're not getting +4 move from the Wind rune next turn, so I can play around that threat range. Whereas if they pick the Strength rune, or if they have Lyrior, at any point they can have +4 move, and I have to account for that.
Yeah, but they could move the spell for 5 move, +1 to charge, or I don't know. It's not that bad. That is what I'm trying to say. It has so much flexibility that I don't think it punishes you that bad for picking the wrong runes. I don't know if I am making any sense with that.
That's fair. We can agree to disagree there. Bladelords are a spammable unit with a 5-up ward and easily Ren 2, Ren 3 with low commitment, and there's no dice rolls required on any of this, so I think that's definitely a strength in the army. Although their max damage is low, the fact that you do have a spammable unit that actually, the more of them you bring, the more efficient they become, because all of them get the same buffs no matter where they are on the battlefield. Really strong unit. Another unit worth shouting out that I didn't put here, Dawnriders are excellent. Very good damage, super high threat range, because they can be 18-inch move into a +1 charge if you need to. Excellent unit all around. Teclis. I think Teclis is a strength. He can blast the entire enemy army with D3 mortal wounds every player turn. So this is like Croak, except instead of focusing his damage on 3 units, he's doing it to every unit. Over 3 turns, you're going to be taking 6 D3 mortal wounds, and you need to have a plan for that. Or 3 rounds, I should say. Because he's going to be casting this in the hero phase, in your hero phase, in his hero phase. all the time. And one of those spells he casts is guaranteed to be on a 12, which fixes one of the core problems with spells is that they are inherently unreliable, while Teclis makes one spell reliable. Or he can nuke your wizard and priest down to nothing. So both of those effects are very good. Light of Eltharion has one of the strongest abilities in the history of the game. The stuff you can do with this ability is insane. The fact that it doesn't require a dice roll is nuts. Absolutely love this ability, and it's one of the highlights of the army. And the last major strength I want to point out is they have some of the fastest units in the game. 18-inch move Wind Spirits that can get +4 move. That's a 22-inch unit, and it can run, shoot, and charge if you really need it to. This is a very fast army. A lot of the units are slow, but even the slowest units can be pumped up with the right enhancements and effects. So it is a fast army.
Yeah, if you need the movement here in this army, you have it. You can get it.
Yeah, on-demand movement. And they didn't have that before because although Speed of Hish was available, it was a spell, and everybody knew that's the spell you counter. And they could only cast it once, and it could only go on one unit. Now they have multiple sources of speed bonuses that can be spammed or require no dice rolls in other cases. Anything else you want to add to the strengths before we talk about weaknesses?
I think that the capacity of the book to shift into different lists, it's a very nice strength because it's gonna make this Battletome competitive for a long time. Because we see that points adjustments move quickly, and we have seen that books that doesn't have many different types of playstyles and stuff get hammered bad by nerfs. So I think that one of the most good strengths about this Battletome is that even if some list starts doing like too good, we can shift into different stuff and it can still be competitive. So that is one of the strongest things about this Battletome.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that kind of strategic flexibility in list building. I think the list building is a big highlight in this book, by the way. This is the most interesting 4th edition has been the entire of it. I haven't had as much fun building lists and trying to figure out the rune system as I have with this book.
Yeah, I agree. With any other book.
All right, let's talk weaknesses. Oh boy, there are a lot of them. First up, the biggest weakness I think is they just have like poor damage. Their melee damage is really poor compared to every other army in the game. They are one of the weaker melee damage armies. They have to combine multiple units working together, and they have to do it in very particular ways. So, and when there's no way to reduce enemy ward rolls, that means you're kind of putting yourself in a situation where you have to overcommit damage. And it's hard to overcommit damage when your damage is low. It's easier to overcommit if you have high damage units. Like, let's say I have a typical Stormcast unit is like max 38 damage on 2s, 3s, rend 1, right? And that's only 200 points. A Lumineth unit will be max 41, let's say, on 3s, 4s, no rend with the Wardens, or rend 1 with the Bladelords and lower damage. So they have to commit more units, which means committing more units into the same space, which means now your opponent can hit more of your units at the same time, right? So it's a matter of resource allocation, and low damage makes you have to take different plays than if you had higher damage. So that's number one, the biggest weakness is their low damage output.
Yep, I agree. And -1 to wound would be rough.
Oh yeah. So when you combine that with their weakness in general, because there's no +1 hit in this army except all out attack. Right? So if you get slapped with -1 hit effects and -1 wound effects, oh man, you're so miserable with Lumineth. It really is the worst feeling. Like shutting off weapon abilities is also brutal against this army. Like if you have any amount of defense in your army, like any kind of things that can mess with your opponent's accuracy, elf damage falls off a cliff. The units are all expensive. Yeah, everything's expensive, and everything is pretty low health. Like Dawnriders are 30 health for reinforce, and that's the best this army gets. And part of that is because their defense bonuses are so strong, right? They're lower health, but their defenses are strong. So the idea is if you carefully manage your resources, it'll be fine. But it's a dice game, right? So that's one part of it. A few bad rolls will just spell the end of a unit. But also your defenses are not, there's downtime. There's going to be flaws in your armor, right? You're not putting up an impenetrable wall across your army. You're buffing up some units at specific times with specific effects. And that gives counterplay options, right? Your opponent, if you have one unit that's buffed to the gills, you just ignore that unit, right? You just go around it or something. Like it's
yeah. Or if you know that they need to start with wind and then move into strength, and you have the capacity, you go turn 1 and hit them before they get the required debuffs, and you cripple them.
Yeah, we've been talking about pushing units out of combat to rally. That works really well with one unit, but what if there's 3 or 4 units that are in combat? Like what if like a really aggressive melee army hits you, and let's say it's fast enough to get through the river thing? That's an issue that you have to be able to deal with, because if you're stuck in combat with your whole army, you're in a really bad spot in Lumineth.
Yep.
Everything's expensive, and there's no way to revive units. So every loss that happens really matters. You need to find ways to make plays without committing any units. The more you commit and the faster you die, the worse things get for you. There's no comeback mechanic in this army whatsoever. Every loss you take is potentially game ending. So you have to be very careful taking your losses when you can. You have to trade up as much as possible.
Yeah, that is what I wish that the Riverblades would have gone lower in points, so you can just use them as cheap screens that teleport, or that we have another unit to sacrifice stuff.
Yeah. Spells are inherently unreliable, and this army relies on them. There's always a miscast chance. Even with plus 10 to cast, you can still fail a spell. There's no guarantees whatsoever. And unfortunately, you're in a situation with this army where you have to rely on the spells, and then they can fail you. Teclis can only cast one spell once on your turn with a 12. Everything else is unreliable.
Yeah, even with a +2 and a reroll, I have had turns in which I have only casted one spell.
Yeah.
Out of 7 wizards with a +2.
Yeah, it's rough, but it happens.
Yeah, and you can just lose because of that.
Yeah. We talked about the Zenith rune giving you a power spike on round 4 or round 3 with Teclis, and that's actually really cool. But because of all the other factors combined with this army, right, waiting till turn 4 means you've lost a lot of your army and it's not coming back. And that might be too late in the game for it to matter, because the power spike isn't that big. It's critting on 5s instead of 6s. So yeah, you'll deal double the norm of criticals, but it's not increasing your max damage output. It's just increasing your accuracy.
And for round 4, you don't have enough units that could benefit from this.
Unless you play really careful, but it's hard to balance that while also keeping up in scoring.
Yeah, exactly. So that is, I don't think that the Zenith rune on round 4 with a deck list, a non-deck list list, it's important, unless you need the cast.
It's something you should consider as an option, because you never know what games are going to turn into, right? Sometimes you know this is an aggressive army and I'm going to deal with it in 2 turns, and then that'll be like, we'll know who's going to win after that. But sometimes you get into the longer drawn out games, like if you're playing against Stormcast or Tzeentch, they're going to play careful. They're going to take, you guys are going to trade back and forth, and sometimes the power spike on 4 with Zenith is what you're going to need.
It could be.
And if you're a savvy player, you could plan ahead that far and think, okay, I know this game could go to round 4 and 5. Let's build for that, right? So yeah, I think you combine all these factors. You're looking at an army that has I don't want to say predictable play style, but it's not totally flexible because it's lacking in, like, there's no reserves. You see everything on the table. You know how far it can go. You can account for all of its movement. You know the damage output is low, so you know they have to commit multiple units in order to do meaningful damage. So if you start picking them apart one unit at a time, like if you're faster, if you're tougher, if you're stronger, Lumineth feel like a jack of all trades army, but master of none. They're like they're not an honest army. Like, I don't want to call them that, but they're like the best version of a standard army that you can get.
Yeah, predictable. So if you see, I will describe like this. If you see the enemy Lumineth that has deployed, you can predict all your strategy against that army.
Yeah, and that's a big problem for this army. That's why I like the deployment phase move so much, right? It breaks that one problem with the army, which is that it's so predictable.
Yeah, and the teleport as well. So, but yes, it's predictable in that regard. Not that the exact path that they're gonna follow, but you know how much are they gonna move, which units are gonna move where. So that is not a good thing.
Yeah. So overall, in terms of power, in terms of design, I think this is like one of the best books they've ever designed. I think this is fantastic. I wish more books were like this. Our rankings, though, are usually based off power. I think this is like a low A tier army, maybe like A- or B+. There's going to be some matchups that are going to be so hard for this army. And I don't know. It's tough for low damage armies to keep up in a power creep meta. And it definitely does feel like we're entering into that second half of an edition where each book is going to be stronger and stronger. And I don't know if Lumineth have the damage to keep up with that. So
yeah, I agree.
I think they're like, they're kind of skirting the line between A tier and B tier, but I'm going to put them on the A tier side of things because I feel like their book is still, for the time being at least, stronger than most books that have come before. Like, they have so many interesting tools, so many cool things that they can do. At least for a little while, they're going to catch people off guard with their tricks, their elf tricks, their filthy elf tricks, and it'll feel like a strong army. But I think it's going to settle around 52 to 53% win rate, something like that.
They will, but only experienced players. So I expect to I don't know, for 100 players that go into the first tournaments, most of them will have a hard time playing the army, and as they don't have enough stuff in the table, I think that they're gonna lose. So I think they're gonna start low, and then they're gonna go a little bit higher. The experienced players will be, as you say, people will be surprised by them at the beginning, and then they are gonna get used to it, and they are gonna be going a little bit down, which will keep the S army around an average win rate.
Yeah, I think they'll be average or above average, like slightly above average.
Yeah, around there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
between the desired range that Games Workshop wants.
Any last thoughts on Lumineth before we wrap it up?
I'm super excited to play it. Just to say it again, I hope that Games Workshops keep following this way of making armies, not giving the army to the guy that it's on training, like the Night Hunt book. Yeah, I think they did a very good job, and I am very excited to play it. Don't hate the elves; they are not that bad.
Always hate elves. It's not a crime against humanity to slaughter elves.
No, it's a crime against elves.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. This Lumineth review has been a ton of work. Thank you, Eduardo, very much for joining me on this journey. It's been a lot of fun. This is one of the most fun Battletomes I've ever read. Like, cracking this open and learning all the nuances has been really satisfying. And now I feel like I'm just going to win every time I play against it because I know everything about it.
Yeah, every trick.
Yeah. But the tricks, man, they're good tricks. I like them. Really fun.
Good, yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, everybody.
It's going to lead into just one quick thought to people. Please be aware that this is a book that can lead to a lot of gotchas. So be sure to keep reminding your opponent what you can do, because there's a lot of combinations of stuffs that can happen that can cripple, really, the opponent. So be a kind elf.
No such thing. Kill all elves. Herb stomp an elf. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hopefully this has been interesting and insightful. Hopefully our takes age well. I can't wait to see how much we got wrong in like 3 months once we start getting proper data for this.
It always happens.
So thank you to all our viewers and especially to our Patreon supporters. If you guys think we missed anything or we're lacking in some way, please feel free to leave a comment down below. We view the podcast as a conversation that we're having with you guys. This isn't just us telling you our objective truth. We want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you guys are thinking. We're trying to add to a discourse here. So feel free to jump in the comments and we'll do our best to answer every comment that we can. And
also I did like a very printable thing for the runes, so you can print them, classify them, and just keep them with you, and it will help you remember all of the runes. It's a summary of the rules.
It's very handy.
Available for the patrons. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So if you want to talk about AOS, you can join the Stormkeep Discord server. We have battle reports. People post their beautiful models. We've got some fantastic painters and hobbyists. We do community contests. I think when this video goes live, we're going to have our March contest running. We'll see. We can't wait to see what that entails. And we do list building for all armies, not just Stormcast, even though we are a Stormcast focused community. AOS is a big enough game that we can have all kinds. So if you want to talk Lumineth lists or Tzeentch or OBR or Sylvaneth or anything else that's coming out, feel free to jump in there and start sharing your lists. And consider
like and subscribe.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yes, I always forget to mention that. This is a YouTube channel, and we do have to whore ourselves out in that way. So if you like the video, press the like button. It helps, I've been told. I don't really understand how, but I've been told it works. And consider supporting the gang by becoming a member on YouTube or joining us on patreon.com/thestormkeep. For $5 a month, you get early access to all our videos. You get access to the slides that we use in these videos in a nice PDF format, and you get the best buyer's remorse on the internet. So from everybody at the Stormkeep, and especially myself and Eduardo, thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.